Imagine the world ending because the only heroes left were three ungrateful dogs who cared more about their egos than saving humanity. I watched it all burn as the last blacksmith standing, but as the waves of ruin swallowed me, the system glitched. I woke up 31 years in the past with a unique skill that turns relationships into legendary weapons. I can literally extract high-tier ores directly from the bonds I form with the people around me. Now, I'm going to find those trash heroes while they are still rookies and forge them into the tools I need to prevent the apocalypse. But to understand how a blacksmith with 0 mana became the Academy's greatest monster, we have to go back to the day of the entrance exam. Our story opens on a world that looks like absolute hell. That's me, Lee Si-hun, and I'm currently sitting in the middle of a literal apocalypse, leaning on my sword while the ruins of a city crumble around me in the snow. And if you're wondering who's responsible for this mess, here's a quick lore drop on the 6 demon gods. These were the overpowered monsters who woke up one day and decided the world just had to go. Their dark, purple flame silhouettes look absolutely menacing. The final boss was the worst of them all, the demon god of the Sea of Ruin. She was a white-haired nightmare, and honestly, seeing her face is enough to understand why humanity never stood a chance. The destruction was total. The so-called Sea of Death she created swallowed every last human outpost. Humanity was on the brink of being deleted from existence, and the visuals of sinking buildings really sold the desperation. You get a close-up on me, and man, have I seen better days. I'm covered in blood, my hair is a mess, and I just sigh out a quiet curse because I've officially reached my limit. I look out over what's left of the world, now just a flooded wasteland of debris, and ask the big question, if we won the war, why does it feel so much like we lost? The Tower of Heroes, the last thing holding Earth together, has finally collapsed. I look down, completely defeated. I know that even with the heroes alive, the world is toast. The waves of the Sea of Ruin just keep crashing over what's left of civilization. It's a cold, purple-tinted shot that shows just how much water is taking over the planet. I stand there with my sword, staring at the horizon with pure disappointment. The demon god might be dead, but this crappy sea she left behind isn't going anywhere. Time to meet the rest of the heroes. First up is Mad Dog, Yeom Song-ha. This guy looked like your typical tank with a red cape and a massive ego, and he's looking pretty banged up. Next is Explosive Dog, Louise Valente, a silver-haired girl with a tech mask. She's already starting the blame game, calling someone out for faking sick during the final battle. And rounding out the trio is Ice Dog, Amir Singh, who looks like a total edgelord with that bandana. He's complaining that someone just wanted a free ride by siding with the Legion. The man they're all yelling at? Yeah, that's me, Lee Si-hun, the last blacksmith. I just stare at them with pure contempt. I have to remind these 3 dogs that they'd all be dead if it wasn't for the gear I crafted for them. Yeom Song-ha is not having it. He gets right in my face and calls me a little piece of crap. The tension is crazy high for a group of people who supposedly just saved the world. Amir Singh finally steps in, telling the others to shut up because they have bigger problems. It's pretty clear these 3 are used to being at each other's throats. We get a flashy intro for Yeom Song-ha, showing him surrounded by fire and destruction. This guy was a total loose cannon who did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. Louise's intro shows her surrounded by blue electrical sparks and explosions. She was just as selfish, only caring about her own gain while the world burned around her. Amir Singh's intro shows off his ice-infused weaponry. He looked cool, but he was just as unreliable as the other 2. These 3 were the absolute worst people to be humanity's last hope. The narration points out that despite their trash personalities, these 3 somehow survived until the very end. We see them in the middle of a massive battle against a dragon-like creature, proving they at least had the skills to back up the attitude. Back in the present, you can see a close-up on my eye, reflecting the grim reality of our situation. I must look completely done with everything and everyone. The 4 of us are scattered in the ruins, with me kneeling in the center. The atmosphere is heavy as someone finally asks the obvious question of whether anyone is going to make it. Yeom Song-ha is the first to go. He slumps against a rock and admits his insides are completely crushed. For a guy called Mad Dog, he's looking pretty quiet now. Louise and Amir aren't doing any better. She's got a hole straight through her heart, and he's bleeding out from a curse. It's a total wipeout. I just close my eyes and sigh while Louise keeps nagging me to the very end, saying I should have helped them sooner. Talk about ungrateful. I look back at them with a look of pure, I told you so. These 3 only ever cared about themselves, and now it's cost them everything. But then, my eyes go wide. I spot something weird happening in the distance, and I can just tell this was not part of the plan. The 3 dogs finally go silent, their bodies lying still in the red-tinted graveyard of the battlefield. It's just me now, the last man standing. I lean on my sword, exhaling a long, tired breath. I mutter that they were high maintenance to the bitter end, and you can really feel my exhaustion. I reach out and grab a hammer, a sign that even at the end of the world, I'm still a blacksmith at heart. I stand up, staring at a broken piece of equipment in my hand with a look of deep regret. I stand alone in the vast sea of ruins, surrounded by floating debris and the crushing weight of failure. I plunge 2 swords into the ground as makeshift tombstones for my fallen comrades. Even though I hated their guts, I'm still giving them a little bit of respect. I look back over my shoulder, my face battered and bloody. I know my time is running out. I face the massive waves head on, asking the empty world if it's finally my turn to go. I'm looking directly at the camera, blood dripping from my mouth as I grip my chest. This is the end of the line for me, the last blacksmith. I clutch my heart as the life starts to drain from my eyes. It's a brutal, close-up shot of my final moments. But then, blue status screens start popping up. A message about extracting a bond from Lee Se-hoon appears as light begins to swirl around me. Another screen shows that my bond level is literally off the charts, marked with a dash. This is some hidden ability stuff right here. A massive, glowing blue crystal starts to materialize right in front of my hands. It's both beautiful and terrifying. I stare at the stone in total shock as the words bond extraction hover above it. I didn't even know I could do this. The system explains my unique skill, blacksmith of bonds. Apparently, I can extract a special ore from people I have a deep connection with. A magic circle glows beneath the skill description, showing a winged figure. This is some high-tier power manifesting way too late. I sit there holding the stone, which the system calls a colorless ore. I'm pissed that I only awaken this power now, when everyone I know is already dead. I tap the crystal, but it's empty. It turns out I have no bonds left with the people who just died. Talk about terrible timing. I raise my hammer high, determined to do one last thing before I die. The waves of the Sea of Ruin finally crash down on me with a deafening roar. It looks like it's all over. I swing my hammer down onto the ore with everything I have left, screaming as the metal clashes. The impact creates a massive pillar of golden light that pierces through the darkness of the sea. I look up through the blood and water, smiling like a madman. I'm happy I had no special abilities until the very end. It was just me and my hammer against the world. I'd rather end it with my own two hands than be swept away by the waves. I grip a shard of the broken ore tightly. The screen goes red with the text proclaiming that I will end it with my own hands. Yeah, you could say I'm metal as hell. I grind my teeth as the water fills my lungs, refusing to let go of my pride, even at the very end. I actually laugh while I'm drowning, calling myself a crazy bastard. I'm going out on my own terms. I sink into the dark depths of the Sea of Ruin, the light fading as I realize something about the sound of the waves. Underwater, I'm drifting away, finally understanding what that constant sound really was. Regret starts to hit me. I wonder what would have changed if I'd realized my power sooner, or if I'd been able to convince those three dogs to be better people. You get a close-up on my eye as it begins to cloud over. I'm dying with the thought that things could have been much, much different. But the system isn't done with me yet. A glitchy message about the imagery of armament manifesting appears on the screen. A glowing blue dagger appears in a digital void. This is definitely not the end. More messages flood in, confirming the manifestation of the weapon. Something big is happening. And then the final message drops. An imagery skill called Return to Origin is being released. It's the classic regression trope, and I am here for it. Suddenly, a peach-haired guy is yelling at someone. The background is bright and warm, a total 180 from the apocalypse I just left. We see a younger version of me, looking totally clean and completely confused. I hear the words entrance exam and my brain just breaks. I look around at the busy blacksmith workshop. It hits me. It's 31 years ago, and I'm back at the Babel entrance exam. This isn't a dream. The regression is real. I remember the image of the dagger I saw right before I died. It's still fresh in my mind. I wonder if that weapon I made with my bond stone actually caused this whole return to origin thing. I'm trying to process the fact that I'm not dead. The instructor gets right in my face, giving Cadet Lee Se-hoon his last warning. This guy has no idea he's talking to the future savior of the world. The instructor threatens to kick me out if I don't take the exam seriously. I just give a calm, "Ah yes," in response. I grip the hammer on the table, realizing this isn't a dream. I actually regressed. I'm standing in a mental void, reflecting on my chance to change everything by realizing my abilities early this time around. I tap the hammer on the anvil, dismissing my worries. I think to myself, that's not what's important right now. I'm standing there in my young body, wearing a blacksmith apron and looking more determined than ever. I think that in that case, there's only one thing to do. You get a close-up on my mouth as it curls into a devious smirk. I've got a plan. I look at the camera with a confident, slightly predatory grin. I'm going to change it all. Oh, the world is not ready for a blacksmith with 31 years of future knowledge. I'm looking absolutely determined, my eyes narrow as I think about my one big goal. I've made up my mind, in this life, I am definitely getting into Babel Academy. You can see the focus as I stand at the forge, hammer in hand. I must already look like a master blacksmith, and I haven't even started the exam yet. Professor Kim In-kyul is watching me from the sidelines, and he looks a bit startled by my presence. I bet he can tell there's something different about me. In-kyul narrows his eyes, clearly intrigued by my movements. You can almost hear him thinking that I have a vibe that definitely doesn't match a typical beginner. A massive clang echoes through the workshop as my hammer hits the anvil. The text says it all. This rhythm is absolutely incredible. The professor is totally mesmerized by my performance. He notes that while my movements seem slow, they're perfectly rhythmic and clear, without a single hint of dissonance. We get a close-up of my hands as I expertly shape the glowing metal. My forging skills are already at a top-tier level even in this young body. The whole workshop has gone quiet as everyone stops to watch the show. I'm just focused on my work in the middle of the room, oblivious to the stares. I wipe the sweat from my brow, but the quality of my work has everyone else panicking. I can hear people looking at the blade and wondering how a student could possibly achieve that level of polish. One of the other students looks like he's about to have a heart attack. He's staring at the sword, completely floored that a freshman just made something that good. Inkyul's face says it all. He's just realized that an absolute monster of a cadet has applied to his department. He's looking at me like he's found a diamond in the rough. I bring the heavy hammer down for one final massive strike. The impact is so heavy, it feels like the whole room is shaking from the power. But wait, what? I'm looking at my work and I'm actually disappointed. I look down at the metal pieces and you can tell I'm definitely not happy with the result. I let out a dark little smirk, muttering that I still have a long way to go. I call my own work trash, which is a total flex considering how much better it is than everyone else's. I stand tall with my hammer, declaring that as a blacksmith, I can never tolerate showing off such low-quality work. My standards are literally through the roof. The assistant instructor, Han, goes absolutely ballistic, screaming at me for breaking my weapon right in front of the professor. He thinks I'm just trolling the exam at this point. Inkyul stays calm while the chaos erupts around him. I just look him dead in the eye and ask for permission to redo the entire assignment from scratch. Assistant Han is losing his mind, pointing a finger and shouting at me to get back in line. He clearly has no idea who he's actually talking to. The whole room is tense as the instructors face off with me. Han is waiting for the professor to kick me out, but Inkyul is just observing. Inkyul shuts Han down immediately, pointing out there's no rule against redoing the work. He even offers to go get the materials himself if Han won't do it. Han is terrified now, stammering out a "no sir" as he sprints off to get more metal. He realizes he's definitely on the wrong side of this argument. Inkyul looks at me with a very serious expression. He's testing my resolve now that the stakes have been raised. The professor reminds me that there are only 40 minutes left on the clock. I just give a simple, confident yes, knowing exactly what I'm doing. Inkyul looks down at the shattered remains of my first sword on the floor. He asks me one last time if I really think breaking that masterpiece was the right choice. I take a second to reflect, looking down with a serious expression. I'm not doubting myself, I'm just gathering my thoughts. I make my final statement. As a master, I simply couldn't bring myself to submit something I wasn't proud of. It's all or nothing for me. I get back into position, my eyes sharp and my focus returning. I'm ready to show them what real speed forging looks like. Inkyul crosses his arms and gives me the green light. He's ready to see if I can actually back up my arrogance with results. Check out my eyes. They're literally glowing with the heat of the forge. I'm activating my mana, and things are about to get intense. I realize my body is at its limit and time is running out. I'm surrounded by flames, pushing my mana as hard as it can go to make the deadline. I probably look like a demon of the forge right now, my hair messy and my expression fierce. I've calculated the best move, and it's something absolutely insane. The other students are watching in confusion, wondering what the hell I'm doing. I'm standing right in front of the open furnace, looking ready to jump in. Han is screaming again, realizing I'm pouring mana directly into the ignition stones. He warns that they're going to explode if they catch fire, but I'm not listening. I'm moving like a blur, grabbing the glowing stones with my bare hands. The sheer speed of my technique has the instructors completely frozen in shock. The murmurs from the other students are getting louder, with everyone calling me a crazy bastard. They really think I'm about to blow myself up. A massive, multicolored explosion of mana rocks the entire workshop. It looks like a rainbow of fire is erupting from my station. Han is panicking, calling for a fire extinguisher as the flames roar. He's convinced that I just caused a major accident. Inkyul calmly puts a hand on Han's shoulder and tells him to leave it. He's lecturing the assistant, telling him he expects this kind of panic from the students, but not from him. The professor tells Han to look closer at the flow of the flames. He's realized that this isn't an accident, it's a high-level technique. Behold the five-colored fire demon. I'm standing in the middle of a pillar of brilliant, swirling flames that would melt any normal smith. I give a devious little smirk as the heat intensifies. I've used 5 different types of ignition stones to create a high-temperature resonance that boosts my forging power. I'm working inside the inferno, my silhouette barely visible through the light. This is a brilliant technique for someone with low mana, but it requires insane precision. The workshop is in a stunned silence as the flames settle. The students are baffled that there wasn't a massive explosion, realizing they just witnessed a miracle. Look at that ingot. It's changed color completely under the heat. I'm using tongs to hold the glowing, rainbow-tinted metal. Inkyul is looking at the result with pure respect. He's figured out my plan, use the resonance to alter the ingot's properties and make it more malleable. The professor notes that this will save a huge amount of time, but there are still only 30 minutes left. He's wondering if my hands can move fast enough to finish. The hammering starts again, and it's faster than anything they've ever seen. Every strike is perfect, sending a spray of sparks across the room. I'm swinging that hammer with everything I have left. Inkyul is still skeptical, thinking that even with all my skill, the time limit might be too much for a human to overcome. The intensity on my face is crazy. I must look like I'm in another world entirely. I'm not just forging a sword, I'm forging a statement. I give a small, confident smile as the metal starts to take its final shape. I can feel the victory in the metal. I hold the glowing blade in the rainbow fire, my hand steady despite the heat. I'm making sure the mana is perfectly distributed before the final quenching. The sword glows with an ethereal light as I pull it from the furnace. It looks like I'm holding a piece of a fallen star. We get a close-up on my focus profile. I'm pouring every last drop of my concentration into these final seconds. A final, thunderous strike on the anvil. Blue and white light explodes from the impact as the sword is finished. I feel like I'm about to collapse, my breath coming in heavy gasps. I've pushed this young body past its breaking point. I grip my teeth, realizing my mana has finally run dry and my protection is worn off. I'm feeling the full heat of the forge now. Look at my hand. It's bleeding and raw from the effort of gripping that hammer. I literally poured my blood into this weapon. Even with a bloody hand, I won't stop until it's done. I'm a man possessed, refusing to waste even a single second. One more massive strike as I push myself to the absolute limit. The sparks are flying everywhere in a beautiful, chaotic spray of light. I slump over, sweat dripping off my face. It's over. I've given everything I have to that blade. 3 minutes left. I'm frantically working on the final sharpening. My hands a blur as the countdown continues. 1 minute. I'm laser focused on the edge, checking for even the tiniest flaw as the clock ticks down to 0. The order finally comes for everyone to stop, and I freeze mid-motion. The exam is officially over. I let out a long, shaky breath, the steam rising from my body. I must look like I've been through a war. My hand is trembling uncontrollably, the blood still dripping from my palm. I push myself so hard my body is literally breaking down. But then, the system pings, announcing that the armament, 5-colored fireblades, has been completed, and I even unlocked the Artisan of Flame skill. Check out the appraisal result. The blade is ranked as high grade. For a freshman's entrance exam project, that is absolutely unheard of. We get a full look at the stats of my 5-colored fireblade. Its heroic quality, which is basically an I win button for a student. The other students are staring at my blade, their jaws on the floor. I just stand there looking confused, like I'm wondering why everyone is so shocked. I casually suggest that they check the information window for more details if they're so curious. I'm being a total boss about my legendary craft. The student who was shouting earlier is now screaming that I pass in pure terror. A cartoon version of Inkyul has to tell him to be quiet. Inkyul mutters for the brat to be quiet as the student apologizes. The professor is trying to keep his cool, even though he's just as stunned as everyone else. We move to Professor Kim Inkyul's private office. The atmosphere is much calmer here, but the tension is still high. Inkyul looks me in the eye and asks the big question, was that sword really worth submitting? He's testing my pride as a blacksmith. I stand there, looking sharp and professional. I'm not intimidated by the professor at all. I reply that for now, yes. I'm basically saying it's good for a student, but I know I can do better. Inkyul sighs, noting that I still look unsatisfied. He can see the same perfectionism in me that drove me to break my first sword. The professor gets real with me, saying that Babel Academy won't be enough for my talent. He actually suggests that I should withdraw my application. Inkyul admits that while Babel has a huge reputation, the refining department has 0 noteworthy results. He's trying to save me from wasting my potential. I just listen with a blank face, thinking to myself that I already know all this. I'm from the future, so I'm 1 step ahead. I remember a bit about the future. The refining department is destined to be abolished in 8 years because of its low standards. The narration explains that in my original timeline, the Vulcan Academy becomes the place that trains the world's best blacksmiths. I give a devious little smirk, my eyes glowing. I've already decided that it won't be Vulcan. I stand tall, declaring that Babel will be the best because I'm the one entering it. I'm about to rewrite history with my own 2 hands. We get a stunning wide shot of the Babel Academy architecture, bathed in the orange glow of a sunset. My voiceover kicks things off with a bold claim, as I straight up tell my professor that he's wrong. I'm looking sharp and intense in my workshop gear, pointing a finger to emphasize my point. I declare that Vulcan Academy won't be the best. It's going to be Babel, the place I'm about to enter. The camera zooms in on my eye, capturing that look of absolute determination from a man who has already seen the end of the world. I'm not just talking big, I've got the experience to back it up. Professor Kim Inkyul looks back at me, looking like a seasoned veteran with that goatee and those sharp eyes. You can tell he's intrigued by my sudden burst of confidence. The 2 of us sit across from each other in a dimly lit office, the tension thick enough to cut with a dull blade. Inkyul challenges me, saying I'll need to be top of the class, but I just shrug it off, claiming no student will ever be better than me. Inkyul leans back, crossing his arms and looking skeptical. He asks me if I even know how the selection process for the top freshmen at Babel actually works. I break it down like a pro. The top 2 students from every single department face off an additional exam to find the ultimate candidate. It's a brutal best of the best situation, and I look totally unfazed. We get a cool infographic showing how Babel Academy is split into 3 main faculties. It's got that classic high fantasy aesthetic with gold trim and ornate shields. First up is the combat faculty, Aka's Quith, followed by the support faculty, UR. Each one has its own prestigious-looking emblem, making it clear this school is for elites only. The graphics zoom in a bit more, showing the cross swords for the combat side and the regal bird for support. These guys are the heavy hitters of the academy. Finally, we see the technical faculty, Borsepa, represented by a stag's head. This is my territory, and usually, these guys aren't expected to be the top dogs. The narration explains that dozens of departments are intertwined like roots within these faculties. We see a collage of cadets in different gear, showing off the massive scale of the student body. A text box looms over a golden, celestial-looking backdrop. Being the top of a faculty isn't just a title. It carries a massive weight of expectation and power. We see a grand figure in white robes holding a staff, looking like the pinnacle of student achievement. This is the level of talent Babel recognizes. Someone who has received the highest evaluation across countless departments. The focus shifts to the top-tier talent label, framed in gold. This person is basically a celebrity across the entire academy, recognized by everyone. Back in the office, Inkyol clenches his fist with a loud crack of his knuckles. He's clearly frustrated by my stubbornness and wants to give me some cold, hard truth. Inkyol's face hardens as he drops the Professor Act. He's speaking now as a senior blacksmith, someone who knows just how cruel the industry can be. He tells me point blank that even if I become the top of the faculty, finding success as a blacksmith at Babel will be nearly impossible. He practically begs me to go to Vulcan Academy instead. Inkyol stands his ground, insisting that Vulcan is the best path for my future. It's actually a pretty wholesome moment for a guy who looks that grumpy. I look at him with a small, knowing smile, realizing the professor is actually putting his student's future before his own reputation. I think to myself that the guy is pretty decent. We get a close-up on Inkyol's serious eyes as he tries to gauge my reaction. He's genuinely worried that my talent is going to be wasted in the wrong place. I just throw my head back and laugh, looking incredibly cocky with my bandaged hands gesturing wildly. I repeat that Babel is going to become the best because of me. Inkyol is left smirking, looking at me like I'm a bit of a lunatic. He admits that those words are beyond cocky and cross right into arrogance. We see a close-up of Inkyol's scarred, working man's hand resting on the table. He admits that for some reason, despite the attitude, he doesn't hate my confidence. Inkyol reaches out his hand for a formal handshake, basically accepting my decision. He's ready to see if this kid can actually walk the walk. The two of us lock hands in a firm grip. My bandaged hand against Inkyol's weathered skin is a great visual for the passing of the torch. I give a cheeky grin, but then the system suddenly pings. A blue window pops up, announcing that a connection has been established with Kim Inkyol. The system window goes into more detail, showing the connection level with the blacksmith is at level 1. It's official, the bond has been formed. Suddenly, my eyes glow a fierce blue as the system begins extracting affinity from Kim Inkyol. This is where my unique power really kicks in. Energy starts swirling around our hands as a physical object begins to manifest out of thin air. It's like I'm pulling a physical piece of our relationship into reality. A chunk of glowing, brown and orange mineral appears in my palm. The system labels it as Affinity Fire, Infused Iron, and it's already ranked as high quality. The system explains that this metal contains flames and possesses wood-like properties. It's basically a magical battery for fire, which is a massive win for a blacksmith. We jump to a quiet, nighttime shot of a city alleyway, showing my neighborhood. It's a peaceful contrast to the high-stakes academy drama we just saw. I'm back in my room, sitting on my bed and staring at the ore in my hand. I'm looking at my character sheet, probably realizing just how much work I have ahead of me. I hold the fire-infused iron up to the light, looking a bit disappointed by the small size. I'm already thinking about how to get more of this stuff. I'm reflecting on my affinity extraction skill, which literally quantifies my relationships to pull out minerals that never existed before. It's an overpowered ability, but it depends entirely on how I treat people. The problem, as I note to myself, is that my connection levels are still too low to produce anything truly legendary. I need deeper bonds if I want the top-tier gear. I pull up my personal stats, and man, they are looking rough. I call them absolutely disastrous compared to other Babel freshmen, which is a huge reality check. I stretch out with a long sigh, trying to stay positive despite my low stats. I figure being back in the past is a small price to pay for having to start over from zero. I get a serious look in my eyes, telling myself not to get impatient. I've lived through an apocalypse. I know how to play the long game. I think about the future enemies I have to crush, those bastards from Pandemonium. I've got plenty of time to prepare for the war that's coming. A dark, red-tinted flashback shows a solar eclipse hanging over a destroyed city. This is the reason the 6th grade demon gods wiped out humanity in my original timeline. we see a massive, horned demon standing over a pile of corpses. The narration reminds us that the total destruction of the world was all part of their master plan. I know I can't be picky about my methods if I want to stop them this time. I decide my next priority should be finding a memory-related tool or skill to keep my future knowledge sharp. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, satisfied that the first step, entering Babel Academy, is finally settled. I'm officially in the game now. I start thinking about what comes next, but then realize something unexpected is happening with the system. My eye twitches as the screen starts to glitch out and glow. Whatever this is, it's a big deal. The system announces that my connection level has already reached level 1, which is apparently enough to trigger a major upgrade. A huge blue notification fills the screen. A new skill has been added. Looks like I just got a brand new tool for my arsenal. Fast forward 1 week later, and we're looking at the massive Gothic towers of Babel Academy. It's exam day, and the stakes couldn't be higher. I'm wandering the halls, looking totally lost and scratching my head in frustration. Even with future knowledge, navigating a giant academy is apparently a nightmare. I'm walking past sleek, modern corridors, looking more like a confused tourist than a legendary blacksmith. I really need to find my testing room before I'm disqualified. Finally, I spot the sign for Refining Room 3 and let out a sigh of relief. I've made it just in time. I push the door open, but someone is already waiting for me. A voice calls out my name, and I can tell this isn't going to be a friendly welcome. The room is massive and filled with equipment, but the atmosphere is ice cold. I'm standing before a panel of examiners who look like they've already decided to fail me. A hand taps rhythmically on the desk, a clear sign of annoyance. The voice tells me that I certainly seem relaxed for someone who's late to an exam. Meet Michael Warmut, the Vice Dean of Borsippa. This guy looks like the ultimate corporate villain, slicked back hair, expensive suit, and a look of pure disdain for anyone below him. An older, more rugged-looking man with gray hair speaks up in my defense. He points out to the Vice Dean that there are still 10 minutes left before the exam actually starts. The two superiors stare each other down across the room. Michael isn't backing down, claiming it's not about the time, but about my attitude. I take in the scene, realizing that the refining department isn't just struggling, they're also at war with the academy's higher-ups. This place is a political minefield. I look over at a blonde cadet who's already there, looking incredibly smug. I realize why Professor Inkale recommended a different school. This place is toxic. The blonde cadet glares at me, his expression full of silent arrogance. This guy clearly thinks he's the main character of the story. We get a close-up of the blonde guy's intense blue eyes. He's basically trying to intimidate me with a stare down, but it's not working. The blonde guy turns his head away with a huff, acting like I'm not even worth his time. Talk about a massive ego. He dismissively mumbles that it's nice to meet me and walks past, while I just stand there with a confused look. I've lived through a war. This high school drama is just weird to me. You can probably see the look on my face. I'm just completely baffled. This brat is still wet behind the ears, and I'm supposed to take him seriously? I'm so tired of being treated like a kid. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoes through the room. We see the silhouette of a woman walking in, and the atmosphere shifts instantly. Me and the blonde cadet both turn our heads, our expressions shifting to pure shock. Someone very important has just entered the room. The Vice Dean looks up from his desk, his arrogant expression completely vanishing. He utters, "That person is here," like he's seeing a ghost. My eyes go wide, my mouth slightly open in disbelief. I definitely wasn't expecting to see this person here. We get a low-angle shot looking up at the newcomer. The framing is dramatic, making them look absolutely powerful and imposing. It's Ryu Unha, the Dean of Babel's Borsippa faculty. She sits down with her legs crossed, looking like an absolute queen with her long red hair and sharp business suit. I have a total mental breakdown, the art style going full cartoonish as I clutch my head in shock. I can't believe the Dean herself is showing up for a freshman's additional exam. I'm standing there looking absolutely floored, thinking about how Ryu Una used to work at Babel. I'm trying to connect the dots, but the gears in my head are definitely smoking right now. The camera pans to Ryu Unha, sitting on her literal throne, looking like the ultimate boss in her professional gear. I can't believe I never expected her to be the dean of this entire faculty. We get a legendary info card for Ryu Unha, the S-rank hero known as the Weapon Eater. She's shown in the middle of a blazing inferno, reaching out like she's about to delete someone from existence. The narration explains her unique skill. She amplifies her power by literally devouring weapons. Back before my regression, she was a regular at my shop, and our history goes way deeper than anyone knows. Time for a grim flashback. In a dark, rainy alleyway, we see a wounded figure slumped against a wall, their labored breathing echoing through the silence. In the future, Ryu Unha looks up through her damp hair, her eyes filled with a deep, crushing regret. She mutters about how she regrets eating, and you can tell she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. In that memory, I'm standing over her in the pouring rain, looking every bit the battle-hardened veteran. I'm towering above her, a silent observer to her moment of weakness. Ryu Unha is completely broken, staring at the ground as the rain washes over her. The vibe is super melancholic, showing a side of the Weapon Eater that the public never sees. I look down at her with a mix of pity and determination. I've seen her at her lowest, which makes her current position as dean even more of a shock. The wide shot shows us in the middle of a desolate, ruined city. It's a powerful image of two survivors clinging to what's left of our world. Suddenly, the rainy memory starts to fade, and I can see my own face as I'm yanked back to the present. Someone is calling my name, and the transition back to the bright office is jarring. A shout of my name finally snaps me out of my trance. I blink, realizing I was staring into space while important people were talking to me. I quickly compose myself, giving a professional acknowledgement. I'm back in the moment, but that flashback is still fresh in my mind. The examiner stands between me and the other cadet, ready to get the show on the road. He tells us to pay close attention because he's about to drop the rules for the exam. He lays it out. We have exactly 90 minutes to finish. It's a tight deadline for a high-stakes test, and you can see the pressure starting to build. Hans Barmut, my blonde rival, looks totally unbothered, like he's already won. The examiner tells us that during these 90 minutes, we're going to be pushed to our limits. The examiner raises a fist, and suddenly it's wreathed in roaring orange flames. This guy isn't just an admin, he's got some serious firepower. He conjures a fireball in his palm, declaring that for this specific exam, we have to use alchemical smelting only. No hammers, no anvils, just pure mana and skill. He gestures over to a massive pile of materials in the corner. He's giving us access to some top-shelf ores, and the selection is honestly impressive. The workshop area is fully stocked with barrels of different ores and stones. The examiner tells us we're free to use whatever we want from the stash. Vice Dean Michael Barmut and Dean Ryu Unha sit at the judges' table, looking incredibly intimidating. Michael warns us to produce a result they won't be ashamed of, and I can feel the blonde kid's ego growing. The examiner throws his arm out, signaling the start of the challenge. The energy in the room shifts instantly from talk to action. With a shout to begin the exam, the giant text bubble says it all. Me and Hans are locked in, and the Battle of the Blacksmiths is officially underway. I tie my apron with a determined look, thinking about the alchemical smelting. I'm already running through my future knowledge to see how I can break this test. Hans starts his trash talk immediately, lecturing me about using pure mana to avoid a mana berserk state. He mocks me for just staring at the materials, asking if that's supposed to help. I look over at him with an expression of pure confusion. I've lived through an apocalypse, and this kid's posturing is just funny to me. I clap back with a savage comeback, asked me if he was talking to me, and if there was anyone else there. The level of disrespect is legendary. The Vice Dean has to step in and tell Hans to shut up and focus on the exam. He's clearly annoyed that his son is making a scene instead of working. Hans shuts his mouth, looking like a scolded puppy. I just watched the interaction, probably enjoying the show way too much. Hans bows his head, muttering that he'll keep it in mind. My brain is finally putting the pieces together as I recognize the name Hans Barmut. It hits me. Michael Barmut and Hans Barmut look identical. No wonder they look so similar, I'm thinking to myself, fuming in the background. Hans gets back to his smug self, noticing my realization. He's practically preening himself under the attention. He confirms it with a smirk. He's the son of the Vice Dean. He's leaning hard into his nepotism baby energy right now. Hans starts listing why he's better. He claims I'm just a commoner who ranked last in everything from family background to mana capacity. He's trying to crush my spirit before we even start. He continues his villain monologue, bragging about his prestigious family and his mana levels being on par with second-year students. This kid really loves the sound of his own voice. Hans reaches into a bin and pulls out some glowing blue mana stones. He's acting like the result of this exam is already decided. He holds the blue ore up like a trophy, declaring that the outcome is already set in stone. He's so confident it's almost painful to watch. The examiner identifies the materials as lazulite and Henam jade. These are high mana stones imbued with water attribute mana, which is a bold choice. He explains that water attribute mana is super sensitive to fire, making them incredibly tricky to smelt. It's a high difficulty move that shows off Hans's supposed talent. Michael Barmut scoffs, saying that old-school thinking is a thing of the past. He's bragging that modern alchemical smelting methods have made those tricky materials a piece of cake. The examiner thinks to himself that while smelting can happen anywhere, the time it takes depends entirely on the caster. For a situation like this, he's estimating it'll take about 30 minutes. We get a close-up on Michael's smug face as he watches the exam unfold. He clearly thinks he's rigged this perfectly for his son to shine. Hans starts his work, and blue lightning starts crackling around him as he begins resonance synthesis. He's moving fast, way faster than anyone expected. The examiner is genuinely shocked, thinking that a 30-minute synthesis is a level not even second-year students can reach. He's starting to realize just how much talent Hans actually has. He quickly puts two and two together. The tight time limit, the specific materials provided, it's all a setup. The entire exam was custom-built to favor Hans's specialty. The examiner is furious internally, calling Michael a sly old snake. They basically handed the win to Hans before the test even started. Ryu Unha is watching intently, her eyes narrowing as she thinks this should do it. She's not missing a single detail of what's going on. I finally make my move, picking out a clear white rock and some weird red stones. The examiner is taken aback, recognizing them immediately. Everyone is staring as I pick up Hydrate and Huang Stone. It's a bizarre combination that has the judges murmuring. Michael lets out a condescending laugh, identifying them as the fire attribute versions of Hans's materials. He thinks I'm just being stubborn and prideful, trying to match Hans's difficulty level. Hans glances over at me, his eyes narrowing. He's trying to figure out what my angle is. Hans wonders if I chose contrasting ores on purpose just to challenge him. He's starting to feel a bit defensive despite his lead. He dismisses it as a stupid fool's move, while my ores start to glow with an intense, warm light. The real work is about to begin. Hans smirks, thinking he's going to win even more easily than he thought. He believes I just committed career suicide by choosing those materials. You get a close-up on my eye as a spark of fire ignites within it. I'm not just working, I'm activating my system. A glitchy blue system screen flashes, announcing that the skill Affinity Engraving has been activated. This is where the regression knowledge really shows its worth. I'm surrounded by a whirlwind of fire. The system confirms that Affinity Engraving Huaham is active, allowing me to use specific affinity stones for my body. The system pings, announcing it is equipping Huaham Iron to my right arm. My entire right hand starts to glow and steam with raw power. I must look like a total demon, with my arm literally on fire. The sheer power on display shows that this is a level no freshman should have. Hans is losing his mind, screaming that I'm using useless cheap tricks. He's clearly rattled by how cool I look right now. You get a close-up of my flaming hand as the fire starts to swirl into a perfect vortex. The control I have is absolutely insane. I hold the glowing stones between my palms, a halo of fire surrounding my hands. I'm literally becoming the forge. The ores start to hover and glow bright red as the heat intensifies. They're starting to melt and fuse together in a way that defies all normal logic. I give a small, confident smile as the firelight reflects in my eyes. I've got this exactly where I want it. The wide shot shows the room split between blue energy and orange fire. It's a literal battle of elements happening right in the middle of an exam. Michael Barmut looks on with disdain, calling me foolish. He thinks it's basic knowledge that you can't force elemental minerals like that without disaster. In Michael's head, he sees a vision of the fire going berserk and exploding. He's waiting for the inevitable boom that will disqualify me. He's got a nasty little smirk on his face, practically counting down the seconds until I fail in a spectacular fireball. He's thinking that the stupid idiot will eventually cause an accident, but before he can finish the thought, a massive explosion of fire and light rocks the room. A pillar of brilliant blue and orange energy shoots up into the air. The power being released is way more than any simple smelting should produce. Hans is blown back by the sheer force of it, sweat dripping down his face. He gasps about the firepower, finally realizing he might be in trouble. In the center of the fading fire, a glowing object begins to take shape. It's radiant, pulsing with power, and looks way better than anything Hans is making. I let out a long, satisfied exhale. The system notifies me that the Huahap iron has been unequipped now that the job is done. Another screen pops up, confirming the unequip. My arm is back to normal, but the heat in the room is still lingering. I stand tall, holding a beautiful finished product. The system congratulates me, announcing that the weapon has been completed. The judges look like they've seen a ghost. Michael's jaw is on the floor, and Hans looks like he's about to cry. They simply cannot believe what they just saw. You get a high-def shot of the weapon, a gorgeous black katana, with a red hilt and glowing red runes along the sheath. It's a masterpiece. The prompt asks if I succeeded. Oh, I more than succeeded. The system pulls up the stats for HWAGH Keicho. It's a rare rank sheath that amplifies fire attribute mana, and even allows the user to use a skill called Wildfire. This is crazy good for a freshman project. Hans is panicking, screaming about how I succeeded so fast. He can't wrap his head around the fact that someone just outclassed him. He's desperate, insisting it's impossible because elemental mana should always go berserk if forced. He's losing his composure completely. He tries to force his own synthesis, his hands glowing with unstable blue lightning. He mutters about being mistaken, his eyes wide with fear. You get a close-up on Hans's eye, blown wide with absolute terror. He knows he's lost control, and it's about to go very, very wrong. The examiner screams for him to wait and stop as he realizes Hans is about to blow himself up. But it's too late, the mana stone is already overloaded. Blue lightning and mana explode from Hans's hands in a violent, jagged burst. The kid literally bit off more than he could chew, and now he's paying for it. The blue energy consumes Hans's vision, his eye reflecting the brilliant light of the disaster he just created. It's a split second before the main blast. A massive blue explosion rips through the workshop, sending debris and mana flying everywhere. Looks like the Barmut family ego just blew up in their faces. Back at the exam hall, the sun is starting to set, casting a long shadow over the Gothic architecture. The vibe is heavy after that literal explosion we just saw. Fragments of blue mana stones are scattered across the floor like broken glass. This is all that's left of Hans's big masterpiece. Hans is staring at the debris, looking like his entire life just flashed before his eyes. The rugged professor notes that under normal circumstances, there'd be a clear winner. I'm just standing there with a blank expression, letting the silence do the talking. I know I won, but I'm not celebrating yet. Professor Kim is rubbing the back of his head, looking totally stressed. He's trying to figure out how to even score this mess. We get a close-up on the professor's eye. He's seen a lot, but he's never seen a freshman do what I just did. Hans is slumped over, looking absolutely pathetic as someone notes what a pity it is to lose by default. Yeah, talk about a major L. We get a close-up of Hans's trembling hand. He's trying to hold it together, but the shame is eating him alive. Vice Dean Michael Barmut has this nasty little smirk. I just know he's about to say something scummy to save his son's reputation. Michael already has a plan. Since a student was injured, they should just void the whole exam and do a retest later. Talk about moving the goalposts. Professor Kim isn't having any of it. He points out that Hans's own carelessness caused the accident, and they can't just overturn a finished test. Michael turns it back on him, basically calling him a heartless jerk for valuing results over student safety. Classic manipulation. Michael brings up the stats. The fastest resonance speed on record is 5 minutes. He's saying my feat is basically impossible. He starts pacing, yelling about how no freshman should be able to achieve resonance the second they activate mana. He's practically calling me a cheat. He gestures wildly at the wreckage, declaring it absurd to achieve resonance the moment they activate mana. I just stand there unfazed. The narration drops some lore. Alchemy forging was actually born for situations where normal forging is impossible. We get a cool visual of a sword being imbued with life. True alchemy forging isn't about killing the ore, it's about filling it with the smith's soul. Hans is shown with his mana stone. He tried to force it, missing the entire point of the technique. I think to myself that the smithing world will eventually catch up to my new standard after enough trials and errors. I'm literally the benchmark now. Michael keeps barking threats, but I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Total ice-cold burn. Michael is losing it, grinning like a cartoon villain. He accuses me of using a dirty trick, really grasping at straws now. He points at my sword, claiming a commoner with no family creating a rare-grade weapon is an unbelievable lie. I give him a look of confusion. This dude is really trying to gaslight the whole room. The screen focuses on my masterpiece, Huajiaoqiu. It's so obviously a high-tier weapon, it's not even funny. Michael is still pushing for a disqualification, saying it's absurd and they should just kick me out and restart. He's desperate. Suddenly, Ryu Unha stands up. The room goes dead silent as she starts walking toward the table. She approaches the weapon, looking completely serious. Even Michael looks a bit nervous now. She picks up the sword. The tension is crazy. What is the weapon eater going to think of my freshman blade? She looks at it and mutters that it's unbelievable. Her eyes are wide, and she's looking at it like it's a gourmet meal. Wait, is she drooling? We get a close-up on her mouth, and she's actually salivating over the quality of this thing. She points right at me and begs for just one bite. She's completely lost it. She negotiates with herself, saying maybe she'll just lick it once. She's having a total fangirl moment for a sword. Michael and Kim are just standing there with confused expressions. They've never seen her act like this before. Time for a chibi scene. Yunaha is growling and being weird with the sword while the two old guys look on in pure confusion. They're all just kind of standing there in an awkward silence. Even I look a bit weirded out. Later that afternoon, downtown. The sky is a beautiful pink and orange as the workday ends. I'm walking home, looking cool in my casual gear. I'm deep in thought about today's events. I think the completion of the weapon wasn't bad, but the fine-tuning was still a bit immature. This young body is still getting used to my old skills. I start thinking back to Hans Barmut. I chuckle, thinking about Michael Barmut's face and how it was quite a sight. But then I pause, coming to think of it, Barmut? I repeat the name, scratching my head. I think to myself that the name sounds familiar. Flashback time. Louise Vallant is complaining about her weapon, the one she bought dirt cheap at Babel. We get a close-up on her traumatized face as she remembers it exploding, saying, if it weren't for that bastard. In the future, I was just listening then. But now, I'm putting the pieces together. I remember the name Louise mentioned. Realization hits me like a truck. The blacksmith who gave Mad Dog Louise lifelong trauma was a Barmut. My eyes widen as I wonder if Hans Barmut was that blacksmith. The plot thickens. I remember my goal was to turn over a new leaf for those 3 dogs. I give a devious little smirk, thinking I won't need to do that for the Mad Dog. If I keep Hans in check, I can save Louise from her future trauma. 2 birds, 1 stone. We jump to the Borsippa faculty meeting room. Big decisions are being made. Ryu Unha's voice booms as she asks if they want Lee Se-hoon to be the top student of the Borsippa department. The other professors are all questioning if she's serious, saying that's a bit much. They're not ready for this. Yunha is sitting there with her hands crossed, looking absolutely terrifying. She asks if they are opposing it. One professor stammers, saying it's more like advice than opposition. Yeah, okay buddy, you're scared. Michael Barmut is back in his suit, trying to sound smart. He tells the dean she hasn't been in office long. He's really trying to pull rank. Yunha just gives him a cold, silent stare. She is not playing games. The other professors are whispering. They acknowledge the weapon was cool, but they want to review it more carefully. Typical bureaucracy. Professor Kim steps up, explaining that they haven't even seen me use the special fire red herb mana yet. He's defending the craftsmanship despite the technical flaws. Unha stands up, telling them the weapon was barely 60% of what I intended. She explains that very imperfection is what makes it promising. She looks them dead in the eye, saying that she's looking fierce. If even after watching my demonstration, if you all still can't accept my decision, she drops the final ultimatum. She will step down from her position as department head. Talk about a mic drop. The room is stunned. Let's get a look at the history of this world. 54 years ago, the Tower of Heroes was dropped on humanity as a gift from the heavens to force our evolution. But of course, every gift has a price. The underworld answered back by unleashing the Swamp of Pandemonium, a disaster that started corrupting all life on the planet. That's where Babel Academy comes in. It was built right in the middle of all that chaos to churn out heroes, and seeing the scale of this stadium really puts into perspective how important this place is. And here's the big man himself, the Emperor of Ascension, Ludwig Schubert. He's looking all regal with that white hair and cape, telling the new recruits that they're all destined to become heroes. The students are just soaking it in, looking super professional in their uniforms. Schubert tells them to march forward because being a hero is the burden they accepted when they entered Babel. You can see me from behind, staring up at the stage. The lighting is dramatic as hell, making it clear that the hero's duty speech isn't just for show. We got a close-up on the Emperor. He looks like your typical wise but overpowered mentor figure, and he's really selling the dream to these kids. I'm just standing there thinking he looks decent, I guess, but I've lived through enough to know that appearances can be deceiving. I'm not buying the hype. The announcer steps up with a mic, looking way too excited. He tells everyone that next up, they're going to see a demonstration from this year's top incoming cadets. The 3 top cadets walk out onto the stage, and you can already feel the tension. They're the top of the faculty, which basically means they have targets on their backs. I'm deep in thought, remembering how in my past life, people acted like gods just because they did well in school. I'm definitely not planning on being one of those arrogant jerks. The 3 of us line up on the field, me, a blonde guy, and a girl with long black hair. The announcer screams for the demonstrations to begin, and the crowd is ready for some action. I take a breath, looking at the stadium. I'm starting to realize what I've gotten myself into, and the pressure is finally starting to sink in. The announcer reveals the target for the demo, and it's a big one. He's hyping up the object like it's the main event of a boxing match. It's an automaton. Check out that sleek design and the glowing red visor. This thing looks like it means business. This is a Model M, a top-tier golem from the Marionette Factory. Apparently this thing is tough enough to spar with a B-rank hero, so these kids are definitely being tested. My eyes are narrowing as I scan the robot. I correctly identify it as a brawler-type combat model because it's not carrying any weapons. The announcer points a finger and calls out the first fighter, the combat faculty. It's time to see what these elites can actually do. Meet Jake Myers, the top cadet of a Kalkuf. He's got that classic, I'm better than you, blonde hair and a smirk that just begs to be punched. The camera zooms out as Jake and the automaton square off in the middle of the massive arena. It's a total David versus Goliath setup. I'm watching from the side, dropping some lore on myself. Jake is the 3rd son of the Myers family, a legendary group of swordsmen, but for some reason, he decided to be a martial artist instead. Jake gets into a boxing stance, looking totally confident. He tells the machine to let the sparring begin, like he's doing it a favor. The automaton's visor flashes bright red as it locks onto its target. Sparring mode is officially active. The announcer screams for them to begin and fight, and you know things are about to get messy. The automaton wastes no time, charging forward with a heavy metallic dash. It's surprisingly fast for its size. Jake is even faster. He flips through the air, dodging a massive strike from the machine with total ease. This kid's got some serious moves. He lands perfectly and immediately zips back in for a counterattack. The speedlines here are crazy. He's basically a blur. Jake starts raining down a flurry of strikes on the robot. He's hitting it from every angle, showing off that martial arts training he was talking about. He slides across the floor in a low stance, looking like a total pro. He's completely controlling the flow of this fight. We get a close-up on Jake's face, and man, that grin is terrifying. He calls out, "My turn," like he's about to end this thing's entire career. Jake leaps into the air and brings down a massive strike. The impact is so hard, it literally cracks the stone floor beneath them. He's not letting up, throwing another heavy punch into the machine. He's putting all his mana into these hits now. A direct hit to the chest. You can actually see the metal of the automaton bending and sparking under the force of his fist. The students in the stands are absolutely losing it. The sheer force of the shockwave is kicking up dust and debris all the way to the spectators. Look at that impact. His fist is practically buried in the robot's torso. That's not just a punch, that's a statement. I'm watching with a serious expression. I remember Jake from my past life and note that he was an A-rank talent who died young. Talk about a fun fact that makes this scene way darker. A massive blast of energy erupts from the hit. The narrator mentions that this kind of talent only shows up once every 10 years, even at a place like Babel. I'm thinking about the past again, wondering why a guy this talented only ever reached A rank. I'm definitely suspicious about what happened to Jake in the original timeline. Jake stands over the wreckage, looking like he just finished a light workout. He's definitely enjoying the attention. The announcer is screaming that it's over, and the crowd is going ballistic. The automaton is just a pile of scrap metal now. We see 2 black impact rings in the air, showing where Jake delivered the final, crushing blows. The head of the automaton lies on the ground, the red light in its eye finally fading out. It's completely offline. Jake stretches his arms, yawning and saying it was a good way to stretch his legs. This guy is the definition of cocky. The announcer is literally speechless, just stuttering into the mic. He can't believe how fast that went down. The students are geeking out, talking about how Jake took down a B-rank equivalent machine while only having C-rank power. That's some main character energy right there. Jake is soaking up the cheers, basking in his status as the top cadet of a Kalkuf. He's definitely the fan favorite right now. I just sigh, realizing that whoever goes next is going to have a hard time following that performance. I know the crowd expects something even bigger now. The announcer finally gets it together and introduces the next cadet, Erica Inoue from the support faculty, UR. I look at Erica, but I'm not worried. I know exactly who she is, and that pressure is the last thing she cares about. Erica walks out, and man, she has some serious presence. She's the eldest daughter of the Inoue family, and you can tell she's from money. She's from one of the 3 great noble houses of Japan. She's basically royalty in the hero world, and she carries herself like it. But then I remember her future. In my timeline, she's destined to be corrupted into a fiend and will be executed by her own family. That is one hell of a tragic backstory. She walks past me, her hair flowing like a villain in a movie. I know that getting close to her is a one-way ticket to a bad time. I have a mini panic attack because I think she just looked at me. Did she just sense me? I wonder. Yeah, she might be more dangerous than I thought. I watch her walk away, feeling a bit stressed. I'm clutching my sword, trying to get my head back in the game. The next target is a Model 9 armored automaton. This thing has 1.5 times the defense of the one Jake just smashed. They're really ramping up the difficulty. Erica stands before the giant metal beast, looking tiny but completely unfazed. The crowd is quiet, waiting to see what a support type can do. She pulls out a birdcage with a single crow inside. Its eye is glowing blue, which is never a good sign for the guy on the receiving end. She opens the cage, and the crow takes flight. The atmosphere in the stadium is getting real cold, real fast. Erica's eye glows blue as a massive, shadowy feathered demon appears behind her. She gives a simple command, go. The crow flies toward the robot as feathers fill the air. Erica just stands there holding the cage, looking like a dark queen. The crow turns into a massive streak of black mana. It's moving like a bullet toward the automaton's chest. I'm looking a bit confused, thinking about the crow. I'm probably trying to figure out the mechanics of her summon. Impact. The black energy slams into the robot, and the blue light of her mana is absolutely blinding. The automaton is still standing though. It crosses its arms in a defensive stance, trying to hold its ground against the pressure. I note to myself that piercing through an armored model that's already in a defensive stance is going to be a nightmare. Even for her, this looks tough. We get a close-up on Erica's mouth, and she's got a tiny smirk. She's definitely got an ace up her sleeve. A massive magic circle appears on the ground with a crow at the center. This is some high-tier ritual stuff right here. The circle expands, showing images of dragons and monsters. It looks like she's tapping into some seriously ancient power. The detail on this magic circle is insane. You can practically feel the mana radiating off the screen. A massive shadow bird manifests in the arena, letting out a scream that shakes the whole stadium. It looks like a phantom of death. The phantom bird dives. It's a blur of black energy and feathers, aiming straight for the kill. It spirals around the automaton like a drill, completely overwhelming its physical defenses with pure mana. I'm actually shocked now, looking at the display with a surprised expression. I wasn't expecting a freshman to have this much raw power. Boom. A huge hole is blasted right through the armored chest plate. You can see the lightning crackling around the destroyed metal. The automaton's light goes out instantly. It didn't even have a chance to counterattack. The robot falls to its knees with a massive thud. Erica didn't just win, she completely dismantled a tank in one shot. She walks back casually, and the crow lands on her finger like nothing happened. Talk about a cold-blooded finish. The crowd is screaming her name. Everyone is losing their minds over how powerful the support faculty's top cadet is. I'm sweating bullets now. I know that after those 2 performances, if I just show off some basic gear, I'm going to be the laughingstock of the academy. I start walking toward the center of the arena, my back to the camera. The announcer introduces the top cadet of the technology faculty, Borsipa. It's time for me to show them why I'm the real deal. It's time for the final act of the day. The announcer shouts out my name, introducing me as the top student of the engineering faculty, and the crowd is buzzing with anticipation. Even the big boss, Ludwig Schubert, is starting to take notice. He's leaning back in his chair, thinking that this year's freshman class is actually looking pretty impressive. He admits it's been a minute since the refining department produced a top-tier student. He's actually looking a bit concerned, hoping that all this pressure doesn't cause me to choke on the big stage. Next to him, we see Ryu Unha, the head of my faculty, looking as cool and composed as ever. She's watching intently, clearly waiting to see if I can live up to the hype she's built around me. The arena is absolutely electric right now. Everyone is wondering the same thing. Can this blacksmith kid actually pull off a performance that tops those insane displays from Jake and Erica? I stand alone in the center of the stadium, looking completely unfazed by the thousands of eyes on me. I grip my sword, and with a sharp metallic click, I start to draw the blade. I've got that focused look in my eyes that says I'm about to do something legendary. I'm standing there with my custom gear, ready to show everyone exactly what a real master can do. The system pings as I ready my equipment. I'm bringing out the big guns, my 5-colored fire blade, and that high-rank fire-infused scabbard I crafted earlier. The students in the stands are having a total meltdown. Word is already spreading that a freshman made a rare-grade armament, and honestly, they can't decide if I'm a genius or just a freak of nature. Of course, Michael Barma is back to his usual scummy self, whispering that the impact is lacking compared to the other faculties. He thinks he's got this all figured out, but man, is he in for a rude awakening. He's actually smirking to himself, thinking that at this rate, the position of head of Borsippa is basically his for the taking. This dude's ego is honestly bigger than the entire stadium. Ryu Unha just gives him a sidelong glance, her expression totally unreadable. She knows something he doesn't, and I can tell she's just waiting for the punchline of this joke. The announcer starts setting up a Model 10 automaton, which is basically a D-rank hero equivalent, but I just shut him down immediately. I've got much bigger plans than a simple warm-up bot. I calmly ask them to bring out a Model B instead, and then tell them to pack it with extra armor on top. Talk about a go big or go home moment. The announcer is looking at me like I've grown a second head. He's literally stuttering into the mic, completely baffled by my request. He tries to warn me that a Model B can withstand hits from B-rank heroes even without the extra plating. This kid is essentially asking to fight a tank with a toothpick. The announcer is panicking now, screaming that it's impossible to prep a high-tier model on such short notice. He's practically begging me to stick to the script so I don't ruin the entire demonstration. Suddenly, a new challenger appears. This rugged guy with a gray beard steps out onto the field, looking like he's actually excited to see what happens next. He's got that "I've seen everything" vibe about him. He doesn't say much, just drops a "here it is" as he wheels out the heavy machinery. He's bringing out exactly what I asked for, a combat automaton fully loaded with reinforced armor. The sheer size of this thing is enough to make anyone else run for the hills. The announcer is stunned that the beast was ready so fast. The old man just ignores the noise and starts walking away, leaving me alone with my metal opponent. I just stand there, casually waiting for the signal to start. Schubert is watching from the VIP box, clearly intrigued by my massive confidence. We get a good look at the gray-bearded guy again, and he's actually got a little smirk on his face. He's clearly a fan of anyone who wants to break the rules. The atmosphere in the stadium shifts from excitement to pure heavy tension. Everyone is holding their breath as we square off on the dusty floor. The announcer finally throws his hands up, yelling for the duel to begin. I can tell he's completely given up on following the rules at this point. The crowd goes absolutely ballistic. The roar from the stands is deafening as they prepare for what might be the most lopsided fight in Academy history. The old veteran crosses his arms and settles in to watch. He's looking at me with a look that says, "All right, kid, show me if you're a genius or just crazy." Ryu Unha is still watching intently, her eyes locked on me. She's the only one who doesn't look surprised by my insane request. She's thinking to herself for me to go on and show them a hell of a show. She's basically betting her entire career on this one moment. I just give a small, confident smile and mutter, "Well then, I'm looking like I'm about to have the time of my life." I get into a low combat stance, my hand resting on my sword hilt. I'm ready to show these people that I'm not just some student, I'm a master blacksmith. Suddenly, a whirlwind of red and purple fire erupts from my hands. I'm starting to pour my mana into the weapon, and the power level is off the charts. A massive vortex of flames swirls around me, lighting up the entire stadium. I look like a demon god standing in the middle of a literal firestorm. Jake and Erica are staring from the sidelines with their jaws on the floor. They thought their performances were good, but this is on a whole different level. Michael Barmut is trying to act tough, calling it eye candy, but you can see the sweat dripping down his face. He's realizing his perfect plan is about to go up in smoke. The narration explains that the flames inside my blade are actually 5-colored fire demons that naturally want to explode. If I lose control for even a second, the whole stadium is going to have a very bad day. I'm laser-focused, using the unique properties of my fire-infused scabbard to trap and compress those chaotic flames. I'm essentially building a mana-powered bomb in the palm of my hand. I activate my Artisan of Flame skill, forcefully injecting the crimson fire directly into the scabbard. The gear is glowing so bright it's almost painful to look at. I mutter that the injection is complete, and the energy settles into a low, menacing hum. The calm before the storm is officially over. The automaton's visor flashes a bright, warning blue as its sensors detect the massive energy spike. It's finally realizing that it's the one in danger here. Suddenly, the screen is filled with the word wildfire in bold letters. This is the big finisher I've been prepping since the exam started. The scabbard's unique skill, wildfire, is designed to trigger a controlled explosion of all that compressed mana at once. It's a high-risk, high-reward move that most smiths wouldn't even dream of. Jake and Erica are watching with wide eyes, realizing they're about to witness something that shouldn't be possible for a freshman. The tension is so thick, you could cut it with a dull blade. I know exactly what's about to happen. If I trigger wildfire now, all 5 of those fire demons are going to blow up in a single concentrated blast. I draw the blade with a violent motion, and a massive, multicolored explosion rips through the center of the arena, sending a pillar of light into the sky. Michael and the other judges are left in a stunned silence, as a massive cloud of dust covers the field. They can't even tell if I survived my own attack. The announcer is shaking like a leaf, staring into the fog and asking, "What the hell is this guy?" He's definitely regretting every life choice that led him to this mic today. As the dust starts to settle, you can see me standing there perfectly calm, my sword held casually by my side. I look like I just finished a morning jog instead of a stadium-level explosion. I slam the blade back into the scabbard with a satisfying click and let out a long, tired sigh. I'm completely done with this drama. You get a close-up on my face, and you can see the sweat dripping down. That move clearly took a lot out of me, but I'm keeping my cool in front of the crowd. Behind me, a massive, jagged crack splits the arena floor all the way to where the automaton was standing. The sheer force of the shockwave was enough to literally break the stadium. The announcer is absolutely losing it, screaming at the top of his lungs for a construction support team to get to the main hall immediately. This is way beyond sparring at this point. The system pings with evaluation complete, but the visual of the ruined arena tells the real story. I didn't just pass, I broke the test. We see a pair of high heels walking down a quiet hallway toward a private room. I'm sitting on a couch, waiting for the inevitable follow-up conversation. I'm sitting there with my arms crossed, looking a bit grumpy. Ryu Unha walks through the door, and I know the real talk is about to start. She apologizes for the delay, explaining that she was actually busy helping the cleanup crew fix the mess I made in the arena. Even a dean has to do some manual labor after an explosion like that. I rub the back of my head, giving a half-hearted apology for wrecking the place. I'm trying to act humble, but my face says I'd probably do it again. I mutter that I probably should have held back a little more. Yunha just stares at me, asking, "What the hell are you talking about? She's not there to complain about the property damage." I've got a big question mark over my head now. I genuinely thought I was being hauled into the office for a lecture on stadium safety. She just waves her hands and says, "No, that's not why she called me here. She's got something way more important on her mind than a few cracked floorboards." Suddenly, a loud gurgling sound echoes through the room. It's the ultimate vibe killer. Looks like the weapon eater is actually just hungry. I just stand there with a blank face, trying to process the fact that a top-tier hero just let out a stomach rumble like that. The silence is incredibly awkward. She clears her throat with a very loud cough, looking completely embarrassed. She quickly tries to pivot back to a professional tone, saying, "Anyway." She gets right to the point. She wants to buy my 5-colored fire blade and the scabbard, and she's willing to pay 10 times the market price for them. That's a shut up and take my money offer if I ever heard one. She's leaning in with a look of pure desperation in her eyes. It's clear she didn't just like the weapon, she needs it for her unique skill. I just look at her, completely dumbfounded. My only response is a flat question, because I definitely didn't see a sales pitch coming. Suddenly, the system pings with a new notification. An affinity has been established with Ryu Unha. Looks like this business deal just got personal. A blue system notification pings, confirming that a connection has been established with Ryu Unha. She looks slightly startled, while I remain completely composed as the digital light swirls around us. I reflect on my past life, remembering how I had to provide multiple armaments to her before ever establishing a bond. I'm surprised at how much faster my progress is in this timeline. I give a faint, knowing smirk and offer a simple thank you. I realize this is a massive shortcut for my long-term plans. My affinity extraction skill activates, with brilliant blue mana pooling between my hands. I'm literally pulling a physical reward out of our newfound connection. The blue energy crackles with intensity as the two of us stand in the dean's office. I've successfully manifested a special grade affinity material directly from Ryu Unha. We see the final result, Affinity Iron, a high-quality material described as Supreme Steel. It has the terrifying ability to devour other iron to create Mad Blood Steel. I hold the glowing red core in my palm, looking satisfied with the haul. The system notes that I used the Weapon Eater's affinity to create this high-tier material. Yunha gets right in my face, aggressively asking if I'm actually going to sell it. I look a bit taken aback by her intensity as she looms over me. The office door opens and Yunha turns her head, her expression instantly becoming sharp and professional. Professor Kim In-keol has arrived to break up our conversation. Kim In-kyul stands in the doorway, informing them that the chairman wants to see me immediately. The atmosphere shifts from a private deal to high-level academy politics. Yoonha looks back at me with a lingering gaze as we prepare to head out. I seem to be mentally preparing myself for a meeting with the most powerful man at Babel. Yoonha gives a curt, understood, and starts to walk away. She's back to her business-like Dean persona, hiding the obsession she just showed. I give a polite bow as I depart, telling her I'll see her later. I'm playing the role of the humble student perfectly to keep up appearances. I walk down the long hallway, followed by the professor. I'm heading toward a meeting that could solidify my status at the academy. A stunning wide shot reveals the heart of Babel Academy, a massive and grand structure. It looks more like a celestial palace than a school building. Me and the professor walk through a giant ornate hall filled with statues and warm light. This place is meant to intimidate, but I walk through it with total confidence. Kim In-kyul warns me to be on my best behavior in front of the chairman. He notes that the chairman even overlooked the fact that I destroyed the auditorium during the demonstration. We reach a set of massive, decorated double doors where a guard stands ready. I'm about to enter the inner sanctum of the emperor. I look back over my shoulder, telling the professor not to worry. I've faced literal gods before, so a meeting with a chairman isn't going to make me flinch. The doors swing open with a heavy sound as the announcer introduces Cadet Lee Sehun. The room beyond is massive, filled with rows of books and ancient artifacts. Ludwig Schubert, the Emperor of Ascension, sits at his desk looking incredibly regal with his white hair and calm demeanor. He's the type of guy who radiates power without saying a word. I have a brief flashback to the heroes who perished during the apocalypse in my original timeline. The contrast between this peaceful office and that total ruin is stark. Back in the present, I stand before the desk with a focused expression. Ludwig calls me a truly fitting apex climber, which is high praise from the chairman. Ludwig admits that the armaments I displayed during my demo were quite interesting. He's appraising me like a rare gem he's just discovered. Ludwig tells me that he's looking forward to seeing what I do in the future. He's not just making small talk, he's evaluating my potential to become a top-tier hero. I remain quiet, but internally I'm reflecting on how I brace myself for this meeting. I know that as a regressor, every word I say matters. The chairman looks down at me from his massive desk. He declares that as a tribute to my talent, he will grant me 2 rewards. I stand alone in the center of the grand room, looking small but determined. The chairman repeats the offer, making it clear this is a rare opportunity. Ludwig asks me what I need. I don't hesitate, looking ready to ask for something that will help me break the game's limits. I request rewards that will increase my magic power and my memory capacity. Ludwig considers this with a thoughtful hum. Golden energy begins to swirl and manifest in the air in front of me. The chairman is pulling these rewards out of his own vault right then and there. A beautiful golden crest or shield appears, glowing with divine light. This is an artifact of incredible value. The system displays the items: heavy dark ink, a hero-grade fragment that absorbs magic, and dream ivory, which allows the user to touch dreams. These are perfect for a blacksmith. I'm walking away with a cheeky grin, clutching my new prizes. I call it perfect, knowing I just got the tools to manage my future knowledge. The chairman is left alone in his office, looking out over the academy's beautiful grounds. He's thinking deeply about the old soul he just interviewed. A bright glowing sigil appears over the room as Ludwig's monologue continues. He mentions that I'm the only one receiving 2 rewards, which is a major exception. Ludwig smokes a pipe while reflecting on me. He says that I have enough depth to appear like an old soul trapped in a young body. Ludwig continues, noting that my potential is enough to make even someone of his status pay attention. He's clearly seen something special. We get a close-up on Ludwig's glowing gold eye. He admits that even with all his power, he cannot fathom the true depth of my abilities. Ludwig watches me walk away through the massive hall. The chairman has officially marked this blacksmith as someone to watch. We cut to a shot of the Babel Academy main building under a bright blue sky. It's a new day, and the regular semester is finally kicking off. Inside a classroom, Hans Barmut is sitting with his friends, looking like he's over his previous failure. Someone asks him where he wants to grab lunch. Hans looks a bit dismissive, telling his friends that he has plans with Howard today. He's trying to maintain his status by showing off his connections. One of the students is shocked, realizing Hans is meeting with the top 3rd-year cadet of Borsippa. That's a high-tier connection for a freshman. Hans explains that their families are close, so they meet up for advice. He's definitely leaning into his nepotism baby energy to impress the other cadets. The classroom door opens, and the entire room goes silent. I walk in, looking completely unbothered by the stares I'm receiving. I walk past the rows of desks, my eyes dark and focused. I must have an aura that makes the other students feel uneasy as I pass. I find a seat in the back and settle in. Hans is staring at me from across the room, his face twisted with resentment. I take my seat with a smooth motion. I'm not here for the drama. I'm here to study and prepare for the coming war. Hans is staring at me, sweating as he wonders what's wrong with his eyes. I'm looking through him like he's made of glass. I give Hans a look of pure, I'm on a different level than you. I think to myself that he has finally learned his place. Hans is clenching his fists under the desk, fuming with rage. He can't handle that. Someone with no background is making him look bad. The professor walks into the room and tells everyone to take their seats. It's time for the first official lecture of the year. Professor Kim In-kyeol stands at the front, telling the class they'll start with self-introductions. He's brought a large case with him for a demonstration. He opens the case to reveal a bag full of glowing projection alloy ingots. These stones are clearly advanced materials meant for magic practice. He explains that these ores are extremely sensitive to magic power. He picks one up, showing how it reacts to even the smallest amount of mana. The professor starts injecting his own magic into the stone, and it begins to glow with an intense, fiery light. You can see the heat radiating from his hand. Suddenly, the energy manifests into a massive, shadowy sword in the middle of the room. He explains that the armament in your mind is what gets created. I'm watching with a bored look, resting my head on my hand. I have to acknowledge that the professor is a world-class artisan for a reason. I look at the shadowy sword, recognizing the skill it takes to maintain it. I respect real talent, even as someone from the future. The professor explains that because it's so sensitive, the alloy is hard to use as a real weapon, but it reflects your inner self, allowing you to see your own traits. He calls these creations avatars. We see a silhouette of many warriors holding different weapons made from this special material. The professor says our introductions will be replaced by creating these avatars. He warns us that our work will be displayed for a week, so we better not fail. A student tries to mold the alloy, looking strained as they pour their mana into it. It's clearly harder than the professor made it look. Another student creates a fancy rapier with bright golden light. He looks proud, but the professor thinks it's just a grandiose show-off piece. I'm sitting at my desk, playing with a crystal and looking unimpressed. I haven't seen anyone with real talent in the room yet. The professor calls on me to go last. I stand up calmly, ready to show everyone what a real master's avatar looks like. I hold the glowing crystal between my hands. I think to myself that since I'm the top cadet, there's no point in hiding my power anymore. I start the process, thinking, since I'm doing this, a massive burst of red mana begins to explode from the stone in my hand. My eyes glow with a fierce orange light as I decide to go all out. The silhouette of a massive, divine figure starts to manifest behind the school building. This isn't just a self-introduction, it's a statement of absolute dominance. The students are buzzing in the hallways, surrounding the display cases like a pack of vultures. They can't stop talking about the recent exam results and the mystery behind the top cadet. On display is a fancy silver sword, but the focus is on the empty pedestal next to it. Some guys are already hating, calling it ridiculous that a freshman could be on a different level. Someone else agrees, saying, "That's what I was saying." These two look like typical background characters just waiting to be proven wrong. They're so salty, it's almost funny. Then they see my creation made from projection alloy. It's a brutal-looking mace covered in spikes with a core that pulses with dark red energy, looking like it crawled straight out of a dungeon. The crowd is trying to cope, claiming it must have just been a coincidence or a lucky break with my skill. They're clearly threatened by the fact that the top student came from the smelting department for once. Erika Inoue isn't buying the excuses, though. She looks at the weapon with a serious expression and shuts down the haters with a cold, "I think differently." Jake Meyer steps up right beside her, agreeing with her assessment. These two elites already recognize that I'm the real threat here, and they aren't underestimating me for a second. We get a close-up on the avatar I created, and man, the detail is insane. It's an intricate set of armor surrounded by hovering blades, proving that even with limited alloy, my technical skill is untouchable. We see a silhouette of someone training, delivering a strike that shatters the air around them. The raw power on display here is exactly what the projection alloy was meant to capture. I'm back in the workshop, swinging a hammer with terrifying precision. I note to myself that there wasn't even a 0101 second error in my timing. Yeah, you could call me a perfectionist. The work is brutal, and I'm wiping sweat from my face with my gloved hand. I look completely exhausted, realizing my young body still has a long way to go to keep up with my mind. The assistant instructor watches me from the side, looking totally baffled. He's probably wondering what he's even supposed to teach a kid who already moves like a veteran master. The instructor announces that class is dismissed. The workshop empties out, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a mountain of scrap metal. I'm clearly not done for the day. I stand there clutching my hammer, lost in a mental void. I'm already planning 10 steps ahead while everyone else is just thinking about dinner. I look down at a pair of broken blades on my workbench with a disappointed hum. I'm pushing my gear too hard, and the current materials just can't handle my output. A shadow looms over me as a voice asks if I'm going to break it again. I'm already getting a reputation for being a gear wrecker. It's the assistant instructor, an orange-haired guy who seems a lot more chill than the regular professors. I just greet him casually, like we're old colleagues. The instructor warns me that they have to deliver the equipment after this week's smelting class. He basically begs me not to break anything else because their budget is on life support. He explains the reality of the business. Babel only supports them after reviewing the performance of weapons sold externally. If the gear keeps breaking, the department goes broke. I turn the conversation around, asking the instructor if he's dissatisfied with his body or his mana. Bold move, asking my teacher for a medical diagnosis while holding a hammer. I admit that for me, the real bottleneck is my own body. I've got the skills of a legend, but the stamina of a teenager, and it's driving me crazy. I slump over, gasping for air as I grip the anvil. To make the training tools I need, I have to smelt heavy rock, but I just don't have the endurance yet. The instructor suggests a shortcut that should have been obvious, asking, "Wouldn't buffs be faster than training?" It's a simple idea, but it hits me like a truck. I repeat the words to myself, my brain already running the numbers. I was so focused on physical grinding that I forgot I could just cheat the system with magic. That devious smirk is back on my face, and you know I'm up to something. I realized this was a method I avoided before my regression, so it hadn't even crossed my mind to try it now. I imagine myself wreathed in power, thinking that with the right buffs, I could smelt heavy rock without breaking a sweat. It's time for me to go shopping for some magic. I give a quick thank you for the advice and prepare to head out. The instructor is just like, it was nothing, probably confused by how fast my mood just flipped. Before I leave, I watch the instructor working at the forge, flames erupting from the furnace. I'm always observing, always looking for a way to improve my craft. I notice the instructor is using way too much mana and advise him to reduce it to 10% and focus on a single point. Talk about role reversal, the freshman is now lecturing the teacher. I walk away coolly, leaving the instructor stunned in the forge. I mutter, that would be better for now, like I'm just giving a friendly tip to a beginner. The assistant instructor is frozen in place, processing the fact that a freshman just gave him professional advice. His brain is officially broken by my sheer audacity. He looks down at his hammer with a confused expression while my advice echoes in his head. You just know he's going to try it and realize I was right. The narration drops a bit more lore about Babel's autonomous learning system. Cadets are free to attend classes from any department they want, encouraging them to find their own path. I'm on the academy train, looking out the window as I head to my next destination. The stakes are high though, 3 failing grades and you're expelled immediately. The train speeds along the tracks, heading toward the support faculty campus. The destination is announced, the UR Department of Shamanism. I step off the train, looking around the new campus with a focused expression. I'm looking for the buffs I need, and this is the best place to find them. Suddenly, I spot a familiar head of long black hair in the crowd. I recognize Erica and definitely didn't expect to run into the top support cadets so soon. A group of bulky shaman students is blocking the path, acting like total jerks. They tell me to get lost and stop blocking the way, trying to act all tough. I'm not in the mood for games. I stare them down, thinking, what's with these guys? I'm not moving an inch for these wannabe thugs. The tension is rising as the shaman guys loom over me, mana crackling in the air. They clearly don't know who they're messing with. Erica Inoue steps in, looking as regal as ever. She asks me where I'm going, completely ignoring the goons who were trying to intimidate me. I answer simply, I'm heading to shamanism and thinking of taking a minor. The shaman guys are looking a bit nervous now that the faculty's top student is actually talking to me. Erica doesn't skip a beat. She says she'll guide me, leaving the thugs gawking in disbelief. They're shocked that the Ice Queen is being so helpful. One of the guys tries to protest, saying there's a gathering they need to attend. Erica just shuts him down with a cold, you go without me. She walks off with me, her long hair flowing as she leaves the group behind. She gives a final, not interested, to the seniors, making it clear she does whatever she wants. I follow her, glancing sideways at her calm expression. I'm wondering why she's being so friendly, but I'm not about to turn down a free tour. We walk through the campus halls together, with me keeping a respectful distance. I've got that stoic main character energy going on, even in a new environment. Erica breaks the silence, asking what kind of minor I'm looking for. She's actually curious about why a legendary tier blacksmith would come to the shamanism department. I want to learn about buffs, I explain. I'm being direct as usual, not wasting any time with small talk or pleasantries. Erica asks for more specifics, wondering what kind of buffs I need for smelting. She's trying to narrow down the best path for my unique needs. I specify that I need something to enhance my physical abilities without interfering with my smelting mana. It's a very technical request, but Erica seems to follow perfectly. She ponders for a second, then asks if I've considered barrier techniques instead. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small black object. She explains that barriers aren't just for defense. It depends entirely on how you use the spell formula. It's a deep look into the mechanics of her family's magic. She hands me a sealed black envelope and tells me to try tearing it. I take the envelope, looking at it with intense curiosity. I rip the paper in half with a sharp sound, looking at the torn edges. I ask if it's supposed to increase strength, but my expression tells her I've already figured it out. No, rather than that, I realize the magic behind it is much more complex than a simple stat boost. It's a genius piece of magic engineering. Erica explains the secret. It maintains its original properties but hardens instantly when strong force is applied. It's the perfect buffer for a blacksmith. She notes that it's perfect for smelting because that job requires such delicate control and high pressure resistance. She's impressed that I caught on so quickly. She offers to introduce me to a professor of barrier composition who married into her family's branch line. Talk about having high-level connections right off the bat. But then she freezes, her eyes widening in pure shock. She realizes that in the few seconds I held it, I already understood her family's secret barrier technique and broke it. Erica is totally shook, staring at me like I'm a monster from another world, breaking a family secret barrier that quickly shouldn't be possible for anyone. I just casually thank her for the advice. I mutter that barrier techniques are definitely worthwhile, completely oblivious to the existential crisis I just gave her. I turn to leave, saying I'm going to head off to register for classes. I've got exactly what I came for and don't want to linger any longer. The shaman thugs from earlier are watching from a distance, still fuming. They're waiting for me to leave so they can check on their mess. They run up to her, asking if she's all right. Erica is just standing there in a daze, staring at the empty space where I just was. She looks down at the invitation on the ground, titled Nobilis. She's finally realized that I'm not just a talented student, I'm a beast she can't even begin to measure. We're over at the UR Department of Sorcery, where the campus is buzzing with students. It's a complete change of pace from the gritty blacksmith workshop. Erica and I are walking together, and naturally, everyone is staring. The background characters are already whispering about the two top students hanging out, wondering if there's some high-level drama going on. I notice the rumors spreading and just sigh. I think it's funny that people care so much about others' business, and I'm definitely not buying into the Erica has feelings for me theory because my system would have flagged that connection level already. The narration drops a bit of technical info about how sorcery is used in production. Apparently, the atmosphere around here is thick with magic power because everyone's trying to show off their skills. We arrive at a foggy forest area, which serves as the testing ground for barrier construction. I look around, clearly unimpressed by the scary atmosphere they're trying to set up. Other students are wandering around looking totally lost, scratching their heads and muttering about where the hell they're supposed to go. It looks like a total mess. I'm looking skeptical, asking Erica if we're seriously playing treasure hunt for a grade. I'm used to fighting for my life, so this feels like a kindergarten field trip to me. We walk deeper into the woods, and I mutter about how this test sounds like a major pain. I've got things to craft, and wandering through trees isn't on the schedule. Suddenly, I step on a hidden magic circle, and the ground starts to glow with an intense blue light. I'm wondering if they were trying to hide something with a barrier, or just set a trap. A pillar of magical energy erupts from the ground as we trigger the trap. It's flashy, but I don't even flinch. Two guys step out from behind the trees. It's the professor and his assistant. They tell us we've already passed the first test just by finding and triggering the circle. Erica looks at them with an expression of pure confusion, given a flat, "Excuse me?" Even for her, this test was a bit too simple to be taken seriously. Meet Robert Perry, the professor of barrier construction. He's looking at Erica with interest, wondering why the top student of the faculty suddenly signed up for a beginner's course. His assistant shows him a device, and the professor tells us to take a look at the results. It seems our treasure hunt caused quite a stir. The professor shows us his phone, revealing that thanks to Erica signing up, the number of applicants for his class has literally tripled. Talk about the power of an influencer. Perry is rubbing his head, looking totally stressed. He can't say he's happy about the extra work, but he's intrigued by the request he received from young Master Inoue. A shady red-tinted shot shows a guy in the shadows. Looks like there's some family politics involved in me being here. This request doesn't sound like it was meant to be friendly. The professor explains the real challenge, the labyrinth of illusory souls. It's a high-level barrier that makes anyone who enters wander aimlessly until they lose their minds. The group of students heads into the dense, dark fog of the labyrinth. You can barely see 2 feet in front of you, making it the perfect place for a lost-in-the-woods trope. Perry watches from the sidelines, noting how I'm not just moving through the labyrinth, I'm moving with an intent that shouldn't be possible for a freshman. The professor addresses the small group that actually made it through the fog. He tells us we've all passed the first test, but now we're going to be divided into classes based on a second, much harder test. A red-haired cadet steps forward with a smug look, volunteering to go first. This guy definitely thinks he's the main character of this secondary plot. He's looking back at Erica, thinking this is his big chance to catch her eye. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. You're competing with a guy who regressed from the apocalypse. The professor points to a red magical barrier on the ground. It looks like a giant, glowing spiderweb. This is the sensing web test, and it's a total mana drainer. The red-haired guy crouches down and touches the web. He's told that his score will be based on his time to break through, and he's clearly feeling the pressure already. The narration explains that as long as the spider exists, the web will regenerate infinitely. You have to find the core of the mana and destroy it before it drains you dry. The red-haired guy is struggling, sweat dripping down his face as he tries to force his way through. He's panicking, wondering if his mana capacity is just too low for a simple beginner test. He decides to go for broke, thinking that if he can't out-mana it, he'll just outspeed it. He pours everything into one fast strike against the glowing core. He collapses to the ground, panting. The professor notes his time, 7 minutes and 23 seconds. He tells him he should have paid more attention to the structure instead of just hitting it hard. The guy is looking totally defeated, but the professor gives him a small, not bad, to keep him from crying. Erica is just watching in the background, looking bored. Several next calls follow as more students fail to make an impact. The web is proven to be a lot tougher than it looks. Perry tells the group that based on these results, they're all starting in the beginner class. He's not impressed with the talent on display so far. Finally, it's Erika Inoue's turn. The atmosphere shifts instantly as she steps up to the glowing red web. We get a close-up on Erika's face. She's not even breaking a sweat. She looks at the barrier like it's a mildly interesting puzzle. She steps onto the magic web, and her entire body begins to glow with a brilliant white light. The water-like ripples around her feet show just how much control she has over her mana. The red lines of the web start to flicker and dissolve as her power overwhelms the sorcery formula. It's not even a contest. The entire barrier collapses in a shower of red sparks. The students are losing it, screaming about how fast she dismantled the whole thing. She looks back at the professor with a casual expression, her hair flowing perfectly. This is what it looks like when a pro does a beginner test. 22 seconds. The professor acknowledges her speed, but notes that a standard dismantling method would have been 2 seconds faster. This guy is a tough grader, even for the top student. Finally, it's my turn. Perry looks at me with a sidelong glance, waiting to see if the last blacksmith actually has any magic talent. I stand before the regenerated web, looking bored as hell. I think to myself that there really isn't anything special about this barrier at all. I crouch down and poke the web with a confused expression. I'm looking at it like I found a defect in a cheap piece of metal. Erica and the other students are staring, wondering what the hell I'm doing. They whisper, asking, "Doesn't he know it started? I must look like I'm just taking a nap." It hits me that the barrier shares the same properties as heavyweight ore. Specifically, the way it repairs itself and reverts if you don't reach a certain pressure threshold. I break it down in my head. To smelt heavyweight ore, you have to balance the ratio of all stimuli and inject mana simultaneously. I'm basically treating a high-level sorcery test like a basic forge job. The professor is getting annoyed, asking, "What on earth is that kid doing?" I'm just sitting there staring at the ground while everyone else expects fireworks. Erica tells him to leave me be. She knows that when I get that look in my eye, I'm about to break something in a spectacular way. Professor Perry is watching intently, a bead of sweat on his face. He's starting to realize that I'm not just staring, I'm analyzing the entire molecular structure of the spell. My hand starts to glow with an intense, fiery red mana as I touch the center of the web. The heat is so intense, you can practically feel it through the screen. The entire barrier doesn't just shatter, it literally burns away in a massive explosion of fire and light. I didn't dismantle the formula, I just melted it. The other students run toward me, totally shocked by the display of raw, destructive power. They can't believe a smelting cadet just did that to a sorcery barrier. I stand up calmly, muttering a simple, "Done." I look like I just finished a light snack instead of a high-level magic exam. I'm looking at my hands, satisfied that I can use this technique to refine the heavyweight ore back at the forge. I seriously just used the sorcery test as a training simulation. I walk away from the scorched ground, my footsteps light. I've got exactly what I came for, a new way to cheat my stamina limits. Erica catches up with me as we walk back toward the main campus. She's quiet, but I can tell she's reevaluating everything she knows about me. The assistant instructor checks his timer and stammers out the time, 7 minutes and 45 seconds. On paper, it looks like I was slower than the red-haired guy, but they both know the truth. Professor Perry admits that the time is meaningless. He knows that next time I face this same barrier, I'll bring it down in a matter of seconds. He reflects on what he just saw. I didn't just break the barrier. I created an entirely new formula to destroy the sorcery from the inside out. That's not a student, that's a genius. Erica looks back at me as I walk off, the light catching her thoughtful expression. She's officially intrigued by the monster she's discovered. The silhouette of me walking into the light is a powerful final shot. The narration warns that if I start adding sorcery logic to my smelting skills, the world is in trouble. The professor's final thought is that he shudders to think what kind of items I will create. Oh, you have no idea. The real crafting starts now. We open up on a digital screen showing an official Babbel administrative email. It's a notification that I've applied for an intermediate smelting session using hero-grade materials, and the instructor at the bottom is already clicking away, wondering how many people are going to flock to this. The assistant instructor is chilling at his desk, hands behind his head like he's got all the time in the world. Suddenly, a sharp ding echoes through the room as the first notification hits his inbox. The chat window absolutely explodes with messages. Professors from every department are practically tripping over themselves to supervise my smelting, and the instructor is just staring at the screen in total disbelief at how fast they're responding. The narration points out a huge divide. Not a single person from Weisstein Michael's faction has sent a word. These guys are shown looking smug and petty, clearly trying to boycott the kid who embarrassed their boss's son. The instructor sighs, realizing he has to start picking someone from this massive list. But before he can even click, another ding pops up that makes his heart skip a beat. He leans in, his face going pale as he reads the newest message. Whatever just popped up on that screen is enough to give him a literal heart attack. We get a close-up on his eye, which is blown wide with absolute shock. He's looking at something that shouldn't even be possible for a freshman student. The chat message reveals the bombshell. The department head herself, Ryu Unha, has stepped in and declared that she will personally oversee my intermediate smelting. The instructor is officially out of his league. Back at the forge, I'm geared up and ready, but I look a bit confused by the sudden silence. I hear footsteps and look over, wondering who actually got picked for the supervisor job. Ryu Unha walks in, looking as cool and imposing as ever with her long red hair. I'm genuinely surprised that the dean herself would come all the way down here just to watch a student work. I give a small bow, realizing that with the weapon eater watching me, I'm gonna have to pull out all the stops. I mutter, since it's come to this, I'll have to do my best, my focus shifting back to the anvil. The process begins. Dark, heavy stone smelting. Step 1. I'm holding a heavy, dark hexagonal stone in my gloved hand, looking at it with pure intensity. I drop the stone into a vat of dark liquid with a plop. I'm using the Dart Veil method, which is widely considered the most difficult and tedious way to handle this material. The first step is a nightmare. You have to place the stone in a dark space completely devoid of light. I'm carefully lowering the stone into the liquid, making sure not a single ray of light hits it during the process. Liquid splashes as I begin the real work. I have to separate the impurities within the stone using only my mana, a process that causes the stone to shrink but massively increases its purity. I get a close-up on my eye as I focus on the stone's molecular structure. I know it sounds easy on paper, but in reality, I'm basically trying to rewrite the laws of physics with my bare hands. Erika Inoue is watching from the shadows, her arms crossed as she monitors my progress. She notices a sound. I'm moving with a level of precision that shouldn't be humanly possible. I look at the stone, calculating the perfect balance. I think to myself that reducing it to 1/4 its original size is the absolute limit. Any further, and the weapon's performance won't be sufficient. Step 2. Flames begin to roar around me as I prepare for the next phase. I'm not just smelting now, I'm playing with fire on a whole different level. I reach my hand directly into the orange inferno. Ryu Unha watches from the side, a surprised expression showing that even she's a bit rattled by my reckless technique. I'm not being burned though. I'm channeling my mana through the red flames to pick out specific sparks, looking for a very particular kind of energy. The flames transform into a vibrant, stabilized green fire. These are called Guardian Wildfire, and they have the unique property of maintaining the exact temperature they had the moment they were formed. Step 3. The real forging begins now. I bring my hammer down with a massive clang on the stone, which is now glowing with that eerie green Guardian Wildfire. I'm striking with perfect rhythm, not wasting a single drop of energy. The impact sends sparks flying everywhere. The key to this step is to work without rest until the distortion in the stone is completely reduced by the properties of the special flames. Ryu Unha is watching intently, thinking that even with her immunity to fire, she can still feel the pain and intensity coming off my work. I'm putting my literal soul into this metal. You can see me from behind, a pillar of green light shooting up from my hammer. The narration wonders just how much I've been pushing my young body to reach this level of mastery. A wide shot of the academy as the sun begins to set. Multiple clanging sounds echo through the air, showing that I've been at it for hours without taking a single break. Yuna is actually starting to yawn while she watches me. She's been standing there the whole time, and even a top-tier hero's patience has its limits. She checks the time as the sky turns dark. The hammering doesn't stop, and you can see my silhouette still going strong in the light of the forge. The system announces that 4 hours of smelting have elapsed. A close-up shows my hand trembling violently as I grip the hammer. I'm running on pure willpower now. We get another shot of my shaking hand. My muscles are screaming, but I refuse to let up until the job is done. This is the madness of a master blacksmith. Finally, the properties of the dark heavy stone begin to change. Having absorbed the green flames to their absolute limit, the stone starts to pulsate with a new, refined energy. I stare at the now sleek black cube on the anvil. I mutter that it's done, the distortion has stopped, my voice sounding completely drained. I move to the final stage, pouring the molten processed metal into a specific mold. I'm moving like a robot now, focused entirely on the finish line. I look like I'm about to collapse, sweat dripping off my chin as I watch the metal cool. This was one hell of a beginner project. Yunha is leaning against the pillar, wondering what the hell I could be thinking to push myself that hard. She's looking at me with a mix of concern and fascination. Step 4. Suddenly, a loud shout echoes through the workshop. Something unexpected is happening with the final product. My face goes totally intense, almost manic. I'm using a barrier-breaking technique I learned from my encounter with Erika, applying sorcery logic to finish the blacksmithing job. A massive shockwave of blue and green energy rips through the forge as I deliver the final strike. The impact is so hard, it nearly knocks Unha off her feet. A blue notification window pops up. The equipment Dark Spider bracelet has been completed. The system even praises me for forcing new possibilities that are worthy of being called human excellence. Another notification pings. I've acquired a new skill, Black Spirit Thread D. I'm standing there panting heavily, my chest heaving as the green energy finally settles. I clutch my chest, gasping for air. I'm totally wiped out, but I'm still looking at my hands with a look of victory. We get a detailed look at the finished Dark Spider bracelet. It's a rare grade piece that possesses the property of absorbing the wearer's mana, causing its weight to increase as it stores energy. I let out a tired smile. I whisper, "It's a success," as a swirling orange energy starts to manifest from my body. Looks like I've got a hungry visitor. A massive stomach rumble echoes through the quiet workshop. I look over at Yunha, who's clutching her belly with a look of pure embarrassment. I just close my eyes and sigh. What a mood killer. I've reached my limit, and now I've got to deal with a hungry Dean. Yuna tries to play it cool, noting the resonance phenomenon of the finished bracelet. I just brush it off, saying it's not that strong yet compared to what I'm planning. I look at the bracelet, thinking that if I play my cards right, I can use this as a base for a powerful set effect in the future. I'm always thinking about the long game. I hand over a small, glowing byproduct from the smelting. I tell her I don't know if this will satisfy her, but she should take it as a thank you for overseeing me. We get a close-up on the red energy as Yunha takes it. This is exactly what she wanted, a high-quality snack for her unique skill. Yunha eats the energy, her unique skill, Dragon, Soul Furnace activating as she absorbs the byproduct. She looks like she's in literal heaven. She lets out a satisfied sound with a tiny smile on her face. I just watch her, realizing I might have found the easiest way to raise my affinity with the weapon eater. Yuna tells me it's quite edible. Using the weirdest metaphor ever, it tastes like fried tempura crumbs. I'm just standing there with a blank face, wondering what kind of palate she has. I think it was pretty generous of her to like something that simple. I realize I might have accidentally catered to her specific tastes, which is a massive win for my affinity levels. I tell her I'm glad she likes it, and we stand there in the dark workshop together. The vibe is actually pretty peaceful for two people who just finished a 4-hour mana smelting session. Yunha looks at the other items on the workbench, admitting it's a bit of a shame to eat them right away. She's actually showing a bit of self-control for once. She gets curious, asking when I plan on processing the more advanced stuff like the 5-colored floral sword. She's definitely eyeing my top-tier gear. I shut her down immediately, telling her I have no intention of selling them right now. Yuna looks genuinely surprised, wondering if the price she offered just wasn't high enough. I explain that I'm keeping my best gear to prepare for the upcoming subjugation class. I drop a classic line. Besides, there's a saying that hunger is the best seasoning. I promise that if I manage to prepare any gear worth giving her, she'll be the first to know. Yunha looks happy and says she'll be looking forward to it. She asks if that's all for the smelting today. I give a tired yes, looking like I'm about to fall over where I stand. She tells me we should head out and let the cleaning staff handle the mess. I'm relieved, admitting I don't have a single drop of strength left to clean a single floorboard. Suddenly, my legs give out. I let out a small gasp as I start to tumble toward the ground with a thud. Yunha is lightning fast, catching me before I hit the floor. She asks if I'm alright, looking genuinely worried about the kid who just pushed himself past the breaking point. You get a close-up on my tired face as I give her a weak smile. I admit I made a slight mistake in distributing my stamina today. Yeah, no kidding, buddy. Yunha pulls me up and tells me she'll take me to my dormitory herself. She gives me a cheeky look, asking if I'm afraid of heights. I give a confident response, but before I can finish the sentence, I'm in for a surprise. Yunha scoops me up in a perfect princess carry. I look absolutely shell-shocked as she prepares to launch us both out of the building. We shoot out into the night sky with a trail of orange mana following us. Yunha is carrying me with ease while I look like I'm having an existential crisis. She lands gracefully on the ground, her hair glowing in the moonlight. She looks totally unfazed by the flight, which is some serious S-rank energy. I look at her, thinking to myself that things have definitely changed a lot since my original timeline. I seem to be actually enjoying this new life, despite the constant exhaustion. A beautiful wide shot of the two of us flying through the moonlit sky over the academy. It's a moment of peace before whatever crazy training I have planned for tomorrow. Finally, we see Erika Inoue standing alone by the academy fountain at night. She's looking up at the sky, wondering where I am. Looks like someone's starting to get a little jealous. Check out the Babel Academy forum. Someone's posted a photo of Erika Inoue, the top freshman, just standing outside the Forging Department dorms for 3 whole hours. The comments are absolutely losing it. Everyone's asking, what is it? And seem confused because seeing an elite like her just loitering is unheard of. Anonymous38 is out here spitting facts, suggesting she's waiting for the top student of Borsippa, Lee Sehun. The shippers are already working overtime in the replies. I'm actually reading this thread on my own phone, and I'm just as confused as everyone else. I'm thinking, I hope they take down the post quickly, not wanting the extra attention. I'm sitting in my next class, totally unbothered by the rumors. I figured if it was actually important, she'd just find me again on her own terms. Suddenly, the classroom door is kicked open with a massive bam. Someone definitely isn't here to play nice. A massive guy with a red bandana and a tank top walks in, looking like he just finished a marathon. He bellows that he is Ricaro's Miles, and he'll be teaching the Understanding Tools class. He doesn't waste any time, telling the class to haul it to the training center immediately. The catch is that the last one to arrive will run 20 laps around the track. The students go into a full panic, scrambling out of their seats and sprinting for the exit. It's a total madhouse in the hallway. I'm right there in the thick of it, sprinting along with the rest. I'm sweating buckets, wondering why a theory class turned into a track meet. Someone yells, "I don't know, just run," as they charge through the academy. This instructor clearly believes in a very hands-on approach to understanding. One student is already stumbling, letting out a tired groan while I push past him. The competition is brutal even before we reach the gym. I'm huffing and puffing, but I made it. Unfortunately, I'm one of the losers, and Ricaros points to the track and tells me 20 laps. I set off on my punishment run, my feet pounding against the sand. I mutter a weak, "Yes, I'm going," but I can tell my body is feeling every single step. I push through the fatigue, realizing that my stamina is at rock bottom compared to my future self. I'm second-guessing whether I properly prepared for this level of physical training. Ricardo stands before the group, looking like a total unit. He tells everyone to pay attention because the real lesson is finally starting. He brings up a massive sword wreathed in flames, explaining that the curriculum has changed. Apparently, the Yomdo hunt has forced them to update their methods. He's talking about high-grade swords forged by legendary blacksmiths specifically for Yomdo hunters. The red-tinted shot shows a figure looking like an absolute demon in the heat of battle. Ricaros points out that no matter what gear you're wearing, the only thing that ultimately remains is your own body. He's trying to hammer home that physical strength is just as important as the tools we build. The students respond with a loud, synchronized yes. They're clearly drinking the Kool-Aid, ready to work themselves to death. Ricardo says that today they'll talk about swords as he stands in the center of the stadium. I'm standing off to the side, thinking I need to be extra careful with my output this time. I'm back to running, determined to raise my stamina no matter what it takes. I'm used to being a master, but right now, I'm just a freshman trying to survive gym class. I look down at the dark spider bracelet on my wrist, its performance already weighing me down. I know this thing is going to be my best friend and my worst enemy during these drills. The system screen breaks it down. It's the explosive gravity skill. It allows me to manipulate gravity in a 1-meter radius, which is basically like training in a hyperbolic time chamber. My status screen pops up, showing that my stats have increased by an average of 5 points. I'm determined to make this body useful before the first year ends. I'm absolutely spent, hunched over and gasping for air. Ricaros watches me from the side, looking impressed by my sheer grit. I look up, my hair matted with sweat but my eyes sharper than ever. A burst of energy flashes as I prepare for whatever comes next. Ricaros walks over, admitting that I'm in better shape than he initially thought. He's starting to see why I was the top student in my department. The instructor draws a training sword with a smooth motion. He challenges me to swing it so he can see if my swordsmanship is suitable. I grip the hilt of my own training blade, feeling the weight. I know moving properly is going to be a nightmare with that gravity ring active. We face off in the arena, me taking a basic stance. I think to myself that my current technique isn't great, but it's all I've got for now. The fight starts, and it's a blur of motion. I dodge a heavy overhead strike from Ricaros, the sound of the metal clashing ringing through the air. Some of the other students are watching from the sidelines, looking totally skeptical. One of them mocks, wondering if I'm really slow and got tired just from running. But Ricaros knows better. He blocks a strike from me and realizes the sword path is actually magnificent. He thinks this is a sword that knows the path it must take, genuinely shocked. Ricaros easily parries my follow-up, telling me I'm being too hasty. He warns me that it's better to lose and move on than to force a bad opening. We get a close-up of a single drop of sweat falling as the tension reaches its peak. This isn't just a class anymore, it's a duel of philosophies. My eyes are glowing as I focus, while Ricaros looks on with a calm but serious expression. The instructor is trying to figure out where a technical student learned to move like this. I go for a high-flying acrobatic move, leaping over Ricaros and coming down with a strike. The speed and precision are way beyond what any freshman should be capable of. Ricaros' eye blows wide in shock. He barely manages to react in time, his composure finally starting to crack under my pressure. The two blades lock together in a spray of sparks. Ricaros is sweating now, thinking that he was scared by a technical student. He can't believe he's being pressured by a blacksmith. We stand in the center of the ring, the dust settling around us. The silence in the arena is heavy as everyone realizes they just saw something legendary. Ricaros lowers his sword and asks the million-dollar question, who taught you this swordsmanship? He knows it's not something you just pick up in a textbook. I just give a devious little smirk, looking like I'm enjoying the confusion I'm causing. I'm not going to give up my secrets that easily. I let out a little chuckle, thinking about how my skills were forged in a much more brutal class 30 years in the future. I have a flashback to an old man with a long ponytail and a scar on his face. This guy looks like he's lived through 10 different wars and won them all. In the memory, the old man yells, "Instead of money, I'll teach you, so stop." It looks like my tuition in my past life was paid in blood and sweat. Back in reality, I just scratch my head and give the most casual excuse ever, saying it was by roughly watching other heroes' battles on video sites. Ricaros is just left with a huge question mark. Ricaros looks me dead in the eye and asks if I intend to properly learn it. He's offering me a chance to actually train under him, recognizing my raw talent. We cut to the massive, futuristic building of the ActionToon faculty. It's a stunning piece of architecture that screams Babel Academy's elite. I'm standing in a lobby, looking bored out of my mind. I'm waiting for something, and you can tell I'd rather be at my forge. Suddenly, a blonde student is being dragged through the hall by that same ponytail, old man from my flashback. The old man screams, "How many times do I have to tell you I have nothing to teach?" The system identifies him as a retired S-rank hero and a regular customer of mine from the past. This guy is the real deal, even if he looks like a grumpy grandpa right now. Meet sword-breaking Guangsu. He looks like a total wildcard, even in retirement. He's the kind of guy who breaks blades just for fun. He stops and looks at me, his expression turning sharp. He asks, "What are you again?" his gaze piercing through my casual facade. I introduce myself as a first-year student from the forging department, mentioning I came with Professor Ricaros's recommendation. The blonde student is still on the floor, looking totally defeated. The blonde guy quickly whispers to Guangsu that I'm the top student of the Borsipa department this year. He's trying to build up my hype. I stand my ground, but Guangsu isn't impressed. He grumbles that it doesn't look good no matter how he sees it. This old man is the ultimate gatekeeper. The blonde student is desperate, shouting yes when asked if he wants to learn that badly. He's literally begging for a crumb of the master's knowledge. Guangsu points a finger at the blonde guy and then at me. He declares that if he beats me, he'll accept him. Talk about a final boss setup for a sparring match. I just sigh and start stretching. I mutter to the blonde guy, "Sorry for your death. I'm not being arrogant, I just know how this is gonna end." Guangsu raises his hand and gives the signal to start. The atmosphere in the gym shifts from awkward to lethal in a heartbeat. The blonde guy doesn't wait, charging in with a heavy punch. He's moving fast, clearly trying to overwhelm me with pure physical force. I'm like water, effortlessly dodging the strike. I'm not even looking at my opponent, my mind already 3 moves ahead. Guangsu watches with a keen eye, noticing my footwork. He wonders if it's Tal Ryak, which maximizes flexibility by removing strength from the body, clearly impressed. The blonde guy tries to grapple, but he's hitting nothing but air. I'm moving with a level of technical skill that shouldn't be possible for my age. Guangsu mutters, "That's why I hate smartasses." He realized that before the fight even started, I was already playing mind games with my opponent. We clash again, but this time I catch the guy's arm. I'm using his momentum against him, a classic work smarter, not harder move. I slide in close, my shoulder connecting with the guy's chest. The impact is solid, and I can tell the blonde cadet is starting to panic. The guy gasps, asking, "What kind of power is this?" He's realizing that I'm not just fast, I've got a weird crushing weight behind my movements. I execute a perfect throw, sending the guy flying over my shoulder. His shocked expression says it all. This was a total out-of-nowhere reversal. As we fall, my bracelet glows a bright, ominous blue. I activate explosive gravity, and things are about to get very heavy for my opponent. The blonde guy is slammed into the mats with the force of a falling building. The blue energy of the gravity field ripples through the air. A massive wham sound effect fills the screen as a cloud of dust erupts from the impact point. I didn't just win, I flattened the guy. I stand up and wipe my forehead, letting out a groan. This body really needs to get used to these gravity surges. The blonde guy is lying face down, completely out for the count. He didn't even know what hit him. A close-up of the defeated cadet shows his eyes rolled back. He's going to be feeling that gravity slam for at least a week. Blood and sweat drip onto the training floor. It was a short fight, but the intensity was through the roof. I look over at Guangsu with a cheeky grin. I ask, "Was I a bit faster?" I just proved I'm just as dangerous with my hands as I am with a hammer. Guangsu stands over the blonde cadet, I just embarrassed, looking completely bored. He admits the kid's last attack was something, but then immediately tells everyone to clear out. The blonde student is devastated, clutching his head in shame. Guangsu reminds him of the deal. "I said I would teach you if you won, and since he lost, it's game over." I watch the drama unfold with a smug little smile. I'm thinking that since I'm the one who actually landed the hits, the old man should be teaching me instead. The blonde guy is having a total meltdown, realizing the scandal of a top ActionToon student losing to a blacksmith is going to ruin his reputation. Guangsu just watches him panic, looking entirely unsympathetic. Guangsu decides to take pity on the idiot and at least teach him enough to earn his keep. He tells the kid to get up and stop whining, which is probably the nicest thing he's said all day. The blonde student's mood flips instantly, his face lighting up with pure joy. He screams out his thanks, looking like he just won the lottery. He bows so low, his head almost hits the floor before scurrying away. Guangsu turns to me and tells me that if I'm done gawking, I can leave too. I'm not moving though. I've got a look of pure determination as I tell the master I have something private I need to discuss. Guangsu challenges me to show off the sword technique I allegedly used on Ricaros. I don't hesitate, giving a simple understood as we square off in the empty arena. I take a deep breath, focusing my mind and body. The air around me seems to sharpen as I prepare to show my true colors. Suddenly, I'm a blur of motion. I charge forward with explosive speed, my training sword cutting through the air like a razor. I deliver a series of lightning-fast strikes that leave after images in the air. Guangsu watches intently, his seasoned eyes tracking every single micro-movement. I finish my display, standing tall and steady. Ma Guangsu critiques me instantly, noting that while the concept is interesting, it relies too much on catching people off guard. The master doesn't hold back, calling the execution sloppy. He warns me that a technique like this becomes a massive liability the second someone figures out the gimmick. Guangsu goes full grumpy teacher mode, calling the move garbage and saying he'd have broken my limbs if I'd tried to teach it to anyone else. I just laugh it off, totally unbothered by the roast. Guangsu softens up just a tiny bit, offering to build a proper physical foundation for my bare-bones style. It's an official mentorship offer from an S-rank legend. My priorities are hilariously practical, though. I just want to know if this means my class registration is officially confirmed. With a polite bow, I take my leave for the day. I've got what I wanted, and I'm not sticking around for any more lectures. Guangsu watches me walk away, calling me a blunt kid. I can tell he's actually starting to like my no-nonsense attitude. As I head through the campus, someone calls out, "Hey," from behind. It's a familiar face, and they're running to catch up with me. It's the blonde cadet from earlier. He stops me, looking way more humble now that he's not being humiliated in front of a master. He reaches into his bag and hands me a sleek, ornate black envelope. He says he had something he wanted to give me, sounding genuinely grateful. It's an invitation to the noblesse. I realize this is exactly what Erica was likely planning to give me, confirming I'm now in the inner circle of the Academy's elite. The blonde student explains that while the group is full of arrogant snobs, it's an incredible opportunity for someone with my talent. I look at the card, weighing my options. The kid is still gushing with gratitude, thanking me for the chance to actually learn under Master Guangsu. He's become a total fanboy overnight. I tuck the invitation away and give a simple thanks. I'm always collected when it comes to social climbing. Walking through the halls, I'm already thinking about my next minor. I'm considering something technical to boost my crafting game even further. Suddenly, a girl with messy brown hair and glasses bumps right into me. She looks like she's in a world of her own, clutching a bunch of scrolls and tools. She lets out a panicked, "Sorry," but then she freezes. She's staring directly at the dark spider bracelet on my wrist like it's a religious artifact. The camera zooms in on her eyes, which are glowing with pure obsession. This girl clearly knows her way around magical gear. She grabs my hand, asking point blank if I'm the one who made the bracelet. She's completely ignoring personal space right now. I'm taken aback, giving a cautious, "What if I did?" This girl is way more intense than she looks. Her name is Leah Claudel, and she's practically vibrating with excitement. She immediately offers to enchant the bracelet for me. The system pings with a new notification. An affinity has been established with Leah Claudel. Looks like I just found my enchanting partner. Leah is a total prodigy in the enchanting department, known for her ancient enchantment skills. She's the type of genius who thinks at 100 miles an hour. The narration hypes her up as someone who's completely shattered the industry standards. She's looking at my work like it's a gourmet meal. She starts muttering to herself about adding new formulas, her eyes wild behind her glasses. She thinks the bracelet is too good to leave as is. I'm starting to realize she's a bit of an eccentric. I ask if there's something wrong with the gear, looking slightly concerned. She screams that the problem is, there's too much she wants to do with it. She's losing her mind over the fact that it's made from high-purity heavyweight ore. I tell her to relax, saying that if she can't decide, I've got plenty more for her to work with. That's like offering a candy store to a kid. I show her a whole bag of high-quality materials, and you can practically see her brain short-circuiting. She gasps in shock, her jaw hitting the floor. Leah is in literal heaven, talking about the resonance effect they'll have when combined. She's already planning the ultimate set of gear. Our vibe is interrupted by a tall, serious-looking guy with dark hair. He looms over us, his expression ice-cold. Leah is still geeking out, but the newcomer isn't there to chat about gear. He tells me to follow him, that we need to talk. Leah jumps up, furious that our conversation was interrupted. She snaps, asking if he can't see we were talking first. The guy ignores her entirely, his eyes locked on me. He's here on behalf of young lady Erica, and he looks like he's ready for a fight. He demands an apology from me for being disrespectful to Erica and tearing up her invitation. He's definitely trying to play the knight in shining armor. I don't look bothered at all. I calmly explain that Erica was the one who told me to tear it up in the first place. The guy pauses, looking for a flaw in my logic. He admits the point makes sense, but then he brings up an invitation from someone named Myers. You get a close-up on his eye. He's suspicious. He knows I'm moving between the different power players of the Academy. I sigh, rubbing my head in annoyance. I ask, did Erica send you or what? Already done with this high school drama. The guy claims he's acting on his own, which Leah immediately calls out as total BS. She sneers, as if. Leah goes for the jugular, asking if there's anyone who doesn't know he's just that young master's lapdog. The burn is legendary. I can see Jake Myers sitting on the stairs in the background, looking like a total boss. His little lapdog is clearly trying way too hard to impress his master. A heavy magical pressure starts to fill the air. The guy tells me that I'm letting my special status go to my head way too fast. I just stare at him with a deadpan expression. I've lived through an apocalypse. Being threatened by a student is just funny to me. I mutter, looking completely unfazed as the guy's mana flares up. I'm just waiting for the first move. The guy gets right in my face, his eyes glowing with rage. He growls, asking, "Are you talking about yourself?" Losing his cool completely. He screams for me to shut up, lunging forward with a mana-infused strike. The speed is decent, but he's fighting a regressor. I reach out my hand, my eyes tracking the guy's movement with robotic precision. I've already seen the end of this fight. The guy charges, wreathed in blue lightning, but I just maneuver around him like he's standing still. I exhale, looking almost bored. I realize the guy's power is purely based on mana, which makes it predictable. I've already figured out the structural flaw in his entire combat style. The guy is shocked, his eyes wide as he realizes his attack missed. He stammers, asking, "How did you do that?" His confidence crumbling. I just stand there, casually adjusting my cuff. I mutter, "Who knows? Talk about a cold-blooded response." I activate my own power, my right arm glowing with an intense, fiery red mana. The affinity seal, Greedy Iron, has been activated. I look at the camera with a predatory smirk. I say, with a taste like this, it's no wonder you'd go crazy for it. My power feeling absolutely massive. The stats for affinity, Ryu Unha's Greedy Iron, appear. It's a supreme quality material that devours other iron to melt them into itself. This guy just brought a nuke to a knife fight. I dodge another desperate lunge, my movements fluid and efficient. I'm completely controlling the flow of the battle now. I deliver a brutal counterstrike to the guy's stomach. You can hear the air being forced out of his lungs in a single cough. The impact creates a massive shockwave that rattles the surrounding area. I didn't just hit him, I sent a message to everyone watching. The guy is slumped on the ground, totally defeated. I just stand over him, looking like I didn't even break a sweat. Leah is back to her cheerful self, acting like the fight didn't even happen. She says, "Anyway, senior, getting right back to our business." I turn my attention to her, asking if there are any classes in the enchanting department she'd recommend. I'm already planning my next power-up. Leah blinks, clearly surprised that a blacksmith wants to take a minor in her field. She's definitely intrigued. She recommends Ancient Enchantment, adding that there's a kick-ass senior taking it named Leah Claudel. This girl is a total riot. She's literally recommending her own class. I walk away from the commotion, leaving the other students to grumble in the background. I'm already thinking about the next step, noting that I never expected a freshman to respond at that level. Suddenly, someone calls out, "Take a look at that dagger." I turn around to see a familiar silhouette standing in the hallway. It's Erika Inoue. She looks a bit annoyed as she holds her hand out, wondering aloud, "Since when did you become so proficient with weapons?" The student who was holding it quickly hands it over with a nervous tone. Erika takes the blade, telling the guy there's no need to report the earlier incident to her brother. She stares at the reflection in the blade, her expression cold. She mentions that she'll inform the head of the family personally, which sounds way more ominous than a simple report. Erika examines the dagger closely, noting its high quality as a medium. She realizes it has a specialized anti-confiscation enchantment engraved on it, which catches her off guard. Her face darkens as she realizes I managed to create a counterskill that resisted both her brother's influence and her own sorcery. This blacksmith is becoming a serious problem for her family's control. Back in the classroom, I'm sitting at my desk, tinkering with several daggers. I seem completely focused on the mechanics of the weapons rather than the lecture. Suddenly, a blue system window pings. It confirms that a connection has been established with Erika Inoue. I just look at it with a flat expression because she's not even in the room. I start to wonder if she was actually spying on me while I was fighting that underling earlier. I shrug it off though, figuring I got proper compensation for the trouble regardless. I pick up one of the daggers, noting that while it's a bit crude to use as is, it would be perfectly usable if coordinated with a Black Spear mage. I'm always thinking about how to optimize my gear. The classroom is full of students listening to a lecture, but I'm bored out of my mind. I was looking forward to Professor Kim Inkyul's class, but I've ended up stuck listening to theories I already mastered 30 years ago. Professor Perry, looking like a battle-hardened veteran with his silver hair and sharp gaze, stands at the front of the room. He tells the class that the explanation is sufficient and it's time to begin the practical work in earnest. He places a scarred hand on a dark metal ingot, explaining that even with the same metal, its form can change completely depending on how the mana array is altered. A visual representation shows the metal warping and twisting into different shapes. The professor emphasizes that these applications of form transformation determine the diversity of equipment. He points to several differently shaped ingots on his desk. He tells us that as a blacksmith, we must fully grasp the potential of the metal we handle. I watch as the professor reaches out to touch another piece of metal. The old man's hands are covered in scars from years at the forge, showing his true experience. The professor announces that today we will practice metal transformation using a standard iron ingot. The students look a bit intimidated, but I'm just ready to get my hands dirty. He breaks down the first task: manipulate the mana array to create a 3 cm notch at the center of the ingot, and then restore it perfectly. He warns us that the metal has been adjusted to be extremely sensitive. The professor sets a strict 10-minute time limit for the exercise. He wants to see who actually has the finesse to handle magical refining without rejecting the process entirely. The classroom erupts into chaos as students struggle to mold the metal. One guy is sweating and panicking, wondering why the ingot won't return to its original state no matter how much mana he pours in. I place my hands on my ingot with total confidence. A sharp clang rings out as I exert my will over the material. Almost immediately, me and Hans Warmuth both announce we've finished. Hans looks smugly at his completed ingot, thinking he's finally matched the top student. The professor looks over, seemingly impressed. He tells the two of us that we will proceed to the next, much more difficult stage of the training. The professor demonstrates a complex magic array, causing a floating stone to glow with blue light. He tells us to apply this example to our own work. Hans looks over at me with a devious grin. He's thinking that since our speed and completeness were similar this time, he actually has a chance to win. The professor gestures toward a jagged, complex metal structure. He tells us the next task is to replicate this specific array exactly. Hans focuses hard, his ingot glowing with a dark, swirling aura. He thinks he's nailed it, muttering to himself, "This is it." Hans looks at his finished product with a look of pure triumph. To his eyes, it looks absolutely perfect no matter which way he examines it. Suddenly, the professor speaks up, calling out Hans Warmuth specifically. He gives a cold order to restore the iron ingot to its original form. Hans is totally blindsided, stammering out a confused question. He thought he was done, and the sudden command has him visibly shaking. As Hans tries to revert the metal, it starts to crack and crumble. A system note points out that the mana array is completely damaged, meaning the structure is beyond repair. The professor explains that the ingot could not withstand the transformation Hans forced on it. He tells him point blank that he used the wrong processing method from the very start. The professor reminds the entire class of what he said earlier. A blacksmith must fully grasp the potential of the metal. If you force it too hard, you destroy its future. He notes that if it's impossible to restore an altered array, the equipment simply does not transform. It just deteriorates into junk metal. Hans is left standing there looking like a scolded child. Hans mumbles that he'll keep that in mind, but his face is red with embarrassment. He's realizing that there's a massive gap between making something look cool and actually understanding the craft. Hans looks over at me, wondering if I actually noticed the flaw, or if I just stood there blankly and got lucky. I, of course, am just staring at my metal with a calm hum. I place a hand on my metal orb, muttering, "That will do." I've moved with such precision that it looks like I wasn't even trying. A shadowy, smoky aura rises from my metal as it perfectly shifts back to its original shape. The control I'm displaying is honestly scary. The other students are whispering in the background, saying it makes no sense that a technique student could do something even the top cadets are failing. Professor Perry looks directly at me, asking me to show that specific transformation one more time. He's starting to realize he's dealing with someone special. I hold up a jagged, thorny black orb made from the ingot. I give a cheeky smile, saying I actually made a slight misunderstanding because I thought it was a different type of iron. The professor stares at the shadowy aura surrounding the orb. He realizes that it was only possible for me to do this because the ingot was adjusted for cadets. On normal iron, it would have been impossible. The old man looks humbled, admitting to himself that he failed to notice the metal's true sensitivity while I caught it immediately. That's a massive win for me. I have a brief vision of my past self, the artisan of flames from the future. I remember that the transformation formula I'm using now will eventually become a legendary fundamental problem for all future blacksmiths. I reflect on the truth of iron, a burning, powerful sword from my original timeline. I'm bringing future knowledge into a freshman classroom, and it's completely breaking the scale. As the class ends, I start to walk away, thinking to myself that if I break the school's equipment again, I'm going to be in serious trouble. A beautiful shot of the academy building at sunset. The clock tower shows that it's finally the end of a long, drama-filled day of classes. Professor Perry stops me before I can leave, asking for a moment of my time. I look back with a curious, "What is it?" The professor opens a small, ornate box revealing a glowing red jewel. He says to consider it an entrance gift, thanking me for choosing Babel Academy. The system pulls up the info. It's a crimson flame gem. It's a rare rank, highest quality ore that can permanently strengthen the user's flame affinity. This is a massive power-up. I'm genuinely shocked by the gift. The professor explains that he heard I handle crimson flames, so he prepared this specifically for me. I give a respectful bow, thanking the professor and admitting this will be a great help. I'm clearly pleased with the unexpected reward. Then the professor drops the real hook. He asks if I'm interested in taking his elective course, Weapon Origin Studies. I repeat the name with interest. I know Robert Perry's reputation, and Weapon Origin Studies is one of the most prestigious classes in the school. I realized that this class is one of the most well-funded in all of Babel. It's the perfect place for me to get my hands on even better materials. I think about how I had never even heard Robert Perry's name before my regression. It seems like my current path is leading me toward allies I never knew I had. I agree to enroll on the spot. The professor is a bit surprised, noting that I've already applied for quite a few electives for a freshman. I shrug it off, noting that this only makes 4 electives in total. The professor looks a bit stressed by my casual attitude towards such a heavy workload. The two of us lock hands in a firm handshake. The professor says he looks forward to working with me from now on, and I reply likewise. A system notification pops up, showing that I've successfully extracted affinity from Kim In-kyul again, gaining even more fire-infused iron. Later that night, I'm sitting on my dorm room floor in the dark. I'm reflecting on the day, thinking about how a person's body can be forged just like metal. I contemplate the conflict that happens when multiple attribute manas exist within the body. For a normal blacksmith, this instability is fatal, but I have a plan. I hold the crimson flame gem in my hand, a look of absolute determination on my face. I think, but I am different, my eyes glowing in the dark. We get a close-up on the gem as it starts to glow with an intense red light. I grip it tight, preparing to absorb its essence directly into my body. A system-style X-ray of my body shows the mana circuits beginning to glow red. I'm literally constructing a mana circuit from my crimson flame by common flows. My face is bathed in the harsh red light of the gem as it starts to crack. I'm pushing my mana to the limit to handle the sudden surge of power. I meditate as blue and red mana swirl around me in a violent vortex. I think, and finally, as the two energies start to fuse together. A massive explosion of red mana fills the screen with the text, "I forge myself." This is the moment I transcend my freshman limits. The system confirms the success. My attribute mana has been strengthened from F to E+. It's a small step, but a massive boost to my firepower. More notifications flood in. I've acquired the skill Body Refinement, Divine Magic Eye. My physical stats are also climbing across the board. I have a brief flashback to a dark alleyway where a woman in a lab coat is looking at me. This looks like a memory of my future, or maybe a past I haven't reached yet. Leah Claudel is shown in the memory, looking over her shoulder with a sharp grin. She calls me an idiot, asking if that's really how I expect to succeed. Back in the present, I give a devious little smirk to the empty room. I mutter, "Yeah, right, I'll use everything available to me." The final shot shows me standing alone in my dark room, looking out the window. I declare that this time, I won't leave behind any regrets. I'm officially leveling up. We're back at Babel Academy, and the morning sun is hitting those towers just right. Today is the day the freshmen put the finishing touches on their first projects for delivery, both on and off campus. The professors are putting the pressure on, reminding everyone that what they produce today effectively sets the entire tone for their first semester. It's a no-regrets kind of day, and you can feel the stress in the air. The workshop echoes with the energetic response of students ready to prove themselves. Everyone is eager to show they belong at the top academy in the world. But then we have me, and I'm looking at a sword like it's a total mess. I realize my young body just couldn't keep up with my master-level mind, leading to misalignments everywhere. I grip my hammer with a look of pure focus, telling myself I don't have the luxury of taking it easy. I've got 30 years of perfection to catch up to, and it starts right here. The furnace roars as I get to work, sparks flying everywhere with every heavy strike. I'm not just fixing a mistake, I'm reforging my future. I let out a long breath, examining the blade in the dim light of the forge. I mutter that this should be enough to fix it, my eyes sharp and analytical. I know I'm running out of time and won't be able to finish the whole batch today. I figure a few decent pieces might secure a better budget, but my perfectionism is kicking in. I decide to stop rushing and focus on quality, thinking it's better to forge even a single blade properly. I start the delicate process of sharpening the edge with incredible care. You get a close-up of the blade meeting the stone, the metal being ground down to a razor-sharp finish. You can practically hear the rhythmic sound as I work. I continue the steady, rhythmic motion, my hands moving with a grace that most veteran smiths would envy. This isn't just work, it's art. I stand back, alone in the workshop as the day starts to fade. I'm putting everything into this one sword, and it's about to pay off. Suddenly, a dark flashback of the world's end flashes through my mind. I remember the sound of crumbling ruins and the crushing weight of failure. But those memories just fuel my determination. I think that whenever I hear this sound, I know I've forged something great, a small, confident smirk appearing on my face. I look at the finished blade, and it's a masterpiece. I haven't just given it temporary sharpness, I've etched a legendary edge directly into the blade itself. The system pings with a massive notification. WHIT, Illite, the Armin Whitlight Greatsword is being completed. My hard work just hit the jackpot. The messages keep coming, praising me as a truly great blacksmith who manifests his will through the basics alone. I even unlock a new skill, White Light Style, C. Talk about an overpowered reward. Check out the stats, a rare grade, high-quality greatsword. It's got specialized effects for light attribute mana, and it looks absolutely sleek. I test the balance of the blade, looking satisfied even though I only use common iron. I know that with better materials, this thing would be a god slayer. I give a confident smile as the sword catches the light. My pre-regression skills are returning faster than I expected, and I'm ready for more. Meanwhile, other students are looking at their own work and feeling totally defeated. One of them mopes, wondering if they should just drop out. Yeah, compare that to me and you'll see the gap. Fast forward to Saturday morning in the city. It's a peaceful day, a complete 180 from the intense forging sessions at the academy. I'm walking with Leah Caudell, the eccentric enchantress. She's curious about my fundamental skills, but I warn her that my workspace is a bit more secluded than she might expect. We head out into the countryside, and Leah starts to complain. She asks if this isn't a little too far out of the way, not realizing we're heading somewhere special. The view is stunning. Green fields and old buildings under a clear blue sky. It's the perfect place for a hidden master's workshop. We finally arrive at the Akukuf smithy. Leah gets all excited, announcing that we finally made it to our destination. We step inside, and Leah immediately shouts at the top of her lungs for her grandma that she's back. She's definitely got that favorite granddaughter energy. A mysterious figure is silhouetted in the kitchen area, surrounded by pots and pans. The atmosphere is cozy but serious. Meet Helena, the silver-haired master of the house. She's not exactly the warm cookies type of grandma, grumbling that she's not deaf. Helena looks at me with a skeptical eye, asking if I'm Leah's boyfriend. Leah immediately shouts, "Not a chance," while I just stand there looking annoyed. Helena is not impressed, calling me a soft-looking brat. She thinks Babel is doomed if this is the kind of student they're letting in as department head. I introduce myself politely as a first year in the smelting department. Helena just gives me a cold, "I'm Helena," making it clear I have to earn her respect. She tells Leah to stop wasting time and get to work, complaining that they have a backlog because of all the new freshmen. Leah just gives a casual, yeah, clearly used to the grumbling. Leah leads me toward the workshop, and I'm already analyzing Helena. I'm amused that old woman's skills are even better than I thought. I look around at the well-maintained tools and equipment. I can tell just by the atmosphere that this place is run by a true professional. I wonder why a master like Helena is running a simple hardware shop in the middle of nowhere. It seems like a bit much for such a talented person to me. Leah shows me her enchantment palette, which is filled with powders made from ground-up mana stones. It looks more like a makeup kit than a magic tool, honestly. I ask if the job is to restore damaged formulas using these powders. I'm already putting the pieces together of how she works her magic. Leah digs through her supplies with a bingo. She's found exactly what she needs for the next project. She starts applying the enchantment to a simple frying pan with incredible focus. The mana starts to swirl around her as she gets into the zone. We get a close-up of her hand using a brush wreathed in golden light. This isn't just painting, she's weaving magical circuits onto the metal. The pan glows with a completed formula. It's a beautiful, intricate piece of magic work on such a mundane object. I realize I came here because I heard they were stuck in a slump. I'm observing everything, looking for the root of the problem. I watch Leah work and think about the academy. I figure someone who can't even hold on to their department head spot wouldn't understand why they're struggling. But seeing Leah in person changes everything. I think I've finally found both the cause and the solution to their little problem. I'm actually impressed, noting that being able to lose oneself in work like that is a talent all its own. Leah is a true genius. She just needs the right materials. I dig through a box of scrap and find something interesting. My blacksmith sense is tingling. I find a piece that resonates perfectly with mana circuits. I think this is it, knowing this will grant incredible special effects if used right. I admit my hands have been itching to engrave white light again. Helena tells me to give it a try, wanting to see if I'm all talk or not. She tells me to pick anything from the junk pile. Leah thinks I'm just creating more work for her, but she's curious to see what I'll do. I spot a high-quality custom whetstone and think I might as well go all out. I'm going to show them what real sharpening looks like. I pick up a basic kitchen knife, and Helena is genuinely confused. She asks if I'm going with that one, expecting something more heroic. I just give a firm yes. I don't need a legendary sword to prove my skill. A simple tool will do just fine. I examine the knife and I'm surprised by the quality. I think the edge is perfectly aligned. It feels like it belongs to someone who truly knows a sword. I'm gaining even more respect for Helena. I choose the whetstone with the most evenly compressed mana particles. I'll sharpen this blade to its absolute limit, way beyond what it was meant for. I get to work. The rhythmic scraping of the blade on the stone, the only sound in the room. My hands are moving with robotic precision. Helena watches me with wide eyes, completely stunned. She can't believe a freshman who just enrolled this year could have this level of mastery. Leah finishes her work and lets out a triumphant done. She's looking way too proud of herself right now. She finally notices Helena and asks when she got there. She's been so focused, she didn't even hear the master enter the room. Helena just scoffs, telling her, "Beats me, you brat." She thinks Leah tried to outshine me but just ended up getting schooled by a first year. Helena delivers a sharp flick to Leah's forehead, telling her to shut up. Leah's glasses go flying as she lets out a pained cry. Helena asks me if I'm finished. I give a modest, well, as I hold up the kitchen knife, which is now glowing with a faint, ethereal light. I look at my work and think it's just the best I can do for now. I'm such a perfectionist, it's almost scary. Helena tells us both to clear out of the workshop. She's got that "I need to look at this in private" look on her face as we leave. Leah pulls me away, calling Helena cranky as we head out. I just follow along, knowing I left a big impression on the silver-haired master. Helena is left alone, staring at the kitchen knife I sharpened. She looks like she's seen a ghost as she examines the edge. Suddenly, a guy in a flashy pinstripe suit bursts through the door. He yells, asking if his sis is in the middle of smelting, looking way too energetic. It's Professor Ricardo Miles from the academy. Helena tells him to keep it down, complaining about the pile of orders she has to deal with. Ricardo is whining about her hobbies, and she just tells him to stop poking his nose into other people's business. These two have a total sibling dynamic. Ricardo finds the kitchen knife I worked on and exclaims, "Here it is." He's about to get the shock of his life. He looks at the edge and freezes. The silence says it all. This is way beyond any sharpening he's ever seen on a household item. He asks if Helena sharpened it while she was drunk again. He can't believe his sister would put this much effort into a random knife unless she was out of her mind. Helena drops the bombshell. A freshman did it. Ricardo is looking at her like she's grown a second head, letting out a shocked, "What?" Helena confirms it with a dead serious expression. It was a freshman who enrolled this year. She's just as shocked as he is. The final shot is me looking out over the city. Ricardo is left wondering, just who is that guy? Oh buddy, you have no idea who you're dealing with. I'm walking with Leah through the academy grounds, leaving the hardware store behind. I mentioned that the grandmother who runs the place used to be a prestigious professor in the Department of Metallurgy. Leah explains that the old woman retired 5 years ago to open her own shop. When I ask if there's a deeper story, Leah just shrugs it off, saying there's nothing special as far as she knows. I stare up at the massive academy spires, thinking about the future. I know that in the original timeline, this department eventually becomes the weakest at Babel, and I'm not about to let that happen again. Leah suddenly pivots, looking for some praise. She asked me how her enchantment was. I admit her fundamentals are solid, and it was hard to find any fault, but I've got a but coming. I add with a smirk that her thinking is too narrow. Leah looks absolutely floored, her jaw practically hitting the pavement at my critique. I stop and turn back to her. I point out that she thought of a better method, yet she didn't use it. Leah stammers, wondering how I could possibly know that. I explain that a creator's imagination is both a weapon and a talent, and by playing it safe, she's just suppressing her own potential. Leah is left in a dark, swirling daze of self-reflection. She mutters, asking, "Do you think I don't know that?" Looking totally shook. I realize I might have been a bit too blunt with my teaching. I sigh and pull out my specialized bracelet, adjusting the settings. I'm already thinking about my next training session. I look back at her with a serious expression, telling her to focus closely because my schedule is tight. I'm about to show her what a real advanced technique looks like. I activate the blade, shouting, "Crimson Lotus." A massive burst of red mana and fire erupts from the dagger, lighting up the dim evening light. Leah watches in pure awe as the energy swirls around the blade. Her shocked expression says it all. She's never seen anything like this. I explain that true enchantment shouldn't just be a layer on the exterior, but something woven deep beneath the surface of the weapon. I tell her that if one layer isn't enough, she should divide the mana into multiple layers. I'm holding the glowing red blade, looking like a total master. I mutter, "If you do this," preparing to throw. I'm showing her how the enchantment interacts with physical force. I throw the dagger with a sharp sound. It streaks through the air, heading straight for a target. The blade embeds itself deep into a stone wall, the mana still pulsing from the impact. You can see the heat radiating from the metal. I explain the logic. The killing intent trickles down, following the flow of the Crimson Lotus enchantment. It's a genius-level synergy between smithing and enchanting. I admit it can't really be called a proper enchantment yet, but it's a good start. I'm such a perfectionist, it's almost funny. Leah is staring at me with a look of pure realization. She's starting to see that geniuses like me pave their own path even when they're hesitating. Suddenly, she snaps. She screams for her junior to let her borrow that, lunging toward me with grabby hands. A hilarious chibi scene shows her practically tackling me. She's begging to remake it properly, promising to return it as a masterpiece. I just shrug and hand over a bag of materials. I say, "I don't mind, but if you're taking it, then take this too." Always the generous mentor. Leah is over the moon, jumping for joy with the gear. She shouts her thanks and that she loves me, her heart-shaped speech bubble making her excitement clear. I walk away, leaving her to her madness. A ping sound effect highlights a new notification on my screen. The system confirms it is extracting a connection from the target, Leah Claudel. My connection level with her just jumped to 13%. I enter a busy stadium area, noting that Babel is filled with people far superior to me right now. I'm here to watch a battle between the young mad dog and the demon god of extinction. Eric is right behind me as usual. I sigh and ask, "What are you doing?" This girl's like a permanent shadow. She just gives me a cold stare saying, "I'm following you." I ask if she'll leave if I tell her to, and I already know the answer. She says she will, that she can watch from a little distance. I just mutter as if you would, and keep walking. I find myself in a quiet park near the Marshall Hall, the autumn leaves scattering in the breeze. I spot a lone figure sitting on a bench, looking totally drained. It's Yeom Songhya, alive and well, though he looks like he's having a crisis after that loss. I watch him from a distance, thinking about our shared history. I have a flashback to the apocalypse, remembering Yeom as one of the pillars of the final strike force. He might have had a trash personality, but he was undeniably strong, and I'm hoping to get his bondstone before things get ugly this time around. I walk up and ask if he was watching the match. Yeom looks up, his expression a mix of annoyance and exhaustion. Yeom admits he was, but then adds that he's impressed I managed to track him down. He's clearly not in the mood for company. He looks at me with pure disdain, asking what the top student of the technical faculty is doing here. The elitism is strong with this one. I just give a casual smile, saying I was hoping we could talk for a bit. I'm acting way too friendly for someone who just met his future rival. Yeom isn't having it, giving a blunt leave. He's got that classic brooding loner energy turned up to 11. I ignore the command, telling Yeom to just hear me out once. I'm persistent, which is clearly starting to grate on the spearman's nerves. Yeom goes on a rant about people who can't do anything on their own and try to act equal through cheap tricks. He's basically calling me a poser. He calls me a blacksmith like it's an insult, his voice dripping with venom. The atmosphere is getting real heavy, real fast. I just stand there, thinking to myself that compared to the mad dog I knew in the future, this kid is actually pretty tame. I'm not even remotely intimidated. Suddenly, mana starts to crackle around us. I realize Yeom has no intention of backing off and is ready to settle this with force. Yeom glares at me, telling me he's giving me just one warning. He's looking like he's about to snap. He declares that the history of the Flame Wheel Blossoming Spear is going to end because of me. Talk about dramatic. A shadow of a legendary warrior looms behind Yeom, emphasizing the weight of his family's legacy. He's really taking this loss to heart. Yeom lunges forward with a massive punch. He's not using a spear, but his physical power is still through the roof. I react instantly, my own fist glowing with an intense orange light. I'm not just defending, I'm countering. The system pings, Bond Engraving Gridiron is activating. I'm tapping into my unique blacksmith abilities to level the playing field. The blue notification fills the screen as the energy from my bracelet starts to surge. This is where things get interesting. Yeom is shocked as his mana-packed punch is brushed aside like it was nothing. He's realizing he might have underestimated the technical student. I stand tall, telling Yeom he has enough worth to talk to, but he's still got a long way to go. The level of sass is legendary. Yeom is fuming. The ember trails of his mana still lingering in the air. He refuses to believe he's being outclassed by a blacksmith. We clash again, the air erupting in a violent explosion of fire and light. It's a literal battle of wills happening in the middle of a park. A massive pillar of fire shoots up into the sky. The power being released is way more than what two freshmen should be capable of. I'm shrouded in white mana, standing firm against the inferno. I look like a total boss right now. I let out a long breath as the smoke clears. I'm looking completely unfazed, while Yeom is starting to panic. Yeom is sweating, wondering why his ember trails are responding to my hand instead of his own mana. He's starting to realize I'm manipulating the very energy of the fight. You get a close-up on my eyes. I'm in total control. I know Yeom is on the verge of losing it completely. Yeom is surrounded by a dark, ominous aura. The narration mentions the Yeomwa Gate massacre, suggesting that his family's power has a very dark side. A shadow of a demon with a spear looms over the battlefield. This is the mad dog potential starting to manifest way too early. Yeom delivers a series of explosive strikes, but I note that the effect of Greed Iron is almost gone and my body is reaching its limit. I'm playing a dangerous game. Yeom swings for another heavy blow, but I just watch with a calm expression. I think so much for building a nice, clean bond. I'll just have to break him. I catch the punch with a massive metallic clang. I've literally stopped a freight train with my bare hands. Leaves fly everywhere as the shockwave ripples through the park. The silence that follows is deafening. Yeom is frozen in place, his hand gripped tightly by mine. He looks like he can't even comprehend what just happened. Suddenly, a blonde guy jumps into the frame. Yeom exclaims in surprise, recognizing Jake Myers. Jake gets right between us, shaking with a mix of excitement and fear. He asks Yeom if he knows Borsippa's faculty top, who just gives a confused, "Why yeah, sort of." Jake looks totally flustered, just staring at me with a silent expression. He clearly didn't expect to find his hero in a park fight. I just tell them both to go, looking like I've finished with my chores for the day. Jake bows frantically, promising to remember what I said. Yeom is left alone in the park, his pride absolutely shattered. He mutters that he lost his temper and actually swung on me, realizing how close he came to a disaster. He clenches his fist, thinking that at this rate, even his master's name would be dragged through the mud. He's reaching a turning point in his life. Yeom watches me walk away, thinking about me and wondering what was he thinking, picking a fight with that senpai. He's genuinely worried now. I just smirk back over my shoulder. I think, died, my ass, totally dismissive of Yom's warning. The system pings, a bond has been formed with Yom Song Ha, and just like that, the extraction process begins. I look at my screen, thinking that since Yom is this soft right now, the Bondstone's effect might be different than before. I'm already planning how to raise our connection level. Jake Myers is walking beside me, looking a bit sheepish. He asks if my hand is okay, noticing the scrape on my knuckles. Jake shows off his own hand, boasting that they're tougher than the rest of him. He's such a fanboy, it's adorable. I just give a flat, strong hands, huh? Clearly uninterested in the small talk. I'm focused on the bigger picture. Jake asks if I happen to say anything about his sister back in the arena. I just give a nonchalant, yeah, which clearly triggers some alarms for Jake. Jake has a total panic moment. He screams, WHHA. No wonder Sis kept asking me questions. He's realizing his sister, Arya Myers, is actually interested in me. The chapter ends with a shot of Arya's shadowy figure behind me. Jake warns that it means my sis has taken an interest in you. Looks like I just caught the eye of the Academy's champion. Jake Myers is currently having a midlife crisis at age 15, warning me that his sister, Arya, has actually taken an interest in me. Her silhouette looms behind us like a final boss waiting to happen. We get a shot of Arya from earlier, smiling while she's surrounded by thousands of cheering fans. Jake explains that she's an S-rank hero with hearing so sharp she probably heard us from the noisy stands. I'm totally unbothered, thinking to myself that this is exactly what I wanted. I know Yom Song-ha's biggest obsession is beating Arya, so getting her attention is the perfect way to stand out. Jake gets right in my face, warning me not to take this lightly. He tells me that I don't know his sister, she's incredibly petty and holds on to grudges. Jake continues his terrified rambling, adding that she's also a master schemer. I just stare at him with a deadpan expression while he's practically vibrating with fear. Jake looks over at me, sweating bullets. He stammers that that's a bit much, realizing he might have said too much about his scary older sister. I reflect on Arya Myers, the Holy Sword Master. I ask myself what she even did to make me dislike her so much in my past life. I see a vision of Arya in her full battle gear, looking every bit the legendary hero. She's powerful, talented, and respected by everyone except me. I remember her future self, standing over a pile of rubble. Even her legendary sword wasn't anything special in my eyes, as a master blacksmith from the future. A dark, red-tinted flashback shows the Holy Sword Master vanishing and being replaced by a monster using a demon god's remains as a weapon. This was the demon god of annihilating light. Back in the present, I just sigh and mutter, I just don't like her face. Talk about a simple reason for such a deep-seated grudge. I say I'm leaving, waving a hand as I walk away down the city street. I've got better things to do than listen to Jake's family drama. My footsteps echo on the pavement as I head back toward the academy. I'm already focused on my next project at the forge. Jake stands there in the middle of the sidewalk, looking totally confused. He wonders what on earth happened between us, scratching his head. Suddenly, Jake's phone goes off with a sharp ping. He reaches for it, looking a bit nervous about who might be calling. He looked at the screen and his heart practically stops. His shocked expression says it all. This is a text message he definitely didn't want to receive. It's from Arya. She asked him for a favor, calling herself his petty, scheming big sis with a creepy little smiley face. Looks like she was listening after all. A wide shot of the empty street as Jake is left to face his doom. The wind blows past him as he realizes he's in for a very bad time when he gets home. The next morning in class, I'm slumped over my desk, rubbing my neck. I think maybe I pushed it too hard with Yong Shong-ha yesterday, feeling the physical toll of my training. Hans Warmuth is sitting at the next desk, looking equally stressed. He mentions that the exchange meet schedule should be set soon, trying to stay ahead of the curve. Suddenly, the classroom doors are kicked open with a massive bam. A tiny guy in a top hat rolls into the room, shouting for everyone's attention. He introduces himself as Reese Doba and tells the class he'll be in charge of our major courses for the next 2 weeks. The subject? Attribute smithing. Reese rummages through his bag as students whisper that he's the famous lunatic professor. He ignores the rumors and says he has something important to hand out before we start. Reese pulls out a piece of paper, looking very official in his little tuxedo and top hat. He's ready to announce the results of the recent practical exam. He calls out my name, Lee Se-hoon. I stand up calmly, already expecting some kind of news about my budget or ranking. Hans Warmuth is sweating, staring at me with pure jealousy. He's internally calculating that I'll probably get 3 times the budget he received for his performance. I look a bit surprised when the professor tells me I don't have a budget yet. I ask for clarification, wondering if I somehow messed up. Reese explains that my piece was so exceptionally well done that they decided to put it up for open auction with the second years this Wednesday. That is a massive honor for a freshman. The professor tells me they'll decide my budget based on the final bid. I wonder if this is more of Vice-Dean Michael's meddling, trying to distance me from the other freshmen. Reese notes that Professor Kim In-keol would have stepped in if there were a real problem, so I just give a nod of understanding and sit back down. Reese adds that they have a cadet who volunteered to assist with the class, looking toward the door. This is a surprise that has the whole room murmuring. The door opens and Yeom Sung-ha walks in. The students go into a full shock mode, realizing a top senior from the spirit department is their temporary TA. I watch Yeom thinking, why is that senpai here? I realize he must be taking this seriously if he's volunteering for extra work after his loss. Reese tells us that's enough introductions and instructs everyone to focus. He wants to get the core concepts of attribute smithing straight before we head to the forge. A diagram of a magic core appears. Reese explains the two types, the basic charge type and the independent type that generates or absorbs mana from the air. The tiny professor explains that there's no fixed standard for building a mana core because it changes based on materials, technique, and the maker's own mana flow. He calls Yeom forward to demonstrate. Yeom steps up to the front of the class, looking intensely serious as he prepares to show off his fire attribute control. Yeom's hand begins to glow with an unstable, flickering red mana. It's clear that he has a massive amount of power that he's struggling to contain. Reese explains that fire element mana is highly volatile, which makes residual mana use tricky. One slip up and the whole forge could go up in flames. Yeom activates his signature move, Flame, Wheel Blossoming Spear. Massive rings of fire erupt around him, lighting up the entire lecture hall. Hans Wormuth looks on with wide eyes, admitting that handling fire mana to that level is incredible. He admits he struggles just to control basic fire in a standard furnace. Reese tells the class to make the most of having such a talented TA. He drops the final bomb. Our first assignment is due next Thursday. Reese commands us to move to the forge and get moving. He reminds us not to forget to change into our smithing clothes. The classroom erupts into a flurry of activity. Hans looks over at Yeom with a look of pure determination, thinking this is his chance to butter up a powerful senior. Hans rushes up to Yeom, putting on his best prestigious family face. He says, "Good day, senpai," trying to act like they're on the same level. Yeom doesn't even look at him, given a cold, bone-chilling BEAT. Hans is left bowing and shivering like a scared puppy. I walk past the interaction, ignoring the drama as usual. I'm already mentally preparing for the smithing session ahead. Yeom watches me walk away, his eyes narrowing. He's definitely got something on his mind after our encounter in the park yesterday. Yeom looks conflicted, his expression shifting from annoyance to deep thought. He's still trying to process how a freshman blacksmith could read his mana so perfectly. Yeom calls out to me as we head down the hallway. I stop and turn around, looking curious about what the mad dog wants now. Yeom gets straight to the point, asking what I know about him. He's looking for answers that only a regressor should have. I reflect on Yeom's family legacy, noting that the current head of Yeonhwa Gate is an A-rank hero who reached 8 wheels of fire. It's a level of power most people can only dream of. I tell Yeom that he held 3 wheels with room to spare, so he could probably maintain 6 at once if he actually tried. Yeom just stares back, asking, "And what's your point?" Yeom follows me through the academy, his footsteps echoing on the stone floor. He's clearly not letting this go until he gets a real answer. I drop a bombshell, asking, "Did you reach 7 wheels once?" Yeom stops dead in his tracks, his eyes blown wide with absolute shock. Yeom is internally panicking, wondering how I could possibly know that. He's never even told his own master that his power had regressed from its peak. I turn to face him, telling him that while he's talented with fire, watching his flames move just felt off. I'm using my blacksmith's eye to diagnose a hero's trauma. I explain that it looks like he has plenty of power in reserve, but never lets it fully explode, flinging his flames around half-heartedly instead. It's a stinging but accurate critique. Yeom is shaking now, finally asking the question that's been eating at him. "So you know the cause?" He's practically begging for help at this point. I give a small, knowing smirk. I say, "I've got a guess, yeah, but I don't really see a reason to tell you though," playing hard to get. Yeom is left speechless, just stuttering out a confused, "What?" He can't believe a freshman is holding his entire future hostage like this. I keep walking, telling Yeom to just name what he wants. I've officially turned the tables on the senior hero. I lay out my terms, holding up one finger. First, you'll pay a fair price for every bit of advice and help I give you. I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I hold up a second finger. Second, whenever you run into something hard to judge, you'll come and talk to me. I'm basically offering a lifetime of coaching for a high fee. I tell Yeom to decide before we reach the forge. I'm giving the mad dog a chance to save his career, but it's going to cost him. You get a close-up on Yeom's face. He looks totally cornered. He knows he needs my knowledge, but his pride is taking a massive beating. I look back over my shoulder with a predatory grin. I add, "If you can show me proof." I'm ready to see if the mad dog is truly worth my time. Yeom Sung-ha agrees to the deal, looking more serious than ever. He's putting his entire career as a hero in my hands, a freshman blacksmith. I just give a small, confident smirk. I repeat my condition, provided you show me proof, keeping the power dynamic firmly in my favor. Back at the forge, other students are whispering about me. They can't understand why the valedictorian is doing something so seemingly redundant as basic attribute practice. I ignore the gossip, thinking to myself that there's no need for verification when you already know the outcome. I'm already working on my next masterpiece. The instructions appear on my mental screen, mix the fire attribute ore and dark attribute ore at a 7:3 ratio. This is high-level attribute alchemy that most wouldn't dare attempt. I'm wreathed in flames as I begin the process. The sound of crackling fire sells the raw power I'm channeling into the furnace. A fellow student warns that if you just throw them in, all the elemental mana will dissipate. They're looking at me like I'm a total amateur, not realizing I'm light years ahead of them. I focus my mana, thinking to apply heat until the elemental mana begins to leak out. My eyes are glowing with intensity as I monitor the transformation. You get a close-up of my face, I'm completely in the zone. A bead of sweat drips down my chin as the heat in the workshop becomes unbearable. I reach out my hand, the air around me shimmering with magical energy. The text notes I'm using, thermal displacement, a very advanced cooling technique. I adjust the flames and mana simultaneously to make the metal absorb the elemental mana. It's a delicate balancing act that only a master could pull off. The tiny professor, Riz Doba, is watching with a smirk. He knows there's a reason Kim In-shul accepted my entry for the public auction, even as a freshman. I look over at Yum Song Ha, who is watching intently. To everyone else, it looks like ordinary thermal displacement, but Yum sees a different sight altogether. Yum is focused, thinking to himself to watch closely. He's trying to absorb every bit of technique he can from me. I explain the process to him. Keep the fire attribute mana spreading outward while the dark attribute mana burrows inward on the outside. It's a complex structural enchantment. The visual shows the two manas swirling together in a perfect vortex of orange and purple. This maintains the stability of the ore. Yom mutters a quiet, "I see," as the realization hits him. He's beginning to understand the secret behind my knowledge. I know all about his second attribute, mana, the one that was forbidden because it interfered with his solar wheel ember spear. He's been suppressing his true potential for years because of that old rule. I can see a new light in Yom's eye. He's finally seeing a path forward for his powers, thinking, if I use it like that. He admits his power has dropped to the fifth wheel. For a successor, that's a major fall from grace. He's looking pretty pathetic right now. He tries to manifest his black flame wheels, but he can only manage 5. I know 5 black wheels are stronger than 7 regular ones, but he's still not at full strength. And to make matters worse, the Manhwa sect regularly sends an instructor to verify his skills. If he fails this, his future is over. The shadow of the 6 wheels looms behind him. He's worried that if he falls below the 6th wheel, he'll lose his successor status. The pressure is mounting. So, I suggest he should just do it the old way this one time to pass the verification. But he shuts me down immediately, saying it won't work anymore. He's surrounded by chaotic fire mana, admitting he can no longer control the dark attribute. His face is twisted with frustration. I ask when the instructor is coming, and he gives me the worst possible answer, tomorrow. Talk about a tight deadline. I look at Yom, thinking that losing his successor status would lead straight to excommunication. Is there a method that can be used in just one day? I put a hand on Yom's shoulder. "You," I say, with a look that means business. If your successor position is secured, are you willing to do anything? I'm about to drop a very risky plan on him. Yum just gives this sharp, predatory smile. He replies, "I am." He's ready to gamble everything on my plan. My eyes are probably glowing. Good, I mutter, the strategy already forming in my head. A system notification pops up for Bond Wan Yam. Sunga's Crimson Resonance Blackstone. It's an advanced rank, highest quality ore where fire and dark attributes coexist. Perfect. I hold out the glowing purple stone. First, I tell him, let's change your weapon. The Mad Dog is getting a serious upgrade. We move to a massive training room. I note that only the top 100 rankers in the martial arts hall, or the top 30 in the faculty, can use this facility. Show off, I mutter about Yom. I activate the room's hologram systems with a quick tap on a console. The text springs to life with a buzzing sound. Yom stands in the center of the arena, his shadow long against the high-tech walls. He's ready for the most intense training session of his life. I look around the room and ask about the Manhwa sect, and if he's homesick. Yom just explains that his master sent this setup to him so he can use it sometimes. I say, then let's start by making the training tool, holding the glowing affinity stone. I'm probably looking like I'm having way too much fun. With a metallic clang, I begin to forge the tool directly in the training room. My movements are a blur of professional skill. A screen displays the info for the Crimson Resonance Black Stone. Its unique wavelength causes internal mana to resonate perfectly. I announce that I'm done, holding up a sleek short spear. I've managed to craft a high-tier training tool in minutes. Yom takes the short spear, looking skeptical. He asks about the single short spear, saying a single is awkward enough, but dual spears, holding 2 of them. I explain that this setup suits handling 2 attribute manas better. I give the first command to create a flame wheel with his left hand and release dark attribute mana with his right. Yom looks a bit overwhelmed, asking, should I just release it? Yom takes a deep, focusing breath, closing his eyes to sense the flow of his internal mana. He's preparing for the hardest task he's ever faced. Yom lunges forward with both spears, flames, and dark energy erupting from his weapons. The sheer power of the Mad Dog is starting to return. A massive explosion of light and fire rocks the room. His shocked expression says it all. This was a huge breakthrough for his training. Yom stops, staring at his weapons in disbelief. He asks, "What was that just now?" I explain that he unconsciously let dark mana flow into his left hand. I point out that his manas interfere with each other badly, because he's only been suppressing the dark mana until now. He needs to learn to embrace both. I encourage him, saying reaching the sixth wheel will be easy once he's used to handling both attributes at the same time. I toss the training spears back to him. Yom catches them, noting that I really do have some good equipment. He's starting to gain a lot of respect from me. A text box marks the passage of time. 3 hours into training. The workout is far from over. Yom is a blur of motion, fire, and dark energy trailing after his spears. He's training like a man possessed, determined to keep his successor title. The intensity increases as Yom delivers a series of lightning-fast strikes. He's finally starting to integrate the 2 manas into his combat style. I watch from the sidelines, thinking that Yom is adapting remarkably fast. I wonder if it's because he's using a training method devised by my own future self. A diagnostic overlay appears on Yom's body, highlighting his breathing pattern and muscle movement. I'm literally analyzing the mad dog at a molecular level. The scan continues, focusing on the shift in the center of gravity. I'm gathering all the data I need for the next phase of my plan. Yom finishes a set, lunging forward one last time and releasing a blast of mana from the spear tip. He looks absolutely exhausted but triumphant. I'm staring at him with a deadpan expression. Yom asks, "What are you staring at?" looking a bit uncomfortable. "I'm just in data collection mode." I explain that I need this data to make the actual weapon he'll use. Yom flinches, clearly not expecting me to be so thorough. I shrug, saying I'm only making it as part of my assignment submission, so he shouldn't get his hopes up. Yom just huffs, saying who would expect much from gear made by a first year. I turn the conversation to something more serious, asking, "By the way, is there a reason you must keep the successor position?" I'm digging into his personal motivations. Yom pauses, looking thoughtful as he stares out over the training arena. He's never really been asked that question before. Yom stands with his back to me, his spear held loosely at his side. The silence in the room is heavy. He finally answers, saying his master wants him to become the sect leader. It's a weight of expectation he's carried his entire life. He tells me his backstory. He was an orphan with no family, taken in and raised as an adopted son by a legendary hero. We see a framed photo of Yom Jin Hayan, the hero who took him in. He looks like a younger, more powerful version of Yom. Yom remembers his master, who retired due to injury and lost his actual power. To Yom, he's both a master and a father, and his influence is absolute. I reflect on this, seeing the bond level at 12% pop up for Yom. I realize just how much his master means to him. Yom looks at me and asks the million-dollar question, "Why are you helping me?" He's finally starting to trust me. I give a mysterious smile, thinking about my long-term goals. I'm not doing this for charity, I'm building a future army. I think about the demon realms, places swallowed by the swamp and teeming with demonic beasts. This is the hellish future I'm trying to prevent. I explain my plan. I plan to enter all those demon realms. And to do that, I need people to protect me and materials for the weapons I'll give them. I add with a smirk, the next sect leader of the Manhwa sect should have both skill and money, right? Yom just scoffs, calling me materialistic. I laugh it off, saying obviously we haven't known each other long enough to expect charity. I'm always being upfront about my intentions. Yom points his spear at me, but this time it's not a threat, it's a challenge. He asks if I said I wanted a price for my help. Yom declares with absolute conviction that he will accompany me into those 6 great demon realms. He's officially pledging his life to my cause. You get a close-up on Yom's face as he makes the promise. He commands me to make the weapon, ready to become the protector I need. A vision of the future shows Yom standing over a defeated demon god with a massive sword. He vows that then he will kill the demon gods for me. I just laugh, thinking to myself that it's a success. I've successfully recruited the first hound for my team. I hold up the Crimson Resonance Black Stone, its dark light reflecting in my eyes. The deal is officially sealed in blood and steel. My face is wreathed in fire mana. I promise I'll make you sect leader even if you hate it now. My power level looking absolutely insane. The final notification pings. Karma Seal Crimson Resonance Blackstone is activated. The Mad Dog is about to be unleashed on the world. Yom begs me to help him become the master of the Flame Gate. He's realizing that I'm his only ticket to the top. He repeats his vow to follow me into the 6 great demonic regions if I help him. This is the official start of our partnership. A red-tinted vision shows Yom standing over the corpse of a demon god. He promises that, then I will kill the demon god for you. I let out a short laugh, my eyes dark and focused. I think to myself that this is going perfectly, enjoying how everything is falling into place. Songa holds up a glowing affinity stone, asking me if I'm sure I won't regret this choice. He's testing my resolve. I'm wreathed in fire, my eyes glowing with an intense orange light. I declare that I'll make him the clan master even if he hates it now, and I must look like a total villain. The scene shifts to a grand courtyard outside the martial hall. The atmosphere is traditional and imposing, reflecting the deep history of the warrior sects within the academy. Meet Kang Hyun-woon, the 7th ring instructor of the Flame Gate. He greets someone with a long time no see, looking every bit the arrogant martial arts master with that long ponytail. A wide shot shows a group of disciples standing in a ritual circle, while Yeom Songa and I watch from the sidelines. Apparently, the clan master sent them here to broaden their horizons by watching us spar. Instructor Kang gets a little cheeky, noting that Songha is the most outstanding person after the next clan master. I can see the smug look on his face as he tries to bait the younger fighter. Songha isn't having it, telling the instructor to watch his words because the next clan master hasn't even been decided yet. The tension between these two is thick enough to cut with a sword. The instructor challenges Songha to a test of skills right then and there. Songha just shuts him down with a flat, ice-cold NO. Yeom Songha is fuming internally, thinking about an idiot who only knows how to train daring to eye the clan master's seat. A massive ring of fire starts to manifest behind him, showing his rising anger. Kang Hyun-woon gives a devious smile, telling someone in the shadows to not hold back if Seongha challenges the 7th ring. He's clearly got a backup plan if things get messy. Songha gets right in the instructor's face, telling him he talks too much. He's finished with the pleasantries and is ready to let his power do the talking. Yum asks the instructor if he's afraid of being stripped of his position, which causes Kang to finally snap. He bellows for someone to bring him his spear immediately. They stand across from each other in the sparring circle. Sparring is described as a simple power struggle where the side with the stronger flame ring wins. Songha readies his new weapons, the dual short spears I made, which are glowing with an intense orange and red energy. He looks like a total demon of war right now. Instructor Kang laughs at the weapons, calling a pair of short spears crude. He clearly doesn't realize the genius blacksmithing that went into them. The fight is on. Their weapons collide with a massive crack, sending shards of mana and fire flying across the arena. Kang is furious, asking Yeom if he's forgotten the clan master's words to suppress his dark attribute mana. He calls the black flames filthy, showing the deep prejudice within the sect. Songha stands tall, wreathed in dark flame rings. He simply tells the instructor, "We'll find out who's right once we truly clash." Kang screams, "You will regret this," as he lunges forward for a decisive strike. He's putting all his pride as a 7th ring instructor into this one move. A massive explosion of light and sound rocks the courtyard as their powers meet head-on. The shockwave is enough to make the surrounding disciples stagger back. Through the smoke, we see Songha's silhouette standing firm. He's like a mountain in the middle of a forest fire, completely unfazed by the instructor's outburst. We get a close-up on the clashing weapons, sparks showering the ground. Songha is pushing back with an overwhelming amount of pressure. Instructor Kang's eyes blow wide in absolute terror. He's realizing in real time that he's completely outmatched by the crude freshman. Kang gasps, asking, "What on earth is this?" He's staring at a power he can't even begin to comprehend. The dark mana from Songha's spear starts to literally devour the instructor's fire. It's not just a struggle, it's a predatory takeover of his mana. Kang's spear begins to crack under the strain. The sound of the crack is the literal sound of his ego being shattered into pieces. With a final, violent shatter, the instructor's high-tier weapon breaks apart. He's been completely disarmed in one go. The instructor falls to his knees, staring blankly at the hilt in his hand. He's been thoroughly humiliated in front of his own disciples. Songha rests his spear on his shoulder, giving the instructor a taste of his own medicine with a casual, "Crude, huh? Talk about a legendary clapback." I walk up, looking down at the broken pieces with a look of pure disappointment. I mutter, "What a waste of good materials. Ever the pragmatic blacksmith." Yeom asks me about the requirements for becoming clan master. I explain that there are 2 main conditions. The first is to reach the 8th ring, and the second is to obtain the consent of the majority of the instructors. Songha looks like he's already planning how to check both boxes. I crouch down to pick up a broken blade fragment. I ask if Songha can get their consent, and Yeom confidently says he can take it through sparring without any problem. I give a devious little grin, telling Yeom to just worry about how he'll pay the price in the future. I'm already thinking about the high-tier materials I can squeeze out of this debt. Yeom stands tall, promising to provide anything from cash to materials as long as it's within his power. He's officially entered into a contract with me, and he has no idea what he's just signed up for. Yeom suddenly asks if he can commission another weapon already. I look back, surprised. Already? I just finished the last one. Yeom looks down at the dual spears I made him, admitting they're not bad, but they were ultimately just an assignment project. He wants the real deal now. He requests that I make him a more useful weapon. I can't help but smirk. My mind is already racing, wondering what kind of legendary spear I'm going to cook up next. Back to reality, I tell Yeom to get that spear out of my face before he pokes me with it. I'm done with the brooding for now. A system notification flashes in front of me. The relationship with Yeom Songha is a transaction. A bond stone has been created, and the speed of its maturation has increased. We jump to the Grand Auction Hall, which is packed with students and high-tier heroes. The scale of the event is massive. The announcer steps onto the stage with a microphone, shouting "Thank you for waiting" as the lights dim for the main event. I'm in the audience, and I guess I look like an absolute boss in my turtleneck and suit jacket. I note that there are way more participants than usual, feeling the eyes of the entire academy on me. I think to myself that it'll be hard for them to check me openly while I'm in the spotlight. I'm curious about Michael's latest scheme to seize control of the refining department. I can see Michael Warmut looking smug in the stands. He's clearly got a plan to humiliate me during the auction. On stage, the announcer reveals a special prize, a fabric woven from the fur of an S-rank magic beast, the white tiger. It's a high-tier material that has everyone murmuring in excitement. The fabric is shown to be both incredibly soft and virtually indestructible. It's the ultimate material for protective gear. A visual representation shows the fabric glowing with a celestial energy. The hype for this auction is reaching a fever pitch. The announcer explains that in this auction, they will use the fabric to increase the visibility of the sword's cutting power. This is a very targeted test. The announcer calls out for the first sword to be introduced, Cadet Joseph's blue shell sword. The silhouettes of the bidders are seen leaning forward in anticipation. I watch with a blank face, thinking, oh, this should be interesting. Next to me, Erika Inoue looks concerned, asking if I know why they're doing this specific test. We get some lore about the white tiger material. Its fur, hide, and bones are all magical. It's one of the toughest things to cut in the entire world. Erika wonders aloud if my white light greatsword is at a disadvantage. She notes that swords with increased cutting power usually have very low durability. I give a small, knowing smirk. I say, yeah, realizing this is a blatant setup aimed at discrediting Professor Kim and myself. The auction hammer slams down. Sword number 25 has been sold for 4 million won. The tension in the room is rising with every sale. Finally, it's time for the main event, sword number 36. The crowd goes dead silent as my piece is wheeled out. The sword is drawn, and a brilliant, blinding white light fills the entire auction hall. It's like a mini-star just exploded on stage. You get a close-up revealing the incredible detail on my white light greatsword. It's a perfect specimen of blacksmithing, pulsing with a pure energy. The blade descends toward the magic beast fabric with a sharp metallic sound. The moment of truth has finally arrived. Michael Warmut is sweating profusely, looking like he's about to have a heart attack. He realized too late that his perfect trap might have just handed me another victory. The blade slices through the air and the fabric with no resistance at all. It's the cleanest cut anyone has ever seen in this academy's history. Over on the side, Vice Dean Michael Barmut looks like his entire world just imploded. Yeah, he's staring at the stage, completely speechless, probably wondering what on earth just happened to his perfect little plan to sabotage the exam. Meanwhile, I just stand there with my back to the judges. Gotta look cool, right? Hand on my hip, totally owning the room while everyone else is still processing the miracle they just witnessed. I step forward into the spotlight, looking right at the crowd and the judges. Will you allow me to explain briefly? I ask. You can practically hear the murmurs ripple through the stands as everyone whispers my name. I start spinning the white light longsword in my hand, and the blade begins to glow with this brilliant, ethereal light. This isn't just a regular sword. I'm about to show them a masterpiece of technical forging that's going to break their common sense. Time for a little science lesson. I explain how the sword gathers mana that's normally just scattered in the atmosphere and condenses it right on the edge of the blade. It's basically like having a laser-thin edge made of pure energy. The crowd is having a total meltdown. I can hear them whispering about how it's impossible. One guy even admits he can't feel that mana at all, no matter how hard he tries. And honestly, that just proves how much better my senses are. I just give them a small, knowing smirk. It's perfectly normal that you can't feel the mana, I tell them. After all, I'm the one who forged it to be that way. I keep going. While the mana density isn't high enough to be called sword chi, it's far too sharp to be called mere light. We call this a sharpness aura, and it's the secret to its insane cutting power. Erika Inoue looks up from her seat, totally intrigued by my little lecture. She asks me if that means the phenomenon from earlier was also caused by this sharpness aura. I give a sharp nod. Exactly. I explain that when two identical sharpness auras clash, they don't cancel each other out. Nope. They cause a massive resonance that boosts their power. I hold up a small piece of metal like I'm about to do a magic trick. And with this little trinket, I tell everyone, I can do something very interesting. And right on cue, the system pings in my vision. Ah, Erika's social link stone. It's a high-rank artificial ore that can adjust the disorganized internal mana of other minerals. This is some top-tier crafting material right here. I activate the bond imprint from the social link stone, and a massive surge of blue mana flows from my hand straight into the longsword. Alright, time to get even crazier. The system confirms it for me. The blade's fluctuating mana is being perfectly adjusted. Yeah, I'm basically fine-tuning a sword in the middle of an auction. Total flex, I know. I can feel the energy start to concentrate into a single, sharp line along the blade. Okay, all I need to do now is add a clear path for the mana to follow. And boom. A massive shockwave of blue light erupts from the blade as the final adjustment clicks into place. The power level of this weapon is skyrocketing right in front of everyone's eyes. Then the system drops the big one. The rank of the White Light Longsword has officially risen to RA Air. The notification fills the room, and I can just hear the collective gasp from the audience. And just check out these stats. It's a rare grade weapon with a unique skill called Sharpness Aura Reinforcement. This thing is an absolute monster for any sword user. I look at my handiwork. Yeah, as I expected, a common whetstone just wasn't going to be enough to set this edge properly. I guess I've officially reached a level where normal tools can't keep up with me. I turn to the auctioneer. You'll need to reflect this rank up in the starting price. The poor guy is totally flustered, stammering that he'll adjust it according to the manual. The bidding starts, and the price immediately jumps from 1 million to 5 million won. The announcer is really hyping it up, reminding everyone that this is an upgraded rare rank item from the top student everyone is talking about. That's me, by the way. Erika Inoue isn't wasting any time. She holds up bid paddle number 137. She knows exactly how valuable this sword is, and she wants it. The bidding war goes absolutely ballistic. I see paddles for 30 million, then 100 million won. The energy in this room is electric. And there's Michael Barmut completely losing his mind and screaming out a bid for 200 million. He's sweating bullets, trying to buy back some of his family's pride by overpaying for my work. Pathetic. Erika Inoue doesn't even flinch. She immediately counters with 210 million. She's acting like she's just buying a cup of coffee instead of a legendary sword. The auctioneer is having the time of his life, shouting for more bids. He's asking the crowd if they're really okay with going back empty-handed after seeing a weapon like this. I glance at my own bank balance and see I only have 110,000 won. I mutter to myself, rich people really do just throw money around like it's nothing. Suddenly, a voice from the shadows at the back of the room shouts out a bid for 600 million. The whole hall goes silent, and every head turns in total shock. Michael turns his head so fast he might have gotten whiplash. He's staring at the back of the room with a look of pure, unadulterated terror. I can just make out a woman in the shadows commanding Michael to buy my armament no matter the cost. She's looking way too calm for someone who just dropped 600 million won. Wait a minute, it's Arya Myers, the Holy Sword Master. And she's looking at her fingernails, wondering if her bid was too low. Talk about a whale showing up in a shrimp fight. Michael looks totally defeated, muttering that his Nuna is going to kill him for real. He knows he's completely lost control of the auction. The hammer slams down, and the sword is officially sold for 600 million won, a new record for a freshman's work. Even I'm a little surprised. Wow, I let out. That's a lot of zeros on a paycheck, even for me. I check my phone, and the deposit has already cleared. My balance is now over 600 million won. I guess I'm officially the richest freshman at Babel. Later, I head to Dean Ryu Unha's office. She asks if I've checked my account, looking all professional with her coffee, but I can tell she's impressed. I tell her that if I have time, I plan to head to a danger zone to actually test out the sword. Honestly, I'm more interested in the weapon's performance than the money. Yuna thinks that's a waste. Using an item like that just for training is a bit much, she says. I can tell she's already eyeing the gear for herself. The dean suggests I visit Enroll Mountain, which is one of the candidates for the first year's subjugation practice. She thinks it's the perfect place to test my skills. I look at the calendar, a steaming cup of coffee in my hand. My mind is already starting to plan my trip to the mountain. Yuna gets a bit pensive. Considering my position, she notes, I have to be careful about where I send students. Heh, she's a lot more responsible than she lets on. She tells me she'll make me any armament I want as a return gift and suggests we set the schedule for next week. She's got this determined look in her eyes. I just give a devious little grin and agree to it. Her excuse was pretty obvious, but hey, I'll play along. My mind flashes to the lore of this place. Jürgen Kruger, the #1 necromancer, lost a legendary artifact after an attack by a demon god. That's the real mystery behind Enroll Mountain. And the stories say one of those lost artifacts is still hidden somewhere in Yunwol Mountain. Looks like I've officially got a secondary mission for my test trip. So, while I was getting ready for my little field trip, someone else was having a much less fun time. Over in some fancy office, Gotts was standing there just brooding out the window. A woman with brown hair is apologizing to Gotts profusely. She looks totally stressed, like she just failed a major mission for her boss. Gotts tells her that what's done is done, and they need to focus on what to do next. He's trying to stay cool, but you can feel the frustration. The woman remembers that Gotts and I are in the same body control class with Professor Ma Guangsu. She tells him to look for an opening during that time. You can just feel the pressure in that luxury office. The heat is on for Gotts to perform before he loses his chance. The woman warns Gotts that at this rate, he'll be pushed out of the valedictorian spot in no time. She's really trying to light a fire under him. Gotts just stares ahead, looking like he's trying to swallow his pride. He knows she's right. He gives a simple, I understand, as he prepares to head out. The rivalries in this school are getting intense. Gotts stands tall and declares that no matter what method he uses, he'll definitely get that sword from me. He's going full villain mode now. But the woman stops him, asking if it's right to interrupt while his Nuna is speaking. She's clearly the one in charge here, and Gotts immediately apologizes like a scolded puppy. She tells him to bring the sword to her, looking totally relaxed as she leans on her hand. She's the true mastermind behind the Barmut family's schemes. She gives a devious cold smile and tells him to get it by any means necessary. This woman is clearly bad news for me. Back to me. I'm walking through the academy grounds, muttering to myself that she's obnoxious. I can already feel the eyes on me. And yeah, speaking of obnoxious women, back in her office, she's looking pleased. She notes that, strangely, I'm actually getting on her nerves. Perfect. That's exactly where I want to be. I've caught the interest of someone very dangerous. I step back from the anvil and present my work with a simple, "I'm done." The tiny professor, Reese Doba, looks like his soul just left his body in shock. We get a look at the system data for the dual short spears. They're a perfect blend of white light and fire attributes, looking like top-tier legendary loot. Reese Doba is practically vibrating as he inspects the craftsmanship. He notes that the build is excellent, but the real magic is the complex flame wheel formula and auxiliary arrays hidden inside. I'm shown training with the spears, and the narration explains that if the execution is even slightly off, the attribute mana will push back and punish the user. This isn't just a weapon, it's a teacher. The visual shows a trainee being completely overwhelmed by a surge of mana. I've basically created a weapon that forces its wielder to improve or get wrecked. Doba gives a satisfied nod, saying that at this level, these aren't just spears, they're both training gear and textbooks for any aspiring warrior. The professor drops the best news ever. He says to consider it a perfect score, and from now on, I'm exempt from attendance. I just give a polite thank you, totally unfazed by skipping the rest of the semester. The other students are in a state of pure saltiness. One guy is internally crying, wondering why he has to be in the same year as a monster like me, whose luck is clearly garbage. Doba tells me to take my spears and leave, but adds a sneaky, "Let me know if you ever want to sell." I just wave and head out, already done with class. Next stop, Ma Guangsu's martial arts class. I walk through the sun-drenched academy grounds, carrying my new gear like I'm just heading to the grocery store. I slide the door open and spot Jake Myers already inside. The blonde cadet looks surprised, asking if I'm here for this class too. Jake explains that he just wanted to practice a bit, so he came early. He's looking at my weapons with a mix of curiosity and intimidation. Jake offers to leave if I need the room, but I just put up a hand and tell him to wait. I've got a much better idea for our practice. Jake asks if there's something I want to ask, but my answer is a blunt no. It's not okay. The mood in the room just went from friendly to ice cold. Jake is totally confused, asking if I'm even going to hear the terms first. This kid really doesn't know who he's talking to. I correctly guessed that his sister, Arya, told him to come get a weapon from me. I give a cold, "I'm not interested, so give up." I reflect on the Holy Sword Master Arya Myers. I know that with my current skills, anything I make for her now would only be a disappointment and lose her interest. I reach into my bag and pull out a massive, glowing weapon, the Hammer of Black Flame. The heroic grade aura is enough to light up the whole room. The system stats show it's a high-tier hammer forged from Dragonite, coated with fire and dark mana. This is basically a cheat code in physical form. The narration explains that the hammer's faces are specially designed to amplify both elements. I'm looking at it like it's just another tool, while Jake is staring at a literal treasure. I note that there's room for improvement, but admit it's not bad at all. Jake immediately sees his opening and challenges me to a spar, putting the hammer on the line. Jake lays out the stakes, we'll spar again, and if he wins, he gets the hammer. If he loses, I forge a weapon for his sister. This kid is really betting his life on his sister's needs. I give a mysterious look, saying I want to add one more thing to the deal. I'm about to make this very personal for Jake. You get a close-up on my eyes, I'm definitely up to something. I'm playing the long game with the Myers family. The final condition, if I win, Jake's not allowed to bring up his sister for a month, and he has to make sure she hears that too. Talk about a brutal shutdown. The duel begins in the empty training hall. Jake is focused, admitting that last time he let me land a counter he wasn't ready for. Jake clenches his fist as blue mana begins to swirl violently around him. He declares that today, he's going all out from the very start. I watch as Jake compresses a massive amount of mana just by gripping his weapon. I realize he was actually holding back during his fight with Yom Songha. I adjust my own gear, my eyes glowing with intensity. I'm not planning on losing this hammer to a freshman, no matter how talented. The system pings as I activate my buffs. Erika's Bond Engraving Tuning Stone and Ryu Unha's Greed Iron are both being released at once. The Tuning Stone works its magic, adjusting the mana in my body into the most suitable array for combat. I'm literally hacking my own stats. I grip a single spear, looking like a total pro. Jake lunges in, surprised that a blacksmith seems so used to handling a spear. Jake realizes I know how to handle all kinds of weapons because I'm a master smith. It's a huge advantage that he didn't account for. Jake's feet shift as he prepares a heavy strike. He refuses to lose to someone who is just okay with a weapon. The two of us clash, blue and orange sparks flying everywhere. The speed is so high we're basically just blurs in the center of the arena. Jake shouts that this time, he's the one who wins. He's pouring everything into this blue-tinted mana strike. My eyes reflect the incoming attack, but I don't look worried at all. I've already seen the opening. Suddenly, a flicker of orange flame appears on my spear tip. The Mad Dog's fire is starting to manifest. I unleash a move that looks exactly like the flame wheel blossoming spear. Jake is absolutely stunned, letting out a shocked, "Huh?" The spear erupts in a massive wave of fire, the rings of mana swirling around me exactly like Yom Sungha's signature move. Jake is blown back by the force, his eyes wide with confusion. He can't understand how a blacksmith is using a high-level spear technique. I remember learning secret techniques from the hounds in my past life. I note that back then, I was cursed for having no talent and absolute trash technique. But with 30 years of future knowledge, I can at least reproduce a rough version of those legendary moves. Even a rough version is enough to wreck a freshman. A massive shockwave of orange and blue energy rips through the arena. I'm turning the Mad Dog's power against the Holy Swordmaster's brother. Jake is struggling to keep up, noting that ever since I stole the tempo, he's been on the back foot the entire time. He realizes my physical abilities are being carried hard by my skills. Jake thinks he's found a weakness. If he hits the gap when my skills drop, he can turn this around. He's waiting for my mana to run dry. Jake lunges forward, but I react with a quick step. I've already anticipated the move. Jake is in a panic, realizing I'm using Yeom Sungha's stored mana from the prayer beads. He thinks that's basically suicide, terrified of the firepower. Jake goes for his own finisher, his hands glowing with a brilliant blue light. He's using the Myers-style sword technique barehanded. The blue mana takes the shape of a massive blade extending from his hand. He screams, "Azur," as he delivers the strike. I watch the blue blade descend, muttering, "Not bad." I'm still acting like a teacher grading a student in the middle of a death match. I counter with Dark Light Half Moon. A massive explosion of black and white energy consumes the center of the ring. Through the smoke, I emerge, standing tall with my spear still humming with energy. I must look like a total god of war in the dim light. Jake is slumped against the far wall, his arms smoking and his clothes torn. He lets out a defeated breath. I lost. Jake is losing his mind, absolutely terrified because he thinks me using fire element mana is basically a suicide mission at my level. He's completely underestimating my control. Jake screams, "Damn it," as he realizes he's being pushed back. Blue sparks of electricity start crackling around his body as he prepares to go all out. He brings his palms together for a secret family move, the mana glowing so intensely you can practically hear it humming. Things are about to get serious. The system identifies the move, Myers-style sword technique, false blade form. This is high-level martial arts meant to manifest a weapon out of pure energy. A massive, jagged blade of blue energy called Azur erupts from his arm. This isn't just a punch, he's trying to cut me in half with mana. I just stand there with a confident smirk, actually impressed that the kid can use a sword technique barehanded. I think to myself, not bad, like a master grading a student. Under the light of an ominous red moon, I prepare my response. I declare that if a better version of a technique exists, I'm going to be the one using it. Dark, light, half moon. The blue and dark energies collide in a violent explosion of light and sound. The shockwave is so massive, it looks like the entire room is being torn apart. Shards of shattered mana fly through the air like broken glass as the dust begins to settle. That was one hell of a finisher. I emerge from the smoke, wreathed in a cool blue aura and looking completely unfazed. I'm literally the definition of standing on business right now. You get a close-up on the impact point on Jake's uniform, where the dark energy of my attack is still lingering and smoking. He got hit way harder than he expected. Jake is face down on the floor, his hand trembling as the reality of his defeat sinks in. He lets out a final, pained breath. I lost. I stand victoriously over the defeated Myers heir, pointing my training spear at him. The system pings with a new notification. A bond has been formed with him. Another future hero successfully recruited. Jake stands there, totally bewildered, and asks if it isn't a tie. He can't believe the spar ended so abruptly without a clear winner. Jake admits that if you really want to force it, it could be called a tie, but considering he used a near-fatal skill, he feels like it's pretty much his loss. He's looking pretty roughed up and defeated. He mutters to himself, "Damn it, if only I could use a sword." He's clenching his fists, clearly frustrated by his own physical limitations. I look at him with genuine curiosity. I ask if he can't use one. He explains that he's not sure why, but whenever he holds a sword, it easily breaks. Jake continues, mentioning that he's even shattered a sword with hero-grade durability before. He's almost laughing about it, but you can tell it's a huge source of insecurity for him. I have a moment of realization. I think, so that was the case, huh? I tell him to put his right hand forward, looking like I'm about to perform a medical exam. Jake is confused, but obeys. I tell him to relax his hand and keep his mana still, warning him that he'll get hurt otherwise. Suddenly, I grab his hand and a bright, intense light erupts. He's panicking, screaming about what I'm doing. A massive crackle fills the room as I force mana into his hand. It looks like a violent procedure, but I'm perfectly calm. I realize that it's an alteration rather than reinforcement of the material. I've diagnosed the root cause of why he keeps breaking his weapons. Jake is clutching his hand and fuming. He yells, asking, "What are you doing? Explain it first." I just ignore the outburst, focused on my discovery. I look Jake dead in the eye and ask if he wants me to make him a sword. That's the ultimate offer from a blacksmith of my caliber. A system window pops up. Bond, Jake Mers, compression stone. It's an endlessly compressing ore that will break if the density exceeds its durability. I give a satisfied smile, thinking to myself that I've found some very interesting material to work with. Jake is still looking confused in the background. I sense someone approaching. I mutter to myself, turning my head toward the door. A large, imposing silhouette appears in the doorway. A system notification flashes. Bond with target Magwang Su's has been established. The master himself has arrived. We get a close-up on Ma Guangsu's intense eyes. He's looking at me with a mix of suspicion and intrigue. Jake is left standing alone in the training room with a thud. He's totally lost as me and Guangsu face off. Guangsu gets right to the point, asking me what exactly I am. He notes that I'm a skilled spearman, which is unheard of for a technical student. He tells me I'd better answer carefully so he doesn't misunderstand. The atmosphere is heavy with the threat of violence from the S-rank legend. I just stand there looking completely unbothered. I say with a smug little grin, "What you're saying is that my stance is so perfect, it's suspicious." I reach into my bag and pull out a bundle of grayish material. I claim it's nothing special, just a cheap trick applying a skill. I explain that I'm adjusting my muscles to mimic another person's body. A blue aura surrounds me as I demonstrate the skill. I say like this, once the effect ends, it disappears as the aura fades. Guangsu looks completely stunned, uttering a quiet sound of surprise. Guangsu asks if the skill has limits. I admit it takes time to observe and the physical strain on my body is immense. I am playing my humble student act perfectly. Guangsu is muttering to himself about observation and mimicry. He's clearly trying to process this information. The master actually apologizes for suspecting me. He mentions there's a demon with a similar ability, so he overreacted. The demon he's talking about is the doppelganger from Pandemonium. We see a creepy silhouette surrounded by dark, shadowy figures. The narration explains that Ma Guangsu had a particularly deep grudge against this demon. We see him in a dark flashback, looking battered and bruised. Guangsu is clenching his teeth, his face covered in scars and blood. I figure this bond probably formed because of that. I reflect on how he either suspected I was the doppelganger or decided I'd be useful in finding him. Either way, he's determined that I'm worth his time. I look at Guangsu and think, well, what matters is that he determined I was useful, and that it's understandable if it involves a demon. Guangsu lets out a massive, hearty laugh. He bellows, "Why yeah, right?" His mood shifting instantly to boisterous. He shouts that the so-called heroes these days lack awareness about the demons, practically making the room shake. I just stand there with a flat expression. Guangsu tells me that seeing my skill, he'll have to completely overhaul his teaching methods. He promises to explain everything once it's finalized. Guangsu watches me walk away, thinking that with my talent, I could easily aim to be valedictorian if I put my mind to it. He's starting to really value me. The master mutters to himself that I'll be fun to explore as he watches me head down the hallway. I'm walking through the academy when my phone starts vibrating with a buzz. It's a call from Yong Song-ha. I pick up and ask if he has decided what he wants in return, saying, "It's only been a day, what's the rush?" Yong Song-ha sounds pretty stressed on the other end. I think to myself that he must be exhausting to be around, and that he feels uneasy without paying me back. I ask, "By any chance, do you know a Babel mage named Louise Valiant?" My face turning serious. Yom Song-ha has never heard of her and asks if I know them. I just tell him to secretly find out where she is and what she's doing. Yom asks if I even have the connections to pull that off. I just give a confident response, asking if he isn't underestimating me. I quip that I can't blame him, as he's broke and powerless in the Flameflower Gate. Yom is left speechless on the other end. I hang up, thinking this guy's social skills are a mess too, and wonder what Louise is up to now. The legendary Louise Valent, the explosive dog, appears in a dark, fiery vision. Unlike Yom Song-ha, she wasn't well known in the past, which makes her a mystery. My phone goes off again almost immediately with a buzz. The message says, "Found her." I look genuinely shocked. I gasp, asking, "Already?" Yong Song-ha might have a trash personality, but he's undeniably efficient. A file on Louise Valente pops up. Apparently, she was a promising cadet from the elemental department. The file reveals a dark turn. Half a year ago, during a spar, her wand exploded. Her mana circuit was permanently damaged, and she's currently on leave. I look at the screen and mutter a quiet sound of realization. I realize that if I can catch her at the right time, I can secure another powerful ally. The message from Yom ends by saying he'll send the details in a document. I'm already planning my next move. Jake yells, running back into the frame. He's totally forgotten the drama from earlier. He pants, looking desperate, saying he wanted to finish talking about his sword. I just sigh. The phone screen shows Louise Valent's legal battle. She's claiming the wand made by Pierre Barmut exploded, and he's countersuing for defamation. The plot thickens. Jake mentions that the Kruger and Barmut families are in-laws and members of the Noblesse network. He's dropping some high-level lore here. I make an offer. If he investigates them for me, I'll make him a sword. He's stunned, asking if it'll only take a week. Jake starts excitedly, saying, "Really?" Then first, his eyes practically turning into hearts. He's ready to do anything for that weapon. I give a slightly predatory grin. Jake is suddenly feeling a bit nervous about what he just agreed to. I say, as cleanly as possible, my aura flaring up. I'm about to go to war with the Academy's elite families. I leave the Academy building with a devious smirk, having secured Jake's help to investigate the Barmut family. I mutter, as cleanly as possible, already anticipating the outcome. We cut to UR's General Hospital, Ascus. It's a sleek, modern facility where the Academy's elite go to recover from their various magical injuries. The medical staff are all staring and gasping in a hallway. Something intense is happening in one of the patient wards, and the tension is high. Inside a room, a girl with long silver hair is taking deep, ragged breaths. She looks exhausted and in pain, clutching her chest with a frustrated breath. This is Louise Valente, the explosive dog. She's currently undergoing her 59th rehabilitation experiment, and you can see the determination and desperation in her eyes. Louise tries to manifest her mana, and a massive pillar of orange energy erupts from her body. This isn't just a simple test, it's a high-stakes power surge. Suddenly, a violent crackle fills the room as her mana circuit backfires. A shockwave of blue electricity ripples through the air, knocking her off balance. Louise screams in agony as her mana goes into a berserk state. The system identifies a mana backflow phenomenon, which is basically a death sentence for a mage's career. The system immediately orders a mana freeze to prevent further damage. Louise is gasping, her eyes wide with terror as she loses control of her own power. A wide shot shows the specialized training room with researchers watching from behind protective glass. The trauma is visible in every corner of the room. The lead researcher, looking like a total jerk, orders his staff to stop the experiment and administer mana neutralizers immediately. He's clearly more interested in the data than the patient's well-being. Louise staggers, insisting she's okay and just needs a short break to resume the experiment. She's literally killing herself just for a chance to get her powers back. The researcher coldly tells her they're done for today. He adds that they'll limit her rehabilitation experiments to 50 times a day, which sounds like an incredibly high number for someone in her condition. Louise is stunned, muttering a confused "Pardon?" as she realizes she's being relegated to the beginner level of treatment. Her pride is taking as much of a hit as her body. She tries to run after the researcher, shouting that she can do it, but her legs give out with a sharp take. Medical staff rush in to hold her back as she screams for just one more chance. It's a heartbreaking scene of a fallen star refusing to admit her time is over. She yells that she told them she can do it, her face twisted with a mix of rage and despair. The staff are desperately trying to keep her calm. Louise continues her frantic screaming as she's dragged back toward her bed. Her desperation is palpable, even through the hospital's sterile atmosphere. She finally collapses, letting out a weak sound as the neutralizers start to take effect. The fight is gone for now, but the bitterness remains. Back in her room, Louise stares out the window at the bright blue sky. The beep of the medical monitors is the only sound in the silence. A close-up of her face shows her blinking back tears. She looks so much younger and more vulnerable without her explosive dog persona. She mutters a curse, staring at the ceiling. She's berating herself for throwing a fit and blowing her chance at a better rehab schedule. She covers her eyes with her hand, thinking about how she was in such a rush that she acted like an idiot. The regret is clearly eating her alive. She sits up, telling herself that instead of blaming herself, she needs to find a way. If the official rehabilitation doesn't work, she's ready to try anything else. Louise heads out into the hospital garden, muttering that she should go exercise or meditate. She's determined not to just sit in her room and rot. She exclaims in frustration as she rounds a corner and bumps right into someone. She clutches her nose, looking more annoyed than hurt. She glares up at the person she hit, asking, "What are you looking at?" with pure venom in her voice. Her defense mechanism is back on full blast. Suddenly, a siren blares through the garden, an air raid alert. The peaceful scene turns into a war zone in a split second. A massive explosion rocks the hospital. The narration says, once again as a dark figure is shown coughing through a cloud of thick, black smoke. Louise staggers through the debris, coughing and gasping. She thinks that she really almost died, realizing how close that blast was. She spots a shadowy figure walking away from the smoke, muttering about never doing business with those bastards again. This doesn't look like a standard monster attack. A tall, hooded man is shown standing over the hospital's gate. The crackling sound suggests he's the one responsible for the carnage. Louise watches as the man walks away with a casual, confident stride. She realizes he's not just a common criminal. She wonders if this guy is the mastermind behind the terror attack. She estimates his rank to be at least A-class, which is way above her current power level. Louise is shaken, but then someone stands behind her. She lets out a startled grunt as she realizes she's not alone in the garden. "It's me." I'm standing there looking totally unbothered by the air raid. Louise snaps at me, asking, "What are you looking at?" I just give a flat, what, looking totally confused by her immediate hostility. She repeats herself, getting right in my face despite her injuries. She's not backing down an inch. She screams, asking if I am a son of a BTG, and that if I bump into someone, I should apologize. She's projecting all her frustration onto me right now. A blue aura flares up around Louise as she tries to intimidate me. I just stand there, watching her tantrum with a look of pure, I'm not paid enough for this. I ask if she's sick, that she should lie down quietly, and why she is wandering around. I'm being hilariously blunt with the legendary hothead. I offer to help her back to her room if she'll just grab on and walk. Louise gives a stubborn, new need, despite clearly being on the verge of collapsing. She worries that, damn it, if she gets caught, she won't be able to do anything and will be stuck in her room. She knows if a nurse sees her like this, her independent time is over. I ask if she needs anything as we reach her room. I'm being surprisingly persistent with my help. Louise slumps against her bed, looking totally defeated. I just stand there, waiting for an answer. She mutters between coughs that inside the top drawer, I'll find a black case. She's finally giving in to the help. Louise pulls out a small metallic object from the case. I watch her, thinking about how, once she feels better, I'll leave without her even having to tell me to. I say to just hurry up and use it. Louise huffs that we just met today, so stop being so nosy, but she's clearly relieved to have the medicine. Louise uses the inhaler, taking a long, deep breath. A strange, swirling green mana starts to manifest around her as she inhales. My eyes widen in realization. I ask her what she is doing, that I told her to get treated, so why is she harming herself, my voice turning dead serious. I point to the inhaler, telling her she's only making her condition worse. She just stares at me, her eyes reflecting the glowing green energy. Louise starts to say what kind of nonsense, but I cut her off, pointing right at the thing she just used. A visual of the inhaler appears, wreathed in a toxic-looking green gas. I warn her that it's making her throat worse. I detected something in the medicine that the hospital missed. Louise is left speechless, her eyes blown wide with shock. She stammers, asking, "What did you say?" I just diagnosed a medical mystery with one look. Louise stares at me with a look of pure disbelief, her face shadowed with anger. She demands to know what on earth I'm talking about after my wild medical diagnosis. I don't blink, looking her right in the eye with absolute confidence. I simply reply, exactly what I said, refusing to back down from my claim that her medicine is poison. Suddenly, the hospital's intercom blares to life, calling for Cadet Lee Se-hoon to report to the second-floor nursing station immediately. It seems my unauthorized house call is about to be interrupted. I stand up to leave, looking completely unbothered by the announcement. Louise watches me go, her voice trembling as she asks if I'm really the famous Lee Se-hoon. I confirm my identity with a casual nod as I head for the door. I give her one final, chilling warning. If she wants to keep her magic, she needs to stop using that inhaler right now. Louise loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs for me to get the hell out. She hurls insults at me, calling me a lowly blacksmith who has no right to give her advice. I just slide the door shut, leaving the raging silver-haired girl behind. I look totally calm, like I expected this exact reaction from the explosive dog. Inside the dark room, Louise is left alone with her thoughts, clutching her hospital gown and cursing under her breath. She's clearly shaken by my words, even if she won't admit it. I walk down the sterile hallway, and a blue system window pings in front of me. It looks like my meddling worked, because a bond has finally been established with Louise Vallon. I meet with the hospital's lead doctor, who's reviewing my latest charts. The doctor tells me that my own recovery is going perfectly, and there shouldn't be any major issues. The doctor points to my arm in the sling, noting that the bone break was clean and will be fully healed in a week. I ask about my discharge, clearly already planning my next move. I mention I can stay for up to 2 weeks, but the doctor thinks 1 more week of rest is plenty. I'm eager to get back to the forge, but I have more healing to do in this hospital first. A silhouette of Louise appears as I reflect on my goal to bridge the gap between us. I'm determined to alleviate her mana circuit damage, even if she hates me for it. The visual shifts to the inhaler, wreathed in toxic green smoke. I know that before I can fix her, I have to take care of the mana Iridae and the person behind it. I get back to work, asking the doctor if he knows a cadet named Louise Vallon. The doctor adjusts his glasses, confirming that she is indeed one of his high-priority patients. I put on my best concerned student face, telling the doctor I saw Louise clenching her throat and having a seizure. I'm officially snitching to save her life. The doctor looks shocked, and I add that she told me not to tell anyone. I'm playing the accidental witness perfectly to make the doctors take her condition more seriously. The doctor thanks me for the information and dismisses me. As I walk away, I think, perfect, knowing I've just triggered a massive investigation into her treatment. Fast forward to the next morning, and the bright sun is streaming into my hospital room. It's time for the next phase of the investigation to begin. I'm already on the phone, calling Jake Myers to get the results of the background check I requested. I really know how to utilize my connections. Jake picks up the call, looking a bit worse for wear. I get straight to the point, asking for the details on the Barmut family and Louise's past. Jake starts the briefing by asking me if I'd heard of Babel's Ivory Tower. I listen intently, knowing the real secrets are about to be revealed. We get a shot of the Ivory Tower, a massive, glowing spire that independently operates separate from Babel. Its influence over magic cadets is supposedly absolute. Jake explains that the tower selects top scholarship students each year, and last year, a senior named Gotts was the front-runner alongside Louise. I continue the conversation, repeating Louise Valine's name as I try to connect the dots. The mystery behind her accident is starting to unravel. Flashback to the arena where Louise's wand exploded, leaving her defenseless. Because of that accident, Gotts was selected for the prestigious scholarship instead. Jake mentions the inhaler again, questioning its origin. The shady silhouettes of the Barmut family loom in the background, making it clear they're the ones pulling the strings. I ask if there's anything else that felt suspicious about her case. I'm looking out the window, my mind racing through all the possibilities. Jake reports that a Professor Charles from the Elemental Department went out of his way to sponsor Louise after her injury. He's supposedly her greatest ally, which immediately raises red flags for me. I think to myself that while it sounds like a heartwarming story, something feels incredibly off. I thank Jake for the intel and prepare to confront the victim again. We see a shot of Jake being surrounded by angry students in a hallway. Poor guy is getting death glares just for being associated with a controversial valedictorian. I check my messages from Yom Song Ha, who's acting like my personal errand boy. I mutter, "All right, my foot," realizing both my hounds are currently causing me a headache. I head down the hallway, wondering if Erica is also causing trouble back at the academy. I've got my hands full with everyone else's drama while I'm stuck in the hospital. I knock on Louise's door again, my expression neutral but determined. I'm ready to drop the truth on her, whether she's ready to hear it or not. Louise asks who it is from behind the door. I simply announce that I'm the person who helped her yesterday, which definitely isn't the best opening line for her. I push the door open with a sudden movement, walking in before she can even tell me to go away. I really don't care about boundaries. Louise sits up in bed, looking absolutely shocked to see me back so soon. Her expression is already shifting from surprise to pure rage. Louise screams at me as she lunges toward me. Her face is twisted with a level of fury that would make a demon run for cover. Louise is having a complete meltdown, yelling about how I ruined her life. I just stand there with a blank face, asking why she's suddenly cursing at me. Flashback to the doctor lecturing Louise, telling her the intensity of her rehab was too much. He's forced her into 2 weeks of absolute rest, which was my plan all along. Louise is shaking with rage, screaming that all her hard work is going to waste because of my meddling. She looks like she's about to explode, living up to her nickname. She calls me a crazy bastard for snitching to the doctors. I just watch her tantrum, waiting for her to run out of steam. My eyes glow with a dark, intense mana as I deliver a chilling promise. I say, "I'll fix your mana burns for you." Louise scoffs, asking if a blacksmith even knows what mana burns are. She claims it's an incurable disease that even top-tier summit climbers can't do anything about. She glares at me, but I can tell she's curious. She mutters for me to let her hear what kind of nonsense I'm going to say, finally giving me a chance to speak. I walk over to the cabinet and pull it open with a sharp sound. I tell her I have a lot to explain about her cure. I hold up the inhaler, asking her who she got it from. Louise is stunned, muttering that a professor she knows gave it to her as a specialized treatment. I look at the device with pure contempt. I say, I don't know the official name, but I call it a mana eroder. Louise repeats the word eroder with a confused look. I tell her it'll take too long to explain, so I'm going to show her instead. The system pings, skill divine spirit, link magic 6, is this activating? I'm about to perform a high-level magical diagnosis on a freshman. I touch her neck, and blue magical circuits begin to glow through her skin. I explain that her original mana circuit was like 110 volts. Louise's eyes widen in pain and shock as the mana flows through her. She's starting to realize that something is very wrong with her internal structure. I point out that the circuit in her neck has been artificially changed to 220 volts. I'm exposing the sabotage right before her eyes. A diagram shows how the mismatch causes a conflict and eventually an overload. This is the real reason she can't use mana anymore. It's not a disease, it's an overhaul. Louise lets out a pained cry as she clutches her throat. The realization that she's been disabled on purpose is hitting her harder than any physical wound. We get a shot of the inhaler sitting in its case. It was marketed as a wound treatment, but it was actually the tool used to slowly destroy her circuits. Flashback to Louise bowing to Professor Charles, thanking him for the medicine. The betrayal is absolute, and the heartbreak is visible on her face. Professor Charles is shown in a memory, giving her a fatherly smile and telling her to never give up. What a total snake in the grass. The young, hopeful Louise smiles back, promising to keep his advice in mind. She really believed he was the only person who cared about her recovery. Back to reality, I stand over the devastated girl. Louise finally realizes the truth. Her mentor wasn't helping her. He was playing with her life for his own benefit. You get a close-up on Louise's face, and man, that look of pure, unadulterated hatred is terrifying. She grinds her teeth and vows that she swears she'll make him pay. The explosive dog is officially back for blood. Louise has that fire in her eyes again, swearing on her life that she'll pay me back for everything. She's not just talking about the hospital bill. She's ready to bet her future on a crazy blacksmith like me. I can't help but let out a little smirk. That's exactly the kind of desperate determination I was looking for. I keep it real with her though. I'm a blacksmith, not a doctor, I explain. I can't just magically stitch your broken mana circuits back together. But, I tell her, I can adjust the flow so you can use magic again. Louise is no dummy. She knows nobody does this kind of favor for free and asks me straight up, what's your angle? She gives me this cold, calculated stare, demanding to know my price. She looks ready to sign her soul away if it means getting her powers back. I play it cool, telling her it's nothing big. Yeah, right. We all know when a protagonist says that, it's about to be a world-ending request. Then I drop the catch. I need her help exploring the 6 great mana sites someday. Already planning my endgame raids while I'm still a freshman. Those places are nightmare fuel. A flooded, ruined city that's a total death trap. This is the kind of hell I'm asking her to walk into with me. Back in the hospital room, the choice is hers. I put it bluntly, you can either trust me and rewrite your future, or just sit there and let your career rot. Louise takes a moment to herself, just staring into the void. I can see it on her face. The idea of giving up leaves a bitter taste in her mouth. She makes her move, reaching out a hand with a look of pure resolve. She's officially in. But she warns me, don't you go back on your word later. We lock hands, sealing the deal. She still calls me a punk just to keep her pride intact. And just like that, the alliance of the future heroes is officially born in a hospital room. Alright, time to start training. I pull out a bag of cherries. This is today's training tool, I tell her. Honestly, I can't blame her for being confused. Louise is looking at that bag like it's a prank. She's probably wondering if this is actually high-level training or if I'm just messing with her. I get down to business. Which part of your circuits hurts when you use mana? Louise gives the obvious answer. Refined mana is the absolute worst. So here's a quick magic lesson for you guys. Mana just flowing through the body isn't a problem, but casting spells requires a circulation that her broken circuits just can't handle anymore. My solution is as weird as the cherries. You just need to refine the mana directly on your tongue. It's like skip leveling the entire nervous system. I explain that there are barely any mana circuits at the ends of the body, so focusing it there bypasses the damaged areas. She's looking at me like I've grown a second head. She's definitely skeptical about this shortcut, but I insist. You're the only one who can actually pull this off. A flash of the future, an image of the legendary Louise, the explosive dog, wreathed in shadows and power. This is the beast I'm trying to wake up. I remember her from my original life. She earned the title of Mad Dog using this exact unconventional method. It's a total cheat code for people with ruined mana paths. Back in the present, Louise clears her throat. She's decided to give my crazy plan a shot. She's got nothing left to lose. She starts by eating the cherries, while I explain that she needs to start by strengthening the mana circuits in her mouth. Talk about an unconventional diet for a mage. I point to my own mouth. This is the basic form you need to master. I bet I'm enjoying being a teacher a little too much right now. Louise just looks completely blank. She's probably wondering how her life led her to eating cherries as part of a high-stakes training regimen. I tell her there are better ways to move mana inside the mouth, but since she's a beginner, she just needs to focus on her teeth for now. Calling an elite mage a beginner never gets old. What follows is a montage of absolute madness. I've got her screaming and shouting, trying to force her mana through her mouth. Day 1 looks brutal. She's huffing and puffing while she trains to shout with every bit of mana and emotion she has left. I'm just watching her like a proud coach. Then we move to tongue twisters. She has to pronounce complex phrases instantly, which is honestly a nightmare even without mana involved. The final stage of her training involves biting a stick while she speaks, which tangles her mouth up even more. She looks absolutely furious at how ridiculous this is. After a week of this torture, she looks like a woman possessed. She's finally found the rhythm she needs. Honestly, I'm impressed she pulled it off in just 7 days. I give her a little told-you-so attitude while she just looks done with me. Suddenly, her face goes into full wait-a-minute mode. It looks like she finally realized something about all this weird training. Louise collapses onto her bed, realizing that after all that magic training, the only things that improved were her enunciation and pronunciation. She thinks I pranked her. She snaps, "What the hell does any of that have to do with actual mana?" She's about 2 seconds away from kicking me out of the room. I just sit there calmly, ignoring her tantrum, and ask if she's ready for the next part of the lesson. I'm way too used to her explosive personality by now. I mention something called word knot, and the atmosphere in the room instantly shifts from comedy to serious magic theory. Louise is totally blindsided. Word magic. She's finally starting to see the method behind my madness. I break it down like a pro. Word magic only needs a tiny bit of mana for the core, and a massive amount of will to manifest it. I tell her to focus on imagery. The clearer she can envision the spell and the core, the more powerful it becomes. Time for a demonstration. A perfect blue spheres of mana appears in the air. This is the level of control she needs to aim for if she wants her life back. Start with a shape that's easy for you to cast, I tell her. I'm making it look easy, but for someone with broken circuits, this is a massive challenge. The lesson goes deep into transformation and attribute imbue. This is some advanced sorcery logic that completely ignores the standard laws of the world. I step it up. Now, increase penetration and speed. I cast acceleration. The sheer firepower on display is insane for a simple demonstration. I unleash a massive blast of energy that sends Louise flying. This guy, me, really doesn't know how to hold back when he's showing off. The blast shoots right through the hospital wall, creating a new star explosion in the middle of the city. I think I just accidentally committed a major crime for a lesson. I look at the shattered window and realize I got a bit too focused. Yup, I'm definitely gonna have a lot of explaining to do to the hospital admin later. I immediately start waving my hands and apologizing. I'll pay for the window, I promise. My bank account is about to take another massive hit. Louise is just staring at her hand in total disbelief. Are you mad? She asks, because what I just did is beyond any logic she's ever been taught. She looks down at the new star of mana in her own poem. It's small, but it's real. Her magic is finally starting to return. And she does it. She creates her own blue mana orb on the first try. Even I'm taken aback by how fast this genius is catching up. I just stare blankly. I might have created a monster. Mastering a technique like that after seeing it just once is completely unheard of. She tries a Rebuild, already complaining that she wants it to be bigger. Her ambition is back, and it's absolutely terrifying. She unleashes a massive surge of mana that fills the entire room, blowing me back. The explosive dog is officially off the leash and ready for war. I just watch her with a satisfied smile, despite the chaos. This is the power that ignores the laws of the world, and I'm the one who gave it back to her. And there she is, looking absolutely stunned, clutching her throat as she feels her mana flowing again. This is the moment everything finally changes for her.